Right off the bat, we see the spirit of healing, a legendary being who supposedly knows their way around miracles. They say this spirit is gorgeous and powerful, treated like a goddess by humans, and the scene shows a cave totally loaded with gold and treasures. With all that fame, a certain creature figures the spirit must be able to cure his catless too. So, a white dragon starts a ritual in front of a magic circle, calling out for the spirit of healing, who is said to fix any disease in creation. The dragon keeps the show going, introducing himself as the Grand Master of Time and commanding the spirit to appear. He promises that if the spirit lends him its power, he'll pay a worthy price, all while energy wraps around his body. With the summoning circle glowing bright, the dragon shouts now. To everyone's surprise, right in the middle of the circle, a young guy appears lying in bed looking totally clueless. The white dragon stands there, just staring at the scene with a look like he ordered a Ferrari and got a beat up VBU bug. The MC in the bed is also totally lost. His expression is like someone who just got ripped out of the best dream of their life. The dragon looks at the human and ironically wonders if this is that overwhelming beauty, thinking human taste is pretty sketchy. Putting the looks aside, the dragon gets closer and says what matters is skill, asking the spirit of healing to lend him its power. The young man, still lying down and staring at the cave ceiling, thinks he finally kicked the bucket. Kim Ojin appears, a 32-year-old vet who studied like crazy. We see him sleeping in class while the professor yells asking if he wants to be a farmer. After getting his license, he worked for 3 years earning peanuts. We see a client trying to abandon an animal, but Kim warns them this isn't a shelter until he finally opened his own clinic. We see the front of the clinic, and someone points out the sign lights burned out again, but discouraged, he says just leave it in the dark. The reason for the bummer mood is the lack of customers back in bed. Kim is spiraling with thoughts full of curse words, questioning if this life is even worth it. Just when the debts were getting tight and he was thinking about quitting, a weird noise grabs his attention. Annoyed, he thinks it's his guitarist neighbor and gets ready to throw down. Back in the cave, Kim realizes it wasn't the neighbor. He looks at the dragon and the gold and realizes he's been taken to another world. Sitting up in bed, he wonders if he had a heart attack in his sleep. He even thinks that wouldn't be a bad way to check out and questions if this bizarre place is hell. Kim confirms this is hell, a freezing cave, a giant talking lizard, cursed gold, and him, who got game ended without paying his bills. With a trembling voice, the vet asks the dragon what's the deal now. The big guy answers that he just needs to treat his pet. Kim thinks he can't even escape being a vet in the afterlife, which confirms his hell theory. He imagines the pet must be Cerberus, that 3-headed dog. The dragon orders him to heal the lovely child, stumping the ground with force. From the dragon's paws, the patient appears, a purple being named Catless. A window says it's a fruit bat, age unknown, and introverted. The creature lets out a weak sound, looking pretty bad. Kim looks at the thing and wonders if that's really a bat. All proud, the dragon asks what he thinks of the cuteness. Kim thinks it's weird but doesn't say anything. Analyzing little Catless, the vet notices the creature is skinny and has no energy. Immediately, Kim's vet mode activates and he starts protocol, asking for the name, how long he's had it, and when the symptoms started. The dragon explains the name is Catless, that he's had him for a week, and adopted him because raising bats became trendy. The scene shows a flashback of a dragon meetup. At this meeting, the other dragons are flexing their pets. One says his uses the bathroom properly. Another says his is the cutest thing in the world. The white dragon, wanting to jump on the bandwagon, saw Catless in a dungeon and, thinking he was cute, decided to capture the creature right then and there. Back in the present, we see Kim on the cave floor, holding the sick bat while the dragon looks on with expectation. Kim's irritation is visible. He thinks this is the type of owner he hates the most, confirming he's in hell, since the story explains he detests irresponsible people. The dragon comments that the little guy is thin and asks if he eats well. Kim holds back from losing it, and the big guy admits the bat is barely eating anything. With a noble air, the dragon says he captures fresh animals every day to give it blood, but the creature won't touch it, concluding he has a refined palate. Hearing this nonsense, Kim is so shocked he just slams his head on the cave floor, unable to believe the stupidity. He gets up looking traumatized, thinking he's gonna have a stroke. The dragon doesn't understand a thing, but the story reveals Kim hates owners who don't study their own animals. Worried, the dragon asks if it's serious and suggests getting better blood. Kim stares at him thinking, there's no way this guy is such a dimwit. Kim loses his patience and shouts that Catless is a fruit bat and doesn't drink blood. The dragon insists the others do, but Kim, pissed off, yells that they are different species. Lecturing him, Kim shouts that he only eats fruit and questions how the big guy gave him something indigestible for a week. The dragon tries to use the excuse that it's his first time, but gets a reality check about responsibility. The vet keeps scolding him, talking about the cold in the cave that could make the creature hibernate wrong. The dragon says he's an ice dragon, but Kim tells him not to raise an animal if he doesn't have the right environment. Impressed by the scolding, the dragon thinks this is worthy of the spirit of healing. Meanwhile, Kim keeps grumbling about treating animals like accessories and the lizard's arrogance right in front of him. Out of arguments, the dragon admits he's wrong and reflects on the mess he made, especially since he claims to love nature. Seeing Catless doing poorly on the floor, the dragon understands that, even if it's small, it's a life. He acknowledges the vet was right and that he should have been responsible. The dragon then approaches Kim, who has his back turned, looking calmer after venting. With all the care in the world, the dragon picks up the bat in his giant paw and looks at him full of regret. Looking at Catless, the dragon apologizes, admitting he made the little guy suffer out of pure selfishness and misguided desires. He promises to prepare fresh fruit right now and return the creature to its habitat later. Little Catless lets out a weak moan in response. With a sincere look, the dragon says the bat's happiness is worth more than his greed and thanks little Catless. Atlas. Watching the scene, Kim's jaw drops and he thinks that, in the end, this hell is actually more reasonable than it seemed. Spreading his wings in respect, the dragon thanks the spirit of healing for the reality check. He says he'll pay for the service and asks what the vet wants. Without thinking twice, Kim, with dollar signs in his eyes, blurts out that he wants to be born as a Saudi oil prince in his next life, but immediately thinks about the nonsense he just said. He keeps going, asking to reincarnate as the filthy rich hair of a villain. The dragon looks totally lost, thinking this is some spiritual dialect he doesn't understand. Kim changes his mind and says, then how about this, while the dragon stays confused about what this spirit talk the human is spewing is. Deciding on his own, the dragon offers a magical artifact, saying it has divine power to create whatever the vet wants. The object is a necklace with a blue stone. The dragon warns that if he has bad intentions, it won't work, but doubts that's a problem for someone like him. Holding the necklace that is now glowing in his hands, Kim hears the dragon's voice thanking the spirit of healing for today. While Kim's body starts to fade, the dragon says goodbye, wishing for him to return safely. As he dematerializes, the vet stares into nothingness, processing everything, and wonders if that was really life after death. At the last second, it hits Kim. He thinks maybe he didn't actually kick the bucket for real. Desperate, he reaches out his hand and screams for the dragon to wait. He tries to say that if he's coming back to life, he has a special request. As his body turns into light, the vet screams his most important wish, for the dragon to send him back to the time when Bitcoin was cheap. Totally ignoring the capitalist plea, the dragon turns to the bat and, smiling, asks if they should go get some fruit. A bright light shines, and a street appears, showing Kim's transfer is complete. The vet reappears on his knees in a magic circle that vanishes, still holding the necklace he got. Punching the ground, he screams that he missed the unique chance of his life. Pulling his hair, he keeps up the drama, saying he should have asked for expensive land or for stocks to go back up. He complains he should have reasoned faster. In the end, the payment for the summoning was just a simple necklace. Looking at the object in his hand, he wonders what the hell he's gonna do with this so-called divine dragon power. Suddenly, he concludes he fell for a scam, but he gets interrupted by someone yelling to get out of the way. A huge hulking guy carrying barrels arrives, annoyed, complaining about who's blocking the whole alley. With zero manners, the brute pushes Kim to the side, yelling at him to move it. The vet falls to the ground, confused as hell, not understanding anything that's going on. Still dizzy, he hears a vendor shouting a promotion for £5 each. Kim is on a crowded market street with old architecture and people dressed like they're at a Renaissance fair. Out of nowhere, a blonde guy bumps into him and complains. Rubbing his shoulder, Kim feels the pain was real and starts to wonder if he reincarnated or possessed someone's body. But then comes the memory of the dragon saying he'd send him home, while a panoramic view of a big city appears. A friendly fruit vendor catches his attention, complimenting the MC's looks and inviting him to buy fruits sweet as honey. Still confused, Kim asks where they are. She finds it weird and, seeing his clothes, thinks he must be a lost traveler. The vendor explains, showing a map, that they are in Belmore, in the lands of Baron Doyle. She says there isn't much tourism, but the inns are good. When the lady asks where he came from, Kim gives an awkward smile thinking about the damn dragon and replies he's from a place very far away. The vendor pats him on the shoulder and concludes he must have come from somewhere way out in the sticks. Suddenly, a commotion starts and a fruit stand hits the ground, scattering apples all over the stone street. A box of carrots also flies through the air and gets swallowed in one go by a giant mouth. The cause of the chaos is a giant and fluffy female rabbit named Elizabeth. The window says she is 16 months old and eats like a bottomless pit when she's stressed. The giant rabbit chews the carrots, making cute noises, totally not caring about the mess she's causing. Right after, Elizabeth lets out a bizarre scream and takes off, running out of control, making everyone flee in terror. Kim asks if monsters stroll around there normally. The woman answers it's not a monster, but Lord Belmore's rabbit, and tells him to run immediately. Shocked, the vet questions how the hell that can be a rabbit. The woman runs off, crying over lost sales. In the middle of the uproar, a small child starts crying desperately, attracting unwanted attention. The giant rabbit turns around and stops in front of the little girl crying on the ground, screaming for her mom. Without hesitating, the creature opens its huge mouth, ready to swallow the girl in one gulp. Horrified by the scene, Kim asks himself once again how on earth they call that a rabbit. On impulse, the vet runs toward the danger, without even thinking about the consequences. While he runs, he thinks he's never heard of anyone who met their maker because of a rabbit, but the scene was saying otherwise. Kim throws himself on the ground and pushes the little girl away, getting her out of the rabbit's aim. He rolls across the stone ground, using his own body to shield the child from the impact. Getting up with the girl in his arms, he asks if she's okay, while trying to understand what kind of madness this is. Right then, while he's still hugging the girl on the ground, Kim starts thinking that at least he managed to save someone, but his train of thought gets derailed by a massive shadow covering everything. In total panic, realizing he didn't save squat and that they're both about to bite the dust, he questions why the heck he got himself into this mess. Looking totally furious and full of regret, he flips the script again, telling himself this isn't his fault, but actually on that irresponsible owner. While he's getting salty about the situation, the necklace the dragon gave him starts glowing super bright, letting out a blue light. Kim yells that if the owner was gonna bring a giant beast to a public spot, he should have put a leash on it, and instantly, a beam of blue light shoots out of the necklace. The light hits the giant bunny dead on, making her stop the attack and let out a confused noise. flames. The energy from the necklace transforms into a glowing collar right around the bunny's neck. Kim just stands there holding the necklace that's still beaming out the leash, looking just as shook as the giant animal itself. The bunny looks at the vet and the little girl, totally confused by that energy collar holding her down. The crowd watching from a distance is jaw-dropped. Someone asks if that was magic and if he's a wizard, while another comments that he took down the huge rabbit with a single hit. A little girl asks her big sister if that guy is a wizard, and she replies yes, admitting she thought he was just some random traveler. Holding the light leash, Kim realizes what's up. He definitely doesn't look like a regular tourist now and wonders what he just did in the heat of the moment. Suddenly, the bunny's owner, a short and chubby guy, shows up with his servants, screaming for his Elizabeth and asking where she's hiding. With a harsh look, the noble chews out his 3 servants, questioning how they couldn't catch a single rabbit, and warns he's gonna dock everyone's pay. With a goofy, love-struck face, the man calls out to his Ely to go for another walk with Daddy. He then notices the glowing collar on the bunny and starts screaming, asking who the heck tied up his Elizabeth. The noble turns around and sees Kim holding the other end of the light leash, staring him down with a not-so-friendly look. The short guy points his finger at the vet and yells, asking what the heck he thinks he's doing to his baby. Kim apologizes, but explains that someone almost kicked the bucket right there. The noble refuses to believe it, screaming that his baby would never do such a thing and orders him to get that disgusting thing off her right now. With a vein popping on his forehead, Kim claps back asking that if he's so sure, why doesn't he stick his head in her mouth to see what happens? Kim doesn't let up and asks if the noble knows a rabbit's bite force. He explains that the beast would crush his skull like mashed potatoes. In the crowd, the little boy begs him to roast the noble even harder. With a serious look, Kim continues his analysis, totally ignoring the owner's tantrum. He checks out the giant bunny's body and notices a bald patch, which points to a health issue. Covering his face with his hand, Kim tries to hold it together, reminding himself that he's a polite adult and can't just throttle the guy. He continues his explanation, saying that judging by the ear shape, it looks like a lop rabbit, and mentions that domestic rabbits don't go out for walks. Kim explains that rabbits are territorial and get super stressed in unknown places. He asks if she's shown signs of aggression, and the noble admits that lately she's been pulling out her own fur. The vet confirms that this is common when they're stressed out, and says that if it keeps up, she could get really sick or have her life cut short. The owner gets desperate at the news and screams that his Elizabeth might check out early. Kim replies that if he doesn't like that idea, he should start by stopping these crazy walks. The noble, now worried, asks how she's gonna get exercise, but the vet says doing it at home is plenty. He then wonders how she got so huge like that. Looking at the confused bunny, Kim says he gets that the guy loves Elizabeth, but stresses that rabbits are way too sensitive. He wraps up the lecture saying that spoiling them doesn't do any good. What matters is raising them the right way. The noble is speechless for a moment and says the vet must really love rabbits. The owner says folks always look down on him, saying only noble ladies raise rabbits, and comments that he never thought he'd find such a good rabbit expert. With his eyes sparkling with admiration, the noble asks if Kim works in this field, and he answers yeah, more or less. Excited, the noble snaps his fingers and calls the butler, ordering him to bring over everything they brought. The butler steps up and offers Kim a small cloth bag, saying it isn't much, but to please accept it. The noble also asks him to check up on Elizabeth's health every now and then. The owner turns to the bunny, apologizing for not knowing he was making things hard for her. He invites her to head home, eat some hay, and get some rest. Holding the bag of coins, Kim thinks that isn't exactly a place he's going to be visiting often. Hidden behind a door, 4 locals, including a nosy cat, are peeking at the scene. As soon as the noble leaves, the crowd swarms Kim, throwing confetti and congratulating him. A man shouts that he's a smooth talker, and another thanks him for finally sending that lord away, since they were constantly suffering because of the rabbit. The fruit seller walks up and thanks him, saying now they can finally do business in peace. She asks if he likes apples and offers a discount, but Kim explains he just arrived and is flat broke. The seller laughs and asks what he's worried about, since the lord just loaded him up with cash. She comments that the guy might be a pain in the neck, but one thing he's got is money. Kim opens the bag and picks out one of the coins, which shines in his hand. It was pure gold. To everyone's surprise, he puts the coin in his mouth and bites it, testing if it's real gold or just a scam. The seller watches him with a confused look and says that thing is called a gold coin. The 147 gold is valuable in every world. Kim thinks he just needs to find a way to take all of that back to his world. Suddenly, an idea pops into his head. He asks the seller how much a building costs around there. Kim thinks that maybe Bitcoin isn't the issue here. Excited, he decides he's gonna open the second branch of the clinic right there, the Kim Ojin Animal Clinic Otherworld branch. He plans to use the cash to pay off the debts from the first branch. In a dark room lit only by candles, creating that horror movie vibe, a man thanks the crew for coming and says that, apparently, everyone who was supposed to be there has arrived. We see 2 anxious young guys, probably candidates for something important or just scared out of their minds. A purple-haired man and a hooded woman watch the others with malicious looks. He says he hopes one of them is the chosen one. A man sitting at a table, with his face hidden in the shadows, asks if they can get this party started. That is the game of life and death, also known as the job interview for the Kim Ojin Animal Clinic. The opening of Kim's second branch went way better than expected. The Lord is being super supportive, asking if he's gonna stick around and what he needs, whether it's a house, money, or land. The noble simply points to a giant building and says it's his, leaving Kim totally shocked. Now dressed in noble clothes, Kim looks at the new establishment and reflects that, as expected, the most important thing in life is having good connections. The Lord didn't just give him the shop, but also filled the place with everything he needed. We see the bunny Elizabeth getting spoiled with a portrait of herself while destroying a carrot. The shop is packed with rabbit supplies, and Kim, while cleaning up, thinks that despite that, who cares, since it was all free anyway. With the shop ready, he thinks all that's left is to make the business boom. He reflects on the next steps to dominate the market. He realizes he doesn't have enough info about this place, especially about the dragon he needs to find to get back home. He remembers the dragon said he'd send him home, but instead dumped him there in the middle of nowhere. He figures he needs someone to ask about the area and decides to hire an employee. He writes a job ad looking for someone with medical knowledge, physical strength, and good customer service skills. And so, the interviews for the Kim Aljan Animal Hospital began. Sitting at the table, he asks the candidates, starting from the right, to introduce themselves. The first candidate, a young guy named Thomas, stands up and starts telling his whole life story, saying he's the second son of 3 boys and 2 girls, born to a strict father and a gentle mother. While the guy goes on about training a just character and a strong physique, Kim thinks these kids have zero personality. The second candidate, Philip, introduces himself saying his family has been in the animal business for generations. Intrigued, Kim asks what kind of work they do. Philip, with a creepy smile, reveals it's a butcher shop, bragging about handling many animals since he was young and that few people there can handle a knife like him. Wasting no time, Kim grabs his pen and, on candidate number 2's file, writes just one note to call the cops. Kim thinks to himself that he needs to be super careful when hiring people and notes that there are plenty of weirdos in this world too. He then calls on candidate number 3 to introduce himself. Candidate number 3 is the purple-haired man who flashes a smile that makes Kim think he looks like he's definitely offed someone before. Trying to be professional, Kim corrects himself, remembering he shouldn't judge a book by its cover. He smiles at the candidate and asks what made him apply for the job. The purple-haired man throws himself in front of him and, with a totally crazy look, reveals that Kim is the famous wizard he was desperately looking for and begs the vet to use him as a doormat. And Kim decides that from now on, he is definitely gonna judge people by their appearance. The purple-haired man starts getting close to Kim, and he asks why he's invading his personal space. The hooded woman, who is sitting quietly, just watches the mess. With her face covered, the hooded woman shouts for the man not to get any closer. She then turns to Kim and asks when it's gonna be her turn. The purple-haired man grabs Kim's leg, while the vet freaks out, questioning if this is really the time for this little show. Terrified, Kim looks at the woman and asks if she should just clean up the situation, and the answer is a big fat yes. The hooded woman stands up and, with a single powerful punch, sends the purple-haired man flying. The weirdo candidate hits the ground, completely knocked out and out of commission. With the dust settling, the woman turns to Kim and formally introduces herself as Selena. With the candidate passed out on the floor and the chair tipped over, Selena continues her intro, saying she specializes in stray animals and also knows the basics of treatment. She sums up her qualifications, saying that, basically, she's experienced. Kim, impressed, holds up a sign with a perfect score and announces that she is totally hired. They shake hands to seal the deal, and just like that, a technician was hired at the Kim Aljan Animal Clinic. The scene shows the city, indicating that life at the clinic is about to start for real. Sitting in the cozy new clinic, Kim soaks up the sunlight coming through the window, feeling like a total boss. But the peace doesn't last long, because the technician he just hired ghosted him and didn't show up for work, leaving him hanging. The clock reads 12:50, and he lets out a few curse words. With his hands crossed on the table, he admits he hired her way too fast and starts thinking about where he should post a new job ad. Suddenly, knocking at the door interrupts his thoughts. He turns around and thinks the ex-technician finally decided to show her face. Kim opens the door with a forced smile and asks if the visitor had a nice lunch. The newcomer replies that he hasn't eaten yet and wonders if he should have grabbed a bite beforehand. Kim asks who the guy standing out there is. The vet invites him to come in and have a seat. He asks if the man prefers water or tea, and he picks tea right away. Kim says he'll whip it up in a jiffy. While serving the tea, Kim celebrates on the inside, happy to finally have his first client at the second branch. He sees this as the first step to paying off his debts. He thinks that, this time, he's gonna succeed, because he analyzed all the reasons why the first branch failed. A flashback takes us back to the days of the first branch, where Kim tells a client that the dog's paw wound has been treated, but that he needs to brush the animal's teeth because of the tartar. The client complains, saying that brushing the dog's teeth sounds like too much work. Kim then snaps, suggesting the owner should stop eating and breathing too, since that's so much work, and maybe even kick the bucket to save the effort. The terrified client agrees to brush the dog's teeth right away. We see Kim's phone with terrible reviews for the clinic, calling him insane. He wonders why things went so wrong back then. Back in the present, the MC remembers he used to have a bad rep, but now he promises to be a sweetheart just to fleece people out of their cash. So, he asks the bard where the critter he brought is. The bard points to his shirt pocket, and out pops a little red thing named Pawjack. He even asks with total innocence if the lizard isn't just the cutest thing ever. Kim thinks that after seeing a giant rabbit, he figured every animal in this world would be weird, but at least this lizard looks normal. With a smile faker than a $3 bill, he asks if the thing chewed through its cage to end up in a pocket, assuming there was no other place for it, and tells the bard to hang tight because help has arrived. The bard keeps it real and says it's obviously in the pocket because it's way cuter that way, showing off Pawjack with pure pride. The MC's patience goes out the window, and he slams his hand on the table so hard the furniture breaks instantly. With his eye twitching in rage and an evil aura flaring up, he tells the bard to cut it out and look at him. When the client asks about the table, the MC says it only broke a tiny bit. Hand on his forehead and sweating bullets, Kim takes a deep breath, congratulating congratulating himself for not totally losing it. Calmer now, he asks why the bard brought Pojak and if he's sick. The bard explains he isn't sick, just weak and feels very cold. The MC, looking exhausted, thinks that is literally the nature of any lizard. The bard keeps up the drama, saying the tail fell off when he pulled it. Kim, completely fed up, warns that this is also normal and that he shouldn't be pulling the animal's tail. The client ignores the biology lesson and asks him to make the critter healthy. The MC remembers the dragon ordering him to fix the animal and realizes the defect isn't in the pet, but in the clueless owner. Even so, since he wouldn't trust the owner to take care of a pet rock, he decides to do the exam and asks for the animal. Upon touching little Pojak, Kim feels something strange and lets out a surprised whoa. He looks closer, thinking the texture of the animal's skin is kind of sus. He warns the bard that Pojak is suffering from dissectitis, which is when shedding goes wrong. The client, totally clueless, asks what this shedding thing is. The bard warns him to be careful because Pojak is feisty and came from the streets. Just then, the lizard starts trembling in the MC's hand, and he excuses himself to the critter. Suddenly, the animal starts to glow and heat up so much it looks like it turned into a live coal. Kim freezes on the spot, only managing to let out a confused grunt before disaster strikes. A little fireball forms in Pojak's mouth, and he is all set to spit flames. Before turning into barbecue, the MC gets shoved aside with full force. Selena, the new employee, appears out of nowhere to save the day and tanks the fireball in his place. She comments that he almost took a salamander blast to the face and that she almost ended up bossless on her first day. Kim, lying on the floor, gets up and hits the broken wall, still a bit dizzy from the impact. With his face covered in soot and blood dripping down, he thinks that maybe taking the fireball would have been less painful. The first patient was a salamander. Kim says you can't touch it without protection, and the file reveals that the species breathes fire when it's ticked off. While Selena asks if they have fireproof gear, the bard praises the creature's beauty. The MC, still recovering, asks where he got this ticking time bomb. The bard says he found it on the mountain out back. It was love at first sight, and he decided to take it home. Simple as that. He turns to Selena and asks if she's jealous, but the girl replies straight up that no, not even a little bit. She questions if it isn't a crime to take salamanders, since they are too wild to keep at home, leaving the bard speechless. Selena continues the lecture, saying their population is low because of hunting. The bard goes pale and stammers, asking if he can't keep the pet, and Selena says no, because it's illegal, and tells him not to sweat it. She suggests saying they only have the animal for temporary treatment, so the authorities will let it slide, as long as he releases the critter back into the wild afterward. The bard gets indignant at the idea of saying goodbye to Pojak and screams that this is unacceptable. The crazy guy runs for the door, screaming for everyone to leave their love alone. Kim and Selena watch the bard flee, and the vet wonders what that guy's deal is, assuming he went home. The MC realizes he hasn't even started the treatment and wonders where the idiot is going. Then he turns to Selena and asks why she's just standing there. With a scary expression, he points to the door and orders her to go after the guy right now. Selena shrinks back but agrees to go. We wonder if Kim Oh-jin will manage to do the first exam without anyone kicking the bucket. We see a busy street with people working and children playing. The fruit lady, now chill, thinks life has improved a lot since the Lord's rabbit disappeared from there. She sings happily, thinking that as long as the rabbit is busy with the Lord, her stall is safe from being destroyed. The piece ends when she sees the bard, Selena, and Kim running in her direction. The trio flies past her with the terrified bard in front, followed closely by Selena and the MC. Selena passes the bard like a rocket, showing that speed is her thing. Meanwhile, Kim is dying for breath and asks them to stop, but nobody pays him any mind. The fruit seller throws herself behind the stall, hiding from the whole mess. With a nervous smile, she tells herself she doesn't know what's going on, but she prefers not to get involved in this scary situation. While running, the bard cries and wonders why they are chasing him, convinced everyone wants to steal Pojak. With tears in his eyes, he tells the lizard not to worry, that this is a test of fate, and swears nothing will separate them. Kim, running after him, screams desperately that it's nothing like that. The critter needs to shed its skin, and tells him to stop already. The chase continues through the city, passing by a giant clock tower in the center. Out of air, the MC leans against a wall, complaining that the crazy guy runs too fast. Selena, beside him, says he needs to do some cardio. She then asks Kim about the salamander, if it really can't shed its skin on its own. Still panting, Kim confirms and explains that there are already 2 or 3 layers of old skin accumulated, and it needs to come off urgently. Selena gets serious and says then they need to run, leaving the MC confused. She explains that if the salamander doesn't shed, the fire builds up inside it. We see Pojak in the bard's pocket letting out smoke, and when this fire reaches the limit, it generates an insane rage, while we see the bard running with a panicked look. Kim warns that a salamander's rage is dangerous and can turn the entire block to ashes, not just the owner. With a serious face, the MC says the salamander must be nearby and they need to find it fast. The bard arrives home and locks the door, thinking he lost everyone. He puts Pojak on the table and celebrates, saying everything is fine now and no one will separate the duo. Excited, he decides to compose a song to celebrate the moment and starts hunting for paper. He says inspiration has struck and a masterpiece is coming. On the table, Pojak starts glowing and heating up dangerously. The bard grabs his lute and starts singing a song about the power of love. While he sings, Pojak is turning into a furnace, and the room starts to fill with an ominous red light. He turns to the critter and asks what it thought of the song, not noticing he is about to become barbecue. Suddenly, an explosion of fire throws the bard across the room. Fallen and dizzy, he groans in pain, not understanding anything that just happened. He gets up and sees the whole house on fire, asking what kind of madness is this. Seeing Pojak in the middle of the flames, he asks what happened and if he was the one who made this mess. The bard gets close to the fire, asking why Pojak is angry. He doesn't understand how a fire that size started out of nowhere. A hand grabs him and pulls him back, warning that it's dangerous and they need to get out of there. The salamander, now giant and on fire, seems to have turned into a demon in animal form and is furious. Selena, who saved the bard, gets ready for the fight, saying let's do this. She charges at the fire salamander, ready to lay the smackdown. The bard watches everything with his jaw dropped, not believing what he is seeing. He tries to convince himself that Pojak would never attack him, but the salamander spits another fireball right at his face. The explosion knocks him back, while Kim watches the scene holding the burning salamander in his hand, showing he captured the beast. The MC asks Selena if this rage means the thing attacks people too. Selena confirms, saying the creature lost its mind. She warns that if left like this, it will release an even worse fire, so they need to calm the beast down. The bard panics and asks how they are going to calm that thing, while the salamander in Kim's hand thrashes around nervously. Kim thinks that at least he has a plan up his sleeve. The dragon necklace starts to glow again, activating its power. He says they needed a fire extinguisher, and the necklace materializes a magic gizmo that looks exactly like an extinguisher. Looking like he just discovered the wheel, Kim just lets out an ah. He uses the magic extinguisher to spray a pink liquid on his own hand. A fluffy white critter with giant eyes, which seems to have been born from the liquid, looks at him with a blank stare. The creature then turns into a mist and covers the salamander. Kim looks at that and comments that this necklace is a total lifesaver. The fire in the house starts to die down, showing that the little creature's magic is working. Selena helps the bard up and asks if he is in one piece, while the fire goes out. The bard, still in shock, just murmurs rage. He realizes that was why Pojak attacked, and that if it doesn't shed skin, the animal turns into this chaos. With the face of someone who learned his lesson, he says it's good he realized this now, and that he will take better care of it. Kim stares at him, wondering if he is for real. The MC asks if that is all he has to say about the whole mess. The bard, smiling, says not to worry, that his love for Pojak remains strong and they can rebuild the house. He continues saying that even if the house burns down again, he's cool with it. Then Kim snaps and screams that if the fire continued, the neighbor's house would be toast and people could get hurt. The MC asks if it's enough for just him to be okay. The bard, looking sheepish, says that's why he promised to take better care. But the vet questions if that is the most important thing right now. With his hand on his face, Kim sighs out of pure frustration with the guy's stupidity. Holding the magic creature he created, he delivers the moral of the story. You shouldn't raise wild animals just any old way, because they have their own place to live. Selena continues the lecture, keeping it real that bringing animals home, just they're cute, without knowing squat about their ecology, can't really be called love. Then she drops the question on the bard. If the salamander goes ballistic again, can he actually handle the beast on his own? The bard ends up admitting that nope, he definitely bit off more than he could chew. The little magic dude in Kim's hand makes a sound, agreeing that the bard wouldn't last 5 seconds in that fight. Holding the little creature, Kim gives it to him straight. Life doesn't run on just sunshine and rainbows. The scene shows the bard and Selena kneeling in front of Kim, who's standing there looking like he just made a major life decision. Next we see a gorgeous landscape of mountains and forests, the salamander's natural habitat. Kim looks at the salamander, now good as new, and says it looks way better after shedding its skin, and Selena agrees the new look is on point. But they notice one detail after shedding that skin: the salamander had a massive growth spurt. Kim is baffled at how that huge body fit in the old shell, and Selena, all mysterious, says that's just nature for ya. Heartbroken, the bard tells Pojak that he's grown up and looks like he won't need his help anymore. With teary eyes, he says Pojak is returning to the vast nature that can truly embrace his existence. He says goodbye, wishing the critter happiness and dropping that classic line, "I'm letting you go because I love you." The bard keeps the drama going, telling the beast to eat and sleep well, even promising to bring a packed lunch every day. But Kim interrupts immediately, covering his ears and yelling at him not to ruin the animal's instincts. Crying buckets, the bard says that in his heart they'll always be together, while the salamander starts walking away. The salamander runs toward freedom in the forest, while the bard screams its name in a desperate goodbye. Selena tries to comfort the crybaby, telling him to cheer up because, honestly, salamanders don't even understand the concept of a master. She keeps going, dropping the harsh truth that the salamander probably just saw him as a food-serving slave. The bard cries even harder, and she wonders if that was comforting or just traumatizing. And Kim, standing right next to her, adds that the critter probably just saw him as the cleaning slave, while the bard keeps sobbing on the ground. Up on top of a rock, the free salamander releases a powerful ring of fire, sending a grand goodbye. The explosion lights up the sky, catching the trio by surprise, and all they can say is wow. The fireball explodes into beautiful fireworks, coloring the whole sky. The bard's eyes sparkle watching the show, amazed by this Hollywood-style farewell. Kim and Selena watch the fireworks, and she comments that she expected nothing less from their Pojak. Crying tears of joy, the bard says Pojak is amazing, and the story announces that the treatment of the first patient, the salamander, is complete. The scene switches to a plaza, where the bard is already putting on a show for a hyped crowd. We see his hand setting the stage for a new song. He starts singing about a mage named Roisha, who destiny brought to him, the guy who defeated the female rabbit and opened the poet's eyes. A kid's choir, the Starlight Children's Choir, makes a special guest appearance, singing that he loves animals like a healing spirit and has a mother's touch. The bard continues the song, calling the guy a walking medicine, better than any elixir or alcohol, and announces a djembe solo. A djembe artist named Bobblehead joins the circle, banging on the drums. Selena and Kim watch from afar. Someone mentions he's famous famous around there, and Selena questions if that can really be called a bard. Kim wonders what the heck he's doing with this messy song, but the crowd loves it, thinking the tune is great and wanting to know who this mage from the song is. But Kim is easily bought, with dollar signs in his eyes. He holds a sign saying Genius Artist Rosha and thinks this is quality music, getting emotional for the first time. A few days after the hit dropped, Kim Ojin's animal clinic is getting bombarded with customers. With the clinic packed, Kim looks overwhelmed. Selena walks in asking if she can quit, seeing as they're in an unprecedented boom. We see the simple clinic and a bird flying in the blue sky, singing happily. Outside, a crowd with their pets is causing a commotion, proving the place is more popular than a Black Friday sale. Looking like he hasn't slept in days, Kim stares at the patient and says the exam is over. A girl with pink hair says thanks with her cute pet, and he asks her to come back next week. But inside, Kim thinks the critter's gonna kick the bucket before them. Rubbing his hands together, Kim thinks he's gotta make that cash while he can and yells for the next patient to come in, trying to maximize profits. 2 months have passed since he arrived. Thanks to the bard, the clinic is a hit, the waiting room is packed, and someone even lets out a dam. Even for Kim, the beginning was a grind with so many clients. Selena shows a mountain of cash and says that's all just the daily profit. Kim was about to close up shop, but seeing one more customer, greed takes over. He changes his mind and tells them to come in. While working, the MC learned about that world. On the street, he greets an acquaintance and asks what's up, and the guy says Choco isn't eating well. Dogs and cats are still best friends there too. A guy shows a giant wiener dog and a woman complains that her cat with an eye on its back turned red. The only difference is the kinda exotic breeds. We see Kim with his face in his hands, clearly wrecked. He stretches in his chair, thinking about how exhausting this is. Selena, holding a clipboard, lets him know the next one is the last of the day. Sitting at the desk, Kim thanks the heavens and asks what the animal is. Selena says it's a shaman, ex-hunting dogs that became popular pets. Getting serious, Kim listens that these creatures are aggressive with strangers and have a high abandonment rate. The vet thinks people who get pets just for trends should disappear off the face of the earth. Selena keeps the horror story going, saying the beast gets huge and has claws and teeth that can pierce boar hide, telling him to stay sharp. Kim imagines a beast is coming his way. Just then, the new customer arrives greeting everyone. Inside the box, we see a super cute fluff ball with its tongue sticking out. The status window says it's Kayukshiyu, a 2-month-old shaman dog, highly loyal. Selena looks at the critter and corrects herself, saying actually they said he's 3 months old, and she forgot to mention it. Kim squats down to see the monster while the owner says he's limping. The vet, confused by so much fluff, asks where the heck his legs even are. Very carefully, Kim picks up the little creature to examine it and says he's gonna take a look. Analyzing the fluff ball, Kim thinks a 3-month-old puppy's joints should be brand new. Checking the creature's paw, he finds a thorn stuck in there, and the little guy lets out a heartbreaking whimper. Holding the tweezers with the removed thorn, the vet tells the owner that was it, and now the critter will be good to go. While applying some medicine, the puppy gets all excited with joy and makes a little sound of relief. The furry thing starts rolling around on the floor, and Kim thinks he looks like a living ball of yarn. The scene focuses on the MC's face, who lets a little satisfied smile slip out. Selena, who is watching the whole thing, notices his expression right away. The owner leaves super happy, carrying the carrier box. As soon as the customer leaves, Kim collapses on the desk, dead tired, grumbling that it's finally over, and Selena waves goodbye. Selena mentions that he seemed happy, leaving Kim confused, just letting out a huh. The girl asks if it was because he thought the puppy was cute, or because his shift was over. Still slumped on the table, Kim asks why she's so curious. She says it was fascinating seeing him happy without money involved, and the MC thinks she loves throwing shade for free. He sits up and explains it's just because none of today's patients were seriously hurt. We see a puppy all bandaged up and sad. The worst part of being a vet is seeing animals suffering all the time. In a flashback, we see Kim in his old uniform looking exhausted, thinking that the more he cared, the more it hurt, so he tried to turn into a block of ice. In another memory, a woman arrives to pick up Ming Ming with a fake smile. Kim thinks she's the irresponsible owner who let the pet get sick so she could travel, and greets her full of sarcasm. Back in the present, Kim gives a little smirk and thinks that, since that day, he started tearing into the owners a lot more. He gets up to close up shop. Selena, with a cute face, warns him that it's already getting dark outside. Near the window, Kim comments that they saw a ton of people today, and tells her to run if she wants to leave. He looks outside commenting that the sun is about to set when, out of nowhere, a creepy figure pops up in the window, shocking the vet. The horror movie figure is an old man screaming Kim Ojin's name, desperate for help. Kim turns to Selena, who's armed with a broom, and asks if she knows any exorcisms. She says maybe, if walking it works. The old man tries to climb in through the window screaming Kim's name, who yells in terror that the intruder is getting in. The old man pulls him out of the clinic. We see the MC being dragged away by the old man. Left behind, Selena looks out the window at that bizarre scene and just lets out an ah. We see the mountains at dusk while the old man screams, "My God, Kim Ojin." Suddenly, the MC appears lying on the ground, dying while the old man kneels apologizing nonstop. The old man says he didn't imagine Kim was so out of shape he couldn't handle a hike. The vet, out of breath, tells him to shut his trap. Still panting, Kim asks who the hell he is. Since he doesn't look like a ghost, the old man realizes he forgot to introduce himself. He introduces himself as Schwain, a public servant of the territory, and says he brought him there for a serious reason. Suddenly, Schwain bows deeply, saying he heard Kim calm down even the Lord's rabbit. Then Schwain makes a random request. He asks if Kim can please catch a stray dog. The MC is speechless and replies that they aren't animal control. Selena agrees, reminding him that he's a vet, not a hunter. The official insists they are the only hope because time is running out. Kim and Selena look at each other, not understanding a thing. A chibi version of Selena appears, questioning what he meant by time. Schwain explains that 2 months ago, a dog took over a peak in the middle of the mountain. He continues, saying the critter is right where a trail is gonna be. They tried to catch it, but the dog is practically the Flash, and construction starts the day after tomorrow. Kim, with a serious face, asks what happens if they can't catch the animal. Sitting on the ground, Schwain reveals that if the rescue is too hard, they're gonna send in the troops. Kim is shocked to hear that if they don't catch the dog, it's gonna be sent to Kingdom Come immediately. With the sky already dark, Schwain emphasizes that time is up and begs for help. The official bows before Kim and Selena in a gesture of total despair, asking for help. The MC stays silent for a few moments, clearly racking his brain over this tough decision. Running his hand through his hair, totally out of patience, Kim finally caves and asks where this dog is right now. Sitting on the ground to catch his breath, he explains he's a vet, not a hunter, and has never caught an animal before, but he'll take a look at the dog to understand the mess. Schwain's face lights up brighter than high beams, and he says yes with a huge grin, mentioning the spot is just a little further up. Kim gets up and warns he isn't promising to do the job yet. He's just assessing the situation, but Selena, standing right there, thinks to herself that he's definitely gonna do it. Schwain takes the lead, pointing out that the dog is always in that area and, for some reason, the critter never leaves that specific spot. With a serious face, Selena analyzes everything around her, already smelling that scent of trouble in the air. Kim's expression also gets tense as he scans the area, bracing himself for whatever comes next. From the shadows comes a low growl, and the camera focuses on the sharp teeth of a large, wild creature that looks like it skipped its shots. Looking at the noise, Kim turns to Selena and asks if that is what he thinks it is, and the girl just confirms the obvious. A huge white dog, all dirty and bruised, appears ready to attack, and Selena confirms it's a shaman. Selena then remembers what she said at the clinic, that a lot of people raise these dogs just because they're trendy, like people buying huskies while living in the desert heat. The scene focuses on the scars and the tight collar on the shaman's neck, while the girl adds that, in the same proportion, many of them end up getting abandoned. The trio stares down the shaman, who keeps growling and keeping his distance, leaving that heavy vibe in the air. Kim observes the animal's condition, and thinks that if Schwain said he's been there for 2 months, the poor thing probably hasn't eaten properly that whole time. Out of nowhere, a weird sound, like something slicing through the wind, echoes through the forest and startles everyone. The crew looks around without understanding a thing, and Kim asks what that noise was. The camera focuses on Schwain's boot as he wonders if that's some kind of monster approaching. Ignoring the noise, the shaman turns the focus of his rage toward them, and lets out an even more aggressive growl. In the blink of an eye, the dog charges full speed at Schwain, who freezes up like an old computer. The poor civil servant loses his balance and falls backward, reaching out his hand in a gesture of pure panic. Faster than a speeding ticket, Selena appears out of nowhere, grabs Schwain by the collar, and pulls him away from the attack, warning that it's dangerous. Selena scolds Kim, saying that turning your back and running is the worst idea, and the MC, desperate, snaps back asking if he was supposed to let the beast turn him into lunch meat. Kim yells, totally ticked off, that running will only make the dog want to chase them even more. The shaman stops for a bit, just observing the group, and the MC says they need to distract the beast somehow to make a move. Suddenly, the dog turns his back and starts walking away, leaving Kim looking clueless, just letting out a huh. The MC turns to Selena, totally lost, and asks why the critter stopped if she said it was a hunting dog, and the girl simply confirms that he is. With Schwain still on the ground, Kim wonders why an angry animal, and a hunting dog at that, would turn back when the prey is so close. The shaman walks calmly toward a small cave hidden in the rocks. Watching the dog disappear into the darkness, Kim realizes he went back to the same place where he was at the start. Selena says there's no telling what goes on in a dog's head, while Schwain, still recovering his soul, says he always scares people off like that. The civil servant adds that's why complaints from the neighboring village are pouring in, leaving the MC deep in thought. The image focuses on the vet's eyes, which look like a light bulb just switched on. Schwain asks what kind of complaints, and then answers himself that it's about a ferocious dog barking on the mountain. Kim then asks if anyone actually got hurt, and Schwain says it's dangerous and they want to capture him ASAP. The civil servant hesitates, but then tries to confirm that yes. He avoids looking at the MC and stays in a kind of awkward silence. Finally, Schwain admits that no, actually, there haven't been any complaints about attacks. Kim turns to Selena and asks if she said shamans are very loyal, and the girl confirms that this breed is known for being faithful to the bone. Selena looks at him, curious, asking if he picked up on something. A dark sky appears, showing that night has already arrived. The group arrives at a busy village, and the story explains that this is the closest one to the mountain. Kim and Selena walk through the streets, and the vet explains that their mission now is to find the dog's previous owner. Selena, confused, asks if it wouldn't be better to just capture the dog since they're short on time, and suggests a trap with bait, since he looks starving. The MC, with his back turned, bets that food won't be enough to attract him. He turns to Selena and asks why the dog would be so skinny if it were easy to catch him with food. Kim states that, being a hunting dog, there's something more important to him than filling his belly. Selena, standing in the middle of the street, finally understands his logic. In a flashback, we see a man saying goodbye and saying he'll be back soon, while a shaman puppy wanders watches everything. The man asks the dog to be a good boy, protect the place, and tells him never to leave that spot. Selena comments that where she used to live, there were people like that too. With an annoyed face, Kim says garbage humans tell dogs to stay put just to abandon them, and suggests that when they find the guy, they should punch him first and then drag him along. The MC adds that they need to see how the abandoned dog is living, while the scene shows an overview of the village. Asking the locals, an old lady complains she wanted to know who owns the mutt, saying her husband can't cut wood because of the beast. A group of kids says they don't know who the owner is, and one of them complains that his mom banned him from going to the mountain because of that dog. A slightly deaf old man asks what dog, and out of nowhere remembers someone who borrowed money from him 10 years ago and starts cursing. Defeated, Kim sits in a corner while Selena watches, showing that the search led to nothing. Selena suggests that maybe the owner isn't from that village, and the MC replies that the only certainty is that everyone there hates the poor mutt. Kim wonders how it's possible nobody knows anything, and Selena just comments that the locals are out of the loop. Out of nowhere, a lady approaches asking if they're looking for the mutt's owner, revealing that they are the first ones to ask about a guy named Jake. Surprised, Kim asks if she knows the owner, and the mysterious woman just tells them to follow her. The scene shows a simple, isolated house in the middle of the woods. Arriving at the house, the lady explains that Jake lived pretty far from the village, which is why the locals didn't know him well. Kim approaches the door and asks if he lived there alone with the dog, but the woman stops him, saying it's not there. Confused, the MC turns to her, and the lady points in another direction, saying Jake is over there. The vet looks in the indicated direction and widens his eyes in shock, realizing what that means, and thinking, but that is. The camera reveals a lonely tombstone in the middle of the forest, and the story says it's a grave. With a sad look, the lady explains that Jake passed away 2 months ago in a landslide, and tells them he lived alone but was a really good guy. Kim, shocked, repeats that it was 2 months ago, and the woman confirms, saying that since he had no family, she handled the funeral herself. The lady concludes by saying everyone keeps blaming the owner, but Jake didn't abandon his friend. The woman continues, explaining that Jake just couldn't make it back to his dog. She says she tried to bring the dog back too, but it was useless, and corrects herself, saying his name is Max. In a flashback, we see Jake smiling while petting a puppy Max, and the woman begs them to help the dog. Kim, with a somber face, watches the tombstone in silence, processing this sad story. He clenches his fist tight, showing he's made a decision. The MC turns to the tombstone and with total respect tells Jake to rest in peace. With his face turned away, he also offers a sincere apology for the misunderstanding. With a determined look, Kim promises they're gonna rescue her pet Max, whatever it takes. Back on the mountain, Schwain gets spooked seeing a group of soldiers arriving and yells for them to wait. The civil servant, all nervous, asks why they didn't come tomorrow and says they arrived way too early. One of the soldiers explains their mission ended ahead of schedule, so they came right away, but Schwain suggests they rest and come back only tomorrow. Another soldier questions if they really need to postpone until the next day. The group leader, a guy with white hair, says they're gonna solve this right now, stating it's not his first time dealing with 1 or 2 wild beasts. At the cave entrance, Max is lying down looking weak and tired, and the soldier comments that people hate the dog anyway. We see the dog, who seems to have given up fighting, while the soldier finishes by asking who's gonna complain if they send him to the afterlife a day early. Inside Jake's house, Kim opens a cupboard, revealing a simple and organized interior. On a shelf, he finds a drawing of a mandrake in a picture frame, smelling herbal medicine and wondering if Jake was an herbalist. Selena suggests that, for now, they grab anything with the owner's scent, pointing to some hanging clothes. Kim continues to explore the house with a serious expression on his face. He picks up the picture frame and sees a photo of Jake smiling, hugging a still puppy and happy Max. Looking at the photo, Kim thinks about how someone who cared so much about his dog met such a tragic end. Selena catches his attention, saying it looks like Jake was searching for a mandrake, leaving the MC confused. She points to the drawing on the wall and says it's an illustration of the mandrake. Kim remembers seeing something similar in a movie and asks if that's the plant that screams, and Selena confirms. She explains that the mandrake is rare and hard to catch, but it's worth a fortune, so every herbalist dreams of finding one. The image focuses on the vet's eyes, who seems to be connecting the dots. He looks at the photo of Jake and Max again, and a thought starts to form in his mind. With a dark and cloudy sky, we see a storm is coming. At the cave entrance, Max looks at the sky, sensing the change in the weather. The dog turns around and starts panting, as if feeling pain or anxiety. In a flashback, we see Jake and Max getting caught in sudden rain on the mountain, and the man comments on the surprise downpour. He's debating whether to wait out the rain before setting sail from there, so he lights a campfire to try and warm up. Poor Max is huddled near the fire, shaking like a leaf, whether from the cold or just being scared stiff. Jake, in a super cute move, picks the dog up and wraps him in a blanket to get the little fella warm. With that gentle smile, the man mentions it's a good thing he brought the blanket, almost like he saw this mess coming. Jake carefully dries Max off using the blanket, telling the little rascal to stay still so he doesn't catch a nasty cold. The puppy, totally loving the VIP treatment, gives his owner's hand a loving lick. Max then nuzzles up to Jake wanting to play, and the man laughs, affectionately calling him a little rascal. With a warm smile, Jake just soaks in this bonding moment with his faithful sidekick. Looking at the cave entrance, he remarks that, all things considered, they got super lucky finding this shelter. He turns around and spots a weird plant growing in the back of the cave, commenting that he didn't even know that hole was there. The plant is glowing mysteriously in the dark, and Jake gets closer, realizing there's something special there. He thinks, wait, is this what I think it is? Getting a closer look, he recognizes the color and leaf shape. With eyes wide, he exclaims that it's a legendary mandragora. Overwhelmed, Jake goes oh my gosh and thinks he never imagined seeing one in real life, outside of fantasy books. Totally pumped. He says there's no time to lose, and he needs to run home to grab his harvesting gear. Max starts whining, already realizing he's about to get left behind and wanting to tag along. Jake turns to the dog and says he's going alone because it's just around the corner. He asks Max to wait quietly, promising he'll be back in the blink of an eye. The dog barks, seeming to agree. Grinning from ear to ear, Jake thinks this is definitely his lucky day. Max stays there, sitting at the cave entrance by the fire, patiently waiting for his owner to return. Outside, the weather takes a turn for the worse, and the rain pours down, while Jake starts climbing a slope that's slicker than soap. He keeps climbing with pure grit, fighting the rain and the terrain that isn't doing him any favors. Suddenly, he hears a spooky noise and looks up, already feeling a chill down his spine. His eyes go wide with terror as he realizes the catastrophe heading his way. A brutal landslide comes crashing down, with rocks and mud sliding down the mountain and burying everything in its path. The campfire slowly dies out, and only smoke rises into the dark sky, marking the sad end of Jake, who moved on to a better place. At the cave entrance, Max stays lying down, waiting in vain, while time passes without mercy. With a heartbreaking look on his face, the dog continues his watch, never losing faith that his owner will come back. Days go by, a beautiful rainbow appears in the sky, but Max just lets out a low whimper, missing his human. All alone at the cave entrance, the dog sits back down, keeping his eternal vigil. A couple of hikers passes by and finds it weird seeing the animal there. The man asks what a dog is doing there, and the woman says she saw him there a week ago. With a look of pity, the man says it's obvious the poor thing was abandoned. The woman suggests giving the dog some grub, feeling super sorry for his loneliness. The man starts getting closer to the dog to offer the food. Out of nowhere, Max stands up going full beast mode and starts growling aggressively at the couple. The man gets spooked by the animal's reaction and yells to the woman that it's dangerous and they need to get out of there. While running away, the man grumbles that it's no wonder the owner abandoned a beast like that. The dog, with a hurt back, watches the couple leave and sadly goes back to the cave entrance. He sits back down at his post, continuing the endless wait. The scene cuts to the present, where we see Max all grown up, looking grumpy and howling at the sky. Back on the mountain, Schwain tries to convince the soldiers to hit the road, saying there's no need for such a rush. He makes up a lame excuse saying it's getting late and they should head to the barracks, trying to buy time. Ignoring Schwain's nonsense, the leader of the soldiers gets ready, aiming at Max, who is already in attack position. One of the soldiers asks if they brought enough tranquilizer darts. The leader confirms, saying that since it's a shaman monster, he brought a whole stock. Desperate, Schwain begs them to wait at least 1 hour, revealing he hired someone to rescue the dog. Schwain keeps trying to argue, saying that dog has a history and has never hurt anyone before. The leader of the soldiers, with all the disdain in the world, asks if he thinks they are there to hear a sob story about a dog. He admits it might be a sad case, but their job is to ensure the residents stay safe. The soldier points the weapon at Max, who growls and braces for the worst. The dog, panting and scared, stares down the barrel of the gun pointed at him. The soldier's finger goes to the trigger, ready to fire. Just as he's about to shoot, a hand grabs the gun barrel, stopping the shot at the last second. Selena, with a serious look that says she's not messing around, says he's being way too hasty. A divine light descends from the heavens, and Selena explains they need to rescue the dog, telling the soldier to chill out. The light transforms into the image of Jake, calling Max by his name. The man smiles gently and asks if he waited long, saying he finally came to get him. Max's tail starts wagging immediately, and he stares fixedly in the direction of the voice. He wags his tail so hard it looks like he's going to take off like a helicopter. Max stretches and barks happily, recognizing his owner's presence. Jake's image transforms into Kim, who reaches out his hand to the dog. With a somewhat sad look, Kim apologizes, saying unfortunately he's not the person the dog was waiting for. With a gentle smile, the MC invites Max to go home with him. In a dark forest, a creature looking like a deer is running for its life. The animal stops for a second, completely exhausted and sweating bullets. It's panting and terrified of something. Trying to hide, the deer goes behind a huge tree, looking to catch its breath. Suddenly, a glowing yellow eye with a creepy pupil opens in the darkness, watching everything. A high-pitched scream echoes through the night, scaring a flock of birds into flight. We look at the front of a big house, where someone is yelling desperately for a doctor, saying the baby isn't moving. The MC's jaw drops at the situation, and gulping, he thinks this is unbelievable. Inside the clinic, he discovers the baby is actually a giant, fat hamster named Ping Ping. Kim thinks the critter is just too fat to move. The owner cries, saying the MC is lying and that Ping Ping barely eats 2 meals a day. Meanwhile, Kim, having no patience for drama, calls for the next patient. 3 people arrive: an older gentleman, a woman, and a younger guy. The older man asks if the MC has been well, and Kim seems to recognize the crew. Max came down from the mountain and went to the village, but the poor guy didn't understand that his owner had passed away. We see the dog lying sadly on his owner's grave, and since he wouldn't leave, the whole village felt sorry for him. Luckily, the little dog bonded with the person taking care of him, who was exactly this gentleman who arrived at the clinic. Back in the present, Kim asks what brings them there, and if something happened to Max, but the gentleman answers it's nothing like that. The gentleman explains they came for something else, while the younger guy puts a wooden box on the counter. Upon opening the box, Kim faces a weird plant under a glass dome and asks himself if that is a mandragora. The hooded woman, Selena, comments that the roots are usually buried deep. Kim agrees, thinking it's bizarre that the root is exposed. The story goes that it was Jake, Max's old owner, who found this mandragora. They decided to keep the plant as a memento of their friend who passed, and we see the mandragora being prepped for transport. The younger guy explains that as soon as they put the plant in the pot, it just jumped out of the dirt on its own, leaving Kim surprised. On top of that, the guy complains that the mandragora won't shut up and screams day and night. They'd bury it, and the stubborn plant would jump out again. No one can stand living without earplugs anymore, and the scene shows a bunch of people passed out from pain, not to mention the ones who had their eardrums busted. Selena says she's seen this before. She explains that some plants are picky about their environment, and this one seems to hate where it is. The gentleman comments it's a nightmare, but luckily, the mandragora is taking a nap right now, but he warns that when it wakes up, the chaos returns. Desperate, the gentleman pushes the pot toward the MC and begs the doctor to take that ticking time bomb away. Kim is shocked. Kim refuses immediately, saying he takes care of animals, not weeds. He argues that something screaming like that can't be a plant, but it isn't an animal either. The gentleman, terrified, says he understands and that the thing is a monster, a demon. The MC, being sarcastic, suggests taking it to a church to exorcise it then. The mandragora starts moving and making noise. Waking up, the gentleman screams in panic that the demon has awakened. The group runs away and leaves the hot potato in Kim's hands, saying they trust him. Kim yells, calling them damn freeloaders. Annoyed, the MC says he's seen people abandon animals, but abandoning a plant is a new one for him. Selena just drops a sarcastic great. Selena explains that mandragoras are rare and worth a fortune. She says even the roots can revive someone who's got one foot in the grave. The MC questions the use if you can't control the critter. Suddenly, Selena notices the plant is waking up for real. Selena warns him to cover his ears if he doesn't want to go deaf. The two run to cover their ears. The mandragora opens its eyes slowly and takes a deep breath. Kim thinks it's filling its lungs just to let out that scream. The MC presses his hands over his ears and regrets not having his noise-canceling headphones, which he's still paying off in installments. Suddenly, the mandragora looks at the MC with glowing eyes and makes a cute sound. Kim is totally confused by that reaction. The MC wonders what the heck is happening. Selena, watching everything, says she thinks the plant took a liking to him. Kim thinks if that could really be it. Selena then asks Sojin, the MC, to take off the necklace he's wearing. Confused, he asks what for. Meanwhile, his hand goes to the blue pendant he carries around his neck. The second he touches the necklace, the mandrake turns red as a beet and lets out a little squeal, looking like it's totally crushing on him. The MC doesn't understand Jack and asks what's up with the plant, while the mandrake is throwing a rave in its pot, and Selena notes that it looks super happy. This cheesy scene reminds the MC of that dancing sunflower toy that gives people nightmares, and he finds the plant's little dance pretty gross. Selena keeps her eyes on the MC and that blue necklace hanging around his neck, already connecting the dots in her head. With a total poker face, she suggests that, for now, he should take care of the mandrake in his room. The MC freezes on the spot and claps back, saying he's never even kept a cactus alive, let alone a screaming plant. We see the outside of the MC's clinic, pitch black with a cloudy sky. Out of nowhere, someone almost knocks the door down, pounding like crazy and screaming desperately for the doctor. The noise wakes up the MC, who was sleeping so good he was drooling on his pillow, but the person outside won't stop hollering. Still half zombie, Kim opens the door and warns that after hours consults are 30% extra, but the woman doesn't even hear him and keeps panicking. She shows him a little winged critter in her arms, all beat up and crying, and begs the MC to save her baby. Now wide awake and holding a candle, Kim examines the creature thinking it was a wild animal attack, but sees the wound is way deeper and the bleeding won't stop. Selena pops up and says mandrake leaves are great for stopping bleeding, so the MC, all hyped, tells her to go grab one real quick. Back in the room, the mandrake looks shocked and grumbles, clearly not vibing with the idea of going bald. Selena picks up on the plant's drama and tells the MC he better ask for it himself, leaving the guy totally confused. Feeling kinda awkward, the MC gets close to the pot, asks if the plant understands him, and humbly asks for a leaf, explaining it's an emergency. The mandrake's eyes light up and it plucks a leaf off itself, offering it to the MC with the best attitude ever. Looking like it just won the lottery, the plant hands over the leaf while making happy little noises. The MC is flabbergasted by the situation and thinks, what kind of craziness just went down? As soon as he applies the leaf, the creature's bleeding stops instantly, leaving the MC impressed with how well it worked. The woman cries her eyes out thanking him, saying she owes him her life, and Kim advises that the critter needs rest as she leaves grateful. Back in his room, the MC yawns wide enough to swallow his own head and celebrates that he can finally go back to sleep. 30 minutes later, the MC is in bed with that I can't believe this smile, because someone is already screaming for the doctor outside again. Now it's a deer-like creature lying on the MC's bed, totally wrecked, and the owner begs him not to let the animal kick the bucket. Kim and Selena examine the patient, and she comments that it looks like the work of the same beast from before. Looking closer, the MC realizes these aren't hunting wounds, wounds, it doesn't look like a survival situation. With a serious face, he concludes the attacker is doing this just for fun, like a total psychopath. The folks are confused, and a woman asks what a psychopath is, thinking it's a new monster, and Kim answers awkwardly that it's pretty much that. Just then, a woman named Pio shouts that she knows exactly who did this barbarity. She says it was Baron Doyle's pet wolf, and the scene shows the Baron with an evil grin next to a wolf that looks mean as hell. Crying, a kid explains that the Baron walks through the forest with the beast, and gets a kick out of attacking animals that can't defend themselves. The MC gets ticked off, wondering what kind of sicko does that, but finds out the laws don't apply to him just because the guy is a noble. Kim loses it, cursing this backward feudal society and shouting long live democracy. But when Selena asks what that is, he focuses on treating the patient. A week later, it's the same old story in front of the clinic, with screams for help and people begging him to save their pets in the middle of the night. The MC loses his patience completely, screaming that he can't take it anymore and needs to sleep, cause you can't live like this. Holding a torch, Kim announces he's starting a class revolution and demands Baron Doyle come out to settle this beef. A mob with torches gathers in front of the mansion, yelling for Baron Doyle to wake up and demanding safety for the animals. Leading the chaos, the MC holds a sign asking for an end to animal violence and shouts for the Baron to cut the crap. The mansion door opens and the Baron's personal guards come out, making everyone shut up instantly. The head of the guard asks who Kim Ojin is, and a protester thinks, dang, their intel is scary. They already found the leader. Shaking in his boots and terrified, the MC stammers and admits it's him. To everyone's surprise, the guards bow in front of the MC, who stands there looking like a deer in headlights, totally confused. The chief says he's taking him to the castle, and Kim points at himself, totally lost with this VIP invite. Inside, they run into the giant wolf Magma, and a status window shows he's a young blood-fang wolf that loves sweet potatoes. Baron Doyle appears crying like a baby, begging the MC to save Magma and promising to give him anything in exchange. The MC and Selena look at the wounded wolf, and Kim is in shock, trying to process what's going on. In town, gossip is running wild saying a magical creature appeared in the forest, and some random guy says the Baron's wolf is already toast. A guy says it's a giant monster, and an old lady hypes up the story saying the beast eats people for breakfast. A villager screams that the beast is now attacking people, and another suggests fleeing to the next village before they become monster chow. In the middle of the square, a man gives a speech telling everyone not to fear, announcing that Baron Doyle is already handling the situation, and the crowd cheers. He explains they set up a giant trap in the forest, and soldiers are hot on the monster's trail, so it's just a matter of time. While the people are sucking up to the Baron, thinking he's the best, the MC watches everything from afar, thinking this story smells fishy. We rewind a bit and show that the Baron actually threw a tantrum, threw himself on the floor, and told the servants to fix everything because he didn't want to eat. Back in the square, the crowd calls the Baron a hero, and the MC realizes that media manipulation was already a thing in the medieval era. Selena, standing next to him, notices the MC's suspicious look and comments that he's being very cautious. Inside a quieter place, the MC explains that most injured animals came from the East Forest, right near the village. He points on the map that Magma the wolf was attacked deep in the West Forest, way far out, pointing out the inconsistency. The MC continues and shows that the Baron's soldiers are hunting the beast in the West Forest, right where they think the monster is. Hand on his chin, he reflects that even focusing on recent attacks, it's super weird they're totally ignoring the East Forest. Selena agrees that it's all very sus and reminds him that villagers don't usually go to the West Forest anyway. The MC asks why, and the scene shows some gloomy mountains while Selena explains there are a bunch of ghost stories over there. Sitting on a bench in front of the glass house shop, the MC repeats ghosts thoughtfully until the shop owner calls them inside. The shopkeeper opens a box and shows the ordered items 3 super well-made glass syringes that leave the MC amazed. The craftsman explains it was all mouth-blown, using a special glaze with alberium powder to handle the pressure. The details show a waterproof leather coating and needles made from a fancy mix of gold and steel. The MC praises this world's mouth-made technology, and the craftsman says it was too hard to do again, but Kim warns him he's definitely gonna want more. The MC offers fair payment and a pile of gold coins appears out of thin air, making the guy's jaw drop. With dollar signs in his eyes, the craftsman shakes the MC's hand and promises to work his butt off, sealing the deal. The story shows the new toys, like a reinforced serum bottle and a hose made of some rubber-like material. Plus, they got a measuring instrument that looks like those old-school 2-pan scales. And to wrap it up, a hospital cage made of birch wood to hold the roadier patients. With the hospital blueprint in hand, the MC shows the renovation plan, explaining he's gonna set up treatment rooms, a ward, and a waiting area bit by bit. With a smug little smirk, the MC mentally brags about his modern hospital and thinks these barbarians should be thanking him. Suddenly, someone knocks on the door, ruining the MC's ego trip, and Selena says the guys have arrived. A group enters carrying giant bales, and while Kim tries to figure out what that is, they explain it's medicinal herbs. The first one is Luna's Flora, which knocks you out instantly if you drink or smell it, surprising the MC. Then they show Baroneth's Tears, which kills pain, and Alferian, which fixes any stomach ache. The list goes on with Semiran stem for cobs and Pluna berry, which is a potent antiseptic, leaving the MC shocked at the quality. Reading about the herbs, the MC freaks out seeing one that controls blood pressure, diabetes, and even dementia, shouting that not even Earth has something like this. On his knees, the MC begs Selena to teach him everything, feeling like a dummy, but she just tells him to work hard. Class is dismissed when a woman almost knocks the door down, screaming for Lord Ojin to get out there fast. She enters terrified terrified and announces they finally caught the monster, catching the MC and Selena totally off guard. The scene cuts to a dark forest, where a sinister growl breaks the silence of the night. A group of knights with torches moves forward in the pitch black, while the scary noise gets louder and louder. The MC and the others stare into the darkness, and Kim comments that the creature's sound design is impressive. From the shadows, the silhouette of a giant monster with glowing eyes and a dragon-like roar appears, making the MC freeze in fear. In the forest, they show a destroyed bear trap, and a knight screams that the beast broke everything and escaped. The knights and hunting dogs run with torches, shouting to corner the creature once and for all. The dogs follow the trail of a strange blue light, and a knight points screaming that the monster is right up ahead. The creature's silhouette starts to appear slowly in the shadows, and the MC isn't sure if that's really it. With eyes wide, Kim asks himself if that's the monster that's terrorizing everyone. Turns out the terrible monster is just a black kitten, all fluffed up trying to look scary, but its roar is a tiny high-pitched meow. Everyone goes dead silent, staring at the tiny feline trying to act tough with zero success. One of the Baron's men states the obvious, saying it looks just like a regular stray cat. But Baron Doyle, all stressed out, screams that it is that cat, pointing to his wolf trembling in fear. And sure enough, the giant wolf Magma is huddled in a corner, whimpering in terror of the kitten. The Baron points at the cat talking about assassin claws and calls it an evil creature, while the kitty keeps growing to keep up appearances. The MC, watching this ridiculous scene, has a bullying flashback where the bully blames the weak victim for getting beaten up. Ignoring logic, the Baron orders them to throw the net, and the kitten is captured meowing in revolt. A guy built like a tank shows up with chains, and the Baron orders him to tie up the cat with extra reinforcement, and the guy obeys that bizarre order right away. The cat, all tangled up in the net and chains, meows in suffering, while the Baron and his goons laugh at another's misery, thinking it's the funniest thing ever. Just then, someone shouts to set fire to the monster, and the MC, in total shock, tries to stop them, but it looks like that ship has already sailed. With the smile of a total good for nothing, the Baron says not to burn it, but to drag the beast alive, announcing they're going to throw a little public party for it. The MC wonders if these guys are serious, since this is clearly, but the laughter of the guards getting a kick out of the cruelty cuts off his train of thought. Animal abuse, and the scene shows the MC's hand almost smashing a red button labeled trauma, determined to press it without a second thought. The scene cuts to the MC's clinic, where a dog covered in bandages is lying down, and a crying woman asks what to do, explaining she used to feed him on the street, and hadn't seen the poor thing in a long time. Looking at the animal's condition, the MC goes into shock and says someone did this on purpose, barely able to speak, he's so furious. With a face full of hate, Kim screams, "You scumbags," and the story explains that the kind of people Ojin hates the most are those who mistreat animals. Back in the forest, the kitty struggles with so much force that he snaps the net and chains, making a guard yell that the beast is tearing everything apart and to restrain it immediately. From the middle of the crowd, the MC lets out a scream telling everyone to stop and warns them to cover their noses and mouths right now. Baron Doyle and his men stand there clueless, not understanding what got into the MC's head. Then, Kim decides to play along with them and shouts that, since they want to play medieval, they should look at the beast's forehead, claiming that's the mark of the devil. The Baron, curious as an old gossip, repeats the word mark, looking interested in the MC's spiel. Beside him, Selena is also totally lost and asks herself of the demon. The scene focuses on the cat, and the MC keeps up the act, pointing to the clear M on the beast's forehead, saying that, added to the scar, it's undeniable proof. The MC shouts that he's also going to activate full medieval mode, and makes up that this is the mark of the great demon who brings a global plague, finishing that it's the mark of the great pandemic. The MC continues his Oscar-worthy performance, saying the symbol on the cat's forehead is the mark of the great demon Garona, the great pandemic. The Baron's henchmen start whispering in confusion, repeating the name Garona and wondering what the heck that is. Improvising everything on the spot, the MC explains that a rat servant of the demon spread the plague first, and then a cat ate the rats, absorbed the magic, and became a super carrier of the disease. He wraps up the fairy tale saying that's how this creature ended up in these lands. Looking like he's at a funeral, the MC claims this is the Garona plague and warns that if the disease spreads, half the population will become a statistic and vanish. The head of the guard gets pissed, says he's never heard of this tall tale, and accuses the MC of taking them for suckers. But Baron Doyle cuts him off, telling him to wait a minute, which leaves the guard surprised, calling out to his boss. With a serious expression, the Baron stares at the MC and asks if all this talk is actually true. The MC, staying in character, confirms it and says this really happened back where he lived. He keeps the lie going, explaining that the world had to fight a war against the plague to defeat the demon, while images of masks, tests, and medicine appear to illustrate it. The Baron then questions if the cat is really the devil's servant, and Kim confirms it with all the certainty in the universe. The MC says that, since the cat is still young, they can handle the situation, stating that in his land they created a cure and can do the same here. Desperate for the lie to stick, he turns to Selena asking for confirmation, but she just stares at him in silence. He blinks at her like crazy and mentally begs her not to leave him hanging. Selena, with that usual poker face of hers, joins the game and says, explaining that with the cat's blood and the right herbs, a cure can be made. The head of the guard, still smelling something fishy, asks what happens if it goes wrong, making the MC sweat bullets, thinking he went too far. The guard insists the story makes no sense, but the Baron tells him to zip it immediately. The noble then gives the verdict the MC has 1 week to cure the beast and bring it to the castle. He finishes by warning that, after that, the little public party for the monster is happening no matter what. Back at the clinic, the MC lets out out a sigh of relief, saying that was close, and thanks Selena for the acting, but she replies coldly that she didn't lie. The MC is confused, and she explains it's true that a cure can be made with the cat and the mandrake, but she warns that just one won't even scratch the surface. They're gonna need to grind up hundreds of them, and Selena already imagines a mandrake genocide, looking a bit shaken. Changing the subject, Selena asks why on earth the MC wanted to save that beast. The MC explains that even though the cat is sedated now, when it wakes up, it's going to be a bigger problem than they can handle. Then he drops the bombie that creature wasn't the one attacking the village animals. Kim explains he kept records of all the animals' injuries, showing the files and saying the local animals had similar wounds. However, he points out that the injuries on the magma wolf, who he nicknamed Garona, don't match the rest. Analyzing the data, the MC details that the claw size, the footprints, and the force of the blows indicate it was a completely different animal. Selena connects the dots and concludes that Magma was the one hurting the village animals all along, and the cat only attacked the wolf. The MC agrees, but says there's a catch, and the story doesn't quite add up. He theorizes that Baron Doyle used his power to hide Magma's attacks until now, and wonders why he's suddenly blaming another animal and putting on this whole show. Looking like he's thinking hard, the MC suggests this hunt is just a smokescreen, and that the real target is the cat. Selena agrees, saying this explains why the Baron tried to catch the cat alive instead of sending it to the afterlife, and why he fell for such a bad lie. She also comments that the scar on the cat's forehead doesn't look normal and is bothering her, besides having noticed several old wounds on the kitty's legs. The MC, determined, says he's gonna find out what happened and promises to understand what the little guy went through. Selena watches Aljin and thinks she thought he was just a mercenary vet, but now she sees he is. Actually, quite. The scene cuts to the MC sniffing the cat in a super weird way, totally surrendering to the cuteness. With a face of pure ecstasy, Kim thinks about how warm and soft the cat is. He keeps huffing the kitty with absolutely no shame, while Selena just watches the weirdness in silence. She finishes her thought realizing that, actually, he's just a total weirdo, while in the corner the mandrake is eating its heart out with jealousy. Outside the clinic, a strange noise starts echoing through the street. Two villagers get spooked and ask what that sound is, with one suggesting it's a monster, and the other saying he's never heard anything so dreadful. Among the crowd, the gossip is already running wild. They say Kim Ojin is throwing hands with a demon right now, purifying the plague. Another villager, impressed, says it's unbelievable and concludes that Kim is an otherworldly mage, with the image showing the MC in a heroic sorcerer pose. In front of the clinic, the crowd cheers for the great mage Kim Ojin, and the story explains that this was how medieval fake news worked. Meanwhile, inside, the MC is trying to feed the cat some mushy goop, giving an awkward smile to convince the beast to eat. But the cat isn't in the mood for talk, slaps the MC in the face, knocking the food over, and meows angrily. The MC complains the beast has a nasty temper, while the cat keeps meowing, totally pissed off. Selena, watching the show, asks Ojin if the cat doesn't seem to have shrunk in the last 3 days. The MC agrees, saying not just the weight, but the size has decreased too, and the image shows the cat went from 80 to 60 centimeters and lost 2 kilos. Selena throws out the theory that the cat might actually be a demonic beast and is shrinking because it's losing mana. Kim, worried, says whether it's mana or not, the beast needs to fill its belly, since it hasn't eaten anything for 3 days. He explains that the cat gets stressed from hunger, burns energy with rage, and gets even hungrier in an infinite loop of hate and an empty stomach. With a distant look, the MC thinks life would be easier if he had that divine treat called churu. Suddenly, he feels a sharp pain in his chest and wonders what that pain is. The necklace he wears starts glowing brightly, and he recognizes the object immediately. The MC is stunned, wondering if something is coming out of there, while a blue light starts sprouting from the pendant. The light turns into an object that opens by itself, leaving the MC surprised. And wouldn't you know it, it's a churu. The treat flies toward the cat, who catches it in mid-air with its mouth full of skill. The shot was perfect, and the scene shows the cat chewing happily, eyes sparkling. The MC celebrates that the beast finally ate and holds it in his lap, acting all silly, feeding the treat directly into its mouth. Selena, seeing that, puts on a mocking voice saying the baby was hungry, amused by the situation. Kim keeps feeding the cat, who is now tame in his lap, leaving the MC beaming. Suddenly, the cat, who is facing away, turns around and shoots a look at Selena that would make anyone shake in their boots. Selena's eyes go wide, spooked by the beast's vibe shift, realizing things just got serious. With a sinister aura coming off its body, the cat stares at the elf, and she finally realizes what he is. As the penny drops, Selena says that now everything makes sense. She concludes, as she already suspected, that that thing is far from being a cat. We see the Monoceros, also known as the Horned Lion, displaying a fancy crest with the creature. Back when dragons disappeared and the world was overflowing with mana, these beasts were called mythical beasts and treated as sacred. Wherever their horn touched, water would spring up even in the desert, and the image shows an angel playing a trumpet while the lion performs the miracle of hydration. And dark lands gained light, turning night into day just with their presence. All this happened because of the Monoceros' heart, which was basically a mana nuclear power plant. Besides that, they said the horn on their forehead was a sacred energy passage, and anyone who touched them was asking for a tragic end. After the mana famine, they were almost extinct and, to protect themselves, started mimicking smaller animals, but without losing their mythical beast swagger. And so, they never bowed their heads to anyone, except for one person, the spirit of healing. Suddenly, a poop appears in the sand, displaying doing number 2 in the right spot success. The MC, now identified as the so-called spirit of healing Kim Ojin, celebrates smiling and says, "Way to go, Kim Sunja, let's have a churu." And then we see the cat, pompously introduced as the legendary legendary mythical beast Kim Sunja, meowing all proud. Sitting on the floor, the MC gives the treat to the kitty speaking in that silly voice we use for animals, and the kitten goes to town on the food. Selena, looking at that with a face like she ate something sore, wonders if this is really going to work out. The scene changes to a castle at night, where someone inside is curious about the situation. Baron Doyle, relaxing in a bubble bath, asks Annoyed if that thing ate properly. His spy confirms it, reporting that Kim Ojin is spoiling the beast in his lap, and that the cat is purring and eating like a starving beast. The Baron is still in the tub thinking this is all a lie, while the guard warns him that the troops are getting restless. Thinking about the devil lion and the plague, the noble looks at his own little pet and starts doubting if that cat is really just a cat. The scene cuts to a mysterious figure claiming that humans could never tame a Monoceros, and that no matter their power level, you can never let your guard down. He explains that in the worst case scenario, the mana turns into poison, and they go boom, potentially devastating an entire nation with this plague. The MC sticks to his lie, saying this happened in his world and people fought against the plague for years. Still soaking, the Baron remembers hearing that the Monoceros never eat anything offered by humans. So, he wonders if the kid knows some secret trick to make the creature eat. The scene shifts to the front of the clinic, where the sign is swinging, and someone calls the next patient. A nice little girl, the new receptionist, calls for the pink fairy guardian to come into the exam room. She points the way to weigh the kid, and the MC watches, thinking about how the clinic is running like this now. With the patience of a saint, Selena complains about the noise, and when the MC explains that the animal is just like that, she threatens to use magic to shut him up. In a flashback, she attacks a patient with magic just for cutting in line, while the MC screams her name in the middle of that senseless violence. Out of nowhere, the woman announces she's leaving, and the MC gets desperate, asking where she's going in the middle of a shift. He remembers that days ago she vanished, leaving a note with pretty handwriting saying back in a few days, which left him pretty ticked off with this unannounced break. Laughing his head off, he wonders if this isn't grounds for firing, shouting that not even a vet pulls a stunt like that. He called Pew to help, paying 2 silver coins an hour, double the minimum wage, and she agreed on the spot. The MC notices the girl is killing it, even offering to hold a big guy's weapon with a smile on her face. She's also into animals, holding a weird caterpillar, and saying she raised one of those when she was younger. On top of everything, she's proving her worth and already offers to carry a heavy box for the boss. Hyped about her performance, the MC starts thinking about hiring her full-time. But then, in the middle of work, he notices a weird vibe and stops to analyze things a bit. He finds the dead silence strange, since the room is packed with clients and pets, but nobody is making a peep. The norm would be total circus chaos, with animals growling and yelling at each other to see who's boss. With Sunja the cat on his shoulder, he looks around confused, seeing that the other animals are sweating bullets out of pure fear. The MC thinks it's bizarre, and while he stares at nothing, a giant, sinister lion aura appears behind him and the cat. The scene goes back to the clinic entrance, and a voice announces that the next patient can come in. A boy walks in holding a cute animal that looks like a giant hamster and asks if it's pimping, referencing chapter 7. Shocked, the owner says the critter used to weigh 500 grams and now looks like a 20-pound bag of cement. Examining the creature, the MC questions if hamsters usually grow that much or if that thing turned into a panda in disguise. The kid corrects him, saying it's not a hamster, but a flopper, and the MC remembers they use different names here. Suspicious, the client asks if he knows what a flopper is, and Kim stammers, looking all awkward. The new receptionist, P.O., saves the day, saying that Dr. Ojin is from another world, which is why he uses exotic terms. She says that's why he cures what nobody else can, and the owner believes he studied abroad to be that good. The MC, amazed by the girl's smooth talking, points at her and decides to hire her full-time right then and there. Back to the exam, he wonders how the animal grew so much, noting that its health is impeccable. Analyzing it, he sees that anatomically it's a hamster, but suspects some magic turned the critter into a monster. Meanwhile, Sunja the cat watches everything and lets out a sigh with a look like he's about to start something. Out of nowhere, the feline jumps from the shelf straight at the flopper, and the MC yells his name, terrified. With claws out, the cat hits the animal dead on, ignoring the MC screaming for him to stop. After the hit, the flopper splits into 3 smaller creatures that go bouncing around the room. Everyone's jaws hit the floor, and Kim thinks, in disbelief, that the animal just turned into 3. Kim freaks out, puts his hand on his head, and complains that this world doesn't respect the laws of physics, saying medicine doesn't explain this. The owner comments that pimping tripled, and the MC sweats, trying to come up with a lame excuse. To everyone's surprise, the boy cries tears of joy and hugs the animals, celebrating that he finally has a big family. All happy with the 3 of them in his arms, he's already thinking of names, while the little critters make cute noises. Suddenly, one of them lets out a squeak and bolts, making the owner scream in panic that the animal is escaping. The clinic turns into a mess with animals running around, and the MC yells that since they got smaller, they got way too fast. Finally, the MC manages to catch one, which keeps squeaking in his hand. He holds the little guy tight, and it won't stop making that distinct sound. Out of nowhere, Selena shows up holding the other 2 and claims that thing isn't a flopper, scaring the MC. She explains that the creature is actually a bloob, and while the MC MC is confused by the name. She questions where they came from. The boy says it was a gift from his dad and asks if Pimping is a demon, and the MC says he's going to investigate that right now. Selena orders the animals to be quarantined in a cage immediately, leaving the owner shocked by the rush. Looking super serious, she says not to worry because she won't dissect anyone, which only scares the kid more. The MC tries to calm things down, guaranteeing the clinic is ethical and doesn't do anything without permission, while wondering why he has to explain the obvious. The scene cuts outside at dusk, and the story explains that bloobs aren't natural, leaving the MC intrigued. Holding a candle and the critter, Selena reveals they are experiments from a crazy mage. The MC is shocked, imagining a mad scientist, and thinks that even in this world there are total nut jobs. Selena looks at the creature with affection and says the mage isn't that bad, but his mistakes can't be ignored. She comments that she thought the bloobs had disappeared and never imagined seeing one in a place like this. When she wonders if 100 years have passed already, the MC drops his jaw and yells, asking her age, realizing the informality. Suddenly, Sunja the cat starts growling, looking pissed, and the MC finds the sudden aggression strange. Loud banging echoes on the door, followed by someone screaming Kim Oh-jin's name. The person demands they open up immediately, and the MC exchanges surprised looks with Selena. The shout announces Baron Doyle, and we see the noble standing at the entrance accompanied by 2 henchmen. The MC thinks he's screwed because he was deciding whether to hide or release the creature, and the Baron already arrived demanding the monster. He regrets not preparing because he wasted time trying to feed the stubborn cat. With a forced smile, the MC greets the Baron and says he's arrived, while mentally cursing Selena's cowardice. He offers some tea, but the Baron refuses and demands the monster. Kim panics, saying the treatment isn't over, but the noble tells him to stop lying. The henchmen argue that if the clinic is open, the treatment is done, and the MC has no comeback. Stammering, he invents that there was a tiny hiccup during the treatment process, making the Baron suspicious. He keeps up the tall tale, saying that while exorcising the spirit, a mysterious mark appeared between him and the cat. The MC explains that now they are linked forever, pointing to the cat in the cage, giving him a death glare. The men don't buy it and start cursing, calling his bluff, and he sees the plan just went down the drain. Deciding to go all or nothing, he smiles mischievously and asks why the Baron has an identical black cat locked in the dungeon. The Baron freezes on the spot, shocked and wondering how the guy knows a secret like that. The MC accuses the noble of planning to smuggle the cat and frame an innocent guy, making the Baron stammer, feeling cornered. Kim spells the beans that the one attacking the village animals wasn't Sunja, but the Baron's wolf. Desperate, the Baron yells that this is nonsense and demands solid proof. With a victorious look, the MC shows the medical record of an attacked animal, saying the wounds match the magma wolf's claws. Before he can finish, a henchman steps up and tears the paper to pieces with zero shame. The henchman mocks him, asking where the proof is, while the MC gets pissed at the analog system and wishes for digital documents. The man orders him to move, but Kim blocks the way, yelling for Sunja, and the henchman punches the cage. Irritated, the cat meows loudly and slashes the man's hand, who screams in pain, calling the animal a cursed thing. The MC gets desperate, not knowing what to summon, considering a teleporter while the cat hides in a metal box. He thinks about pulling out a pistol, but quickly discards the idea, thinking that would be the end of him. Remembering the phrase guns, lots of guns, he considers solving everything with bullets. Holding his necklace that glows brightly, he thinks about just flipping out, but decides to wait until the last second. Firm footsteps echo through the room, announcing that someone important has arrived on the scene. A blonde elf with an imposing staff appears, ordering everyone to calm down. Baron Doyle, shaking in his boots, stammers upon recognizing the unexpected visitor. He points to the World Tree staff and the mana circle on the elf's forehead, confirming his fear. The elf, with a total poker face and a little smirk, stares at the Baron without saying a word. In a panic, the noble identifies him as Kallian, the big boss of the Supreme Inspection Agency of the Aetherian Order. Stammering, the Baron pretends it's an honor and asks what the Holy Order is doing in a dump like this, while the MC laughs at the fakeness. Kallian explains chill lie that they came to verify a report about an endangered divine beast. The MC instantly fanboys out, admiring the elf like it's a movie and comparing the crew to Legolas. Selena appears next to Kallian, pointing at the cat, and the MC finally understands she disappeared to bring the cavalry. With this revelation, the MC pauses and starts connecting the dots in his head. He notices Selena's pointy ears and wonders how he didn't notice she was an elf, concluding it's because she's just too fierce. Kallian rolls up, casting a stylish Vienta Arca Rundas, while the cat stares at him from inside the cage with a totally judgy face. The kitty lets out a soft meow and starts glowing with an aura, looking like a high-powered LED bulb. The creature floats out of the cage, looking all majestic, like gravity is just optional for it. Kallian and the other elf confirm that it is, without a doubt, a Monoceros, exactly like Selena's gossip had predicted. Looking closer at the cat's head, Kallian notices the wound looks like a cut from a World Tree branch, which is pretty specific. He analyzes the injury and drops the bombshell. That's the mark of a mana extractor. The elf gets furious and explains that some jerk drained that sacred being's energy with brute force. He turns to Baron Doyle, who's already shaking like a leaf, and calls his name. The noble stammers a terrified yes. Seeing red, Kallian grabs the Baron by the collar and asks if he was the one who ripped the horn off the little one. The noble lets out a sharp scream of despair. The Baron, crying and almost soiling his pants, swears up and down that it wasn't him, no way. The elf doesn't buy that nonsense and screams, demanding to know who it was then, while the Baron just screams in terror. The noble and his goons leg it, running desperately and screaming for help like there's no tomorrow. The MC, crying tears of joy, thinks it's awesome that animal protection in this world is so effective and praises the elf bro. Kallian says few weapons in this world can cut a divine beast's horn, so finding the culprit is going to be easier than taking candy from a baby. The elf thanks Kim Ojin, saying that thanks to him the beast was saved. The MC gets all bashful, playing the humble card. Callion announces he's taking the critter to the barracks for care, and that news drops like a bomb on the MC. He thinks they're taking Sunjo away forever, but he resigns himself, thinking it's the right thing to do. Out of nowhere, the cat goes full Hulk and starts breaking the barrier with brute force. The elves are totally confused and try to calm the beast. The kitty ignores everything, busting through the barrier and shocking the crew, who scream in pain. Free from the spell, the cat floats with a satisfied look, letting out that cute meow of someone who caused trouble and liked it. The cat flies straight into the MC's arms, who holds the creature all happy, looking like a kid on Christmas. The MC hugs the kitty, laughing his head off, while the cat purrs comfortably, showing who really owns who. The elva's jaws drop, not understanding how a Monoceros can be so attached to a human. The cat snuggles into the MC's chest and rubs its head on his necklace, which starts glowing like a Christmas tree. Callion's eyes go wide when he sees the accessory and thinks, surprised, that the necklace looks familiar. The MC, holding the cat, tries to figure out the logic of the situation, but even he is kinda lost. The elves stare at him with a suspicious and shiny smile, and the MC feels a chill down his spine. He remembers it's the same maniacal look his professor had when he tried to drag him into a master's program. Traumatic. The MC realizes even Selena has that scary look, and the other elves agree, thinking the idea is genius. Callion says he's gonna entrust the little one to the MC, who asks if he's sure he didn't hit his head. The elf explains that the protocol would be to take everyone to the barracks for a basic interrogation. But since Selena is babysitting the MC, he trusts him with the critter. The MC looks at her, hoping for some backup. She just drops of a huh, whatever, with zero excitement, leaving the MC bummed out by the indifference. One of the elves casts a spell on the staff, speaking some pretty words in Elvish just for show. The magic transfers to the MC's necklace, which glows bright, and a light wraps around him and the cat in a magical vibe. The light materializes a new collar for Sunja the cat, and the elf explains it has magical protection from the Etherian order. He says this helps recover the little guy's power, and the MC celebrates with the cat, who meows in agreement. Another elf mentions there's an alarm system. If things go south, they get a signal instantly. The MC digs the security tech. Callion, all grateful, says he's gonna give the MC a gift too, who immediately gets curious, asking what it is. The elf pulls out a fancy gold ring with a green stone, saying it carries his family's authority. The MC takes the ring and thinks it's a scam. He imagines he'll be forcibly recruited for some suicide mission if he puts it on. But Callion swears with a salesman smile that it's just for protection and to call for help if things get hairy. Before the MC can run away, the elf grabs the ring and shoves it on his finger, saying he allows him to put it on for him. The ring fits like a glove, and while the elves praise it, the MC is panicking, asking if he didn't mess up. The story makes a point to remember that Kim Ojin has been single since birth and never wore a ring. He stares at the first ring of his life, thinking it has some dark curse embedded in it. Trying to wiggle out of it, he says he works with his hands and a ring gets in the way, making up a lame excuse. Callion, smooth as silk, tells him to think of it as armor, but the MC thinks that's crazy talk. Kim insists that as a doctor a ring is unhygienic, but the elf solves the problem with magic. The elf casts another spell and the MC's hand starts glowing, giving him a scare. The ring simply fuses with his skin, leaving only the stone, and the MC is shocked by the elven biotech. It turns into a tattoo on his finger, and he screams because he didn't expect to become a canvas. He looks at his hand, thinking it's crazy to have a tattoo out of the blue, but admits it looks pretty stylish. Callion teaches him how to use the magical walkie-talkie. Just put his hand on his chest and call his name. The staff and the tattoo glow in sync, showing that the magical Bluetooth is paired. A light shoots out of his hand, and the MC is breathless, feeling the power. Callion explains that it transmits voice over distance, and the MC compares it in awe to a modern video call. The elf asks him to say light, and his hand turns into a flashlight. The MC screams like a kid getting a new toy. Callion asks if he liked it, and the MC, all giddy, says he loved it, while the cat looks with disdain at his excitement. Selena teases him, saying before he'd rather kick the bucket than wear the ring, and now he's all happy. Changing the tone to something more serious, Callion says he has a question for Mr. Aljan. The elf wants to know where he got that necklace, and the MC says it's a long story, trying to stall, but he spills the truth straight up. He got it from a dragon. Callion almost falls over with the reveal. The elf, in disbelief, asks if he really found a dragon, since those critters have been extinct for 1,000 years. The MC repeats extinct with a blank face, not catching the weight of the info. An elf girl asks if he's 1,000 years old, and he denies it, laughing nervously, praising her wild imagination. He explains that a dragon's bat got sick, and the big lizard summoned a delivery healer. And, by bad luck or good luck, the healer was him, who arrived there wrapped in a blanket and totally confused. He says the necklace was payment, but the dragon scammed him and sent him to this world, instead of sending him home. Taking the opportunity, he asks if anyone there knows how to ship him back to Earth, but there's an awkward silence. Out of nowhere, the elves kneel and start worshipping him as the spirit of healing, making the vibe super weird. The MC is lost, repeating the bizarre title without understanding when he became a deity. He stops to think and remembers the dragon also had a few screws loose. The memory comes back of the dragon singing, "Oh, spirit of healing, smiling like a happy lunatic. The MC rubs his temples, feeling the migraine of responsibility hitting hard. He tries to explain it's all a misunderstanding and he's just a regular guy who pays bills. He says he was summoned by the dragon's mistake, remembering the creature scratching its head and apologizing for the screw-up. He reveals the bat wasn't even sick, it was just lack of a bath and some care. Simple stuff. Callian argues that he has the necklace with dragon power, and the MC says he took it as compensation for the travel trouble. Suddenly, an elf girl grabs his hands tightly, all dramatic, calling his name. Callian puts on a grim face and warns that the world is going down the drain in a serious crisis. He asks if the MC knows what mana is, and Kim, scared by the intensity, says he doesn't know squat. The story explains that mana is the world's sacred battery, and it's everywhere. The more mana, the stronger the creature, comparing the reserves of a dragon, a griffin, and a random human. Callian says that dragons and divine beasts started disappearing from the map one by one. Even the world tree is withering, and if the mana runs out, everyone is toast. Smelling trouble, the big bosses created an organization to try and save the day. Thus was born the Etherean Order, which the MC compares to a magical environmental NGO. Callian drops the legend that the spirit of healing, with the dragon's necklace, is going to save the land. The MC points to himself, in disbelief, asking if he really got stuck with the heavy lifting. Callian says they've waited for him their whole lives, but Kim tries to insist they got the wrong guy. The elves kneel again, swearing loyalty, and the MC freaks out, saying he'll pass on the fanfare. He's almost crying with rage, losing patience with this forced idolatry. With hate in his heart, he curses the dragon mentally, imagining the lizard giving a sarcastic thumbs up. Cut to the clinic, where the MC tries to fake normalcy, calling the next patient. A woman brings in a flying fish named Lumi, 42 years old, living his golden years. The owner asks why the fish doesn't fly anymore, and the MC gives it to her straight old age is creeping in, since they live about 50 years. The woman understands, but makes that sad face of someone who didn't want to hear the truth. She begs for a way to make him fly again, even if just for a short time, but the MC says it's complicated. He explains that getting old is part of the package deal of life, and she needs to accept that the little fish is retiring. With a look like her world just crumbled, the girl reveals the truth is her dad's been bedridden and sick since last year. She says the old man loved flying fish and raised a bunch of them, but ever since he got in bad shape, the little guys started getting weak right along with him. Eventually, one by one, they stopped being able to fly, and now Lumi is the only warrior still trying to stay airborne. Holding the little fish with total affection, she explains the situation and shows she's genuinely worried. The woman explains that Lumi was her dad's pride and joy, so much so that he took the fish everywhere, like a little keychain. She reveals that actually, she heard when her dad proposed to her mom. He gave Lumi as a gift. The MC is shocked, thinking it wasn't a ring but a fish, and figures that has to be a joke. Selena, however, confirms it's true. Back in the day, proposing with a flying fish was a huge global trend, which leaves the MC even more glitched out by these customs. The fish's owner explains that it's not like that nowadays, but a few decades ago, flying fish used to shine. The MC immediately wonders if they were like living flashlights in the dark. Flying fish, in a school across the night sky, looked like shooting stars. That's why they were the main attraction at fancy parties and events. That's why her dad worked his tail off to get Lumi, and he released the critter into the sky during the proposal, a story that makes the MC kinda uneasy about the idea of using an animal for a romantic stunt. And just like that, the parents lived super happily ever after, like that classic image from a picture-perfect commercial. But a few years ago, the mom went to the big place in the sky because of an illness, and after that, the dad started wasting away too. Now, the old man just locks himself in his room, spending the whole day taking care of the flying fish like they're the only thing left. She says, desperate, that her dad said if the fish stopped flying, his life is over too, which leaves the MC breathless with the weight of that responsibility. The MC compares the situation to that story The Last Leaf, where the person thinks they're gonna kick the bucket when the leaf falls. He wonders if the old guy isn't being a bit too dramatic. Selena, with the subtlety of a sledgehammer, suggests buying new, healthy fish to trick the old man. The MC almost freaks out at her coldness and wonders if she's a heartless robot. The woman then turns to Mr. Ojin and starts begging. She asks, for the love of everything holy, that he help Lumi fly again. She also begs him to save her father from despair, while the MC, frustrated, thinks he already said 1,000 times that the fish is healthy and it's just old age. She keeps up the drama, saying if Lumi doesn't fly, her dad will lose the will to live, and the image shows the gentleman in bed, holding the fish with the greatest sadness in the world. Desperate, the woman begs for help for the fish and her dad, but the MC replies that he already said it's natural aging and tells her to find a doctor for the old man, even though he admits the attachment to the critter affects his health. With a facepalm, he realizes the problem is that he's seen this movie before. The memory shows a woman crying because the animal won't eat, and someone says she needs to eat to stay strong and take care of him. In another scene, a guy is crying saying the pet won't run anymore and that he's gonna go with him if the animal checks out, but the MC cuts the drama, letting him know it's just a dislocated kneecap. He reflects that these emotional bonds are sometimes unhealthy. The woman begs him to promise to help, and the MC gets confused, not knowing what she's talking about now. Out of nowhere, the scene changes and some elves grab him screaming, "Oh, spirit of healing," making the MC let out a genuine scream of fright. He wakes up with a jump, cold sweating and shocked by the crazy nightmare he just had. Sitting on the bed, with the cat sleeping in absolute peace, the MC stays silent, trying to understand what kind of trip that was. Sending a good morning with a zombie face, he greets Selena, and she, astonished, comments that he looks terrible. The MC explains the night was tense and he didn't sleep at all, and Selena shows up looking like she pulled pulled an all-nighter at the club, just without the fun part. She asks if he was worried about the flying fish, but the main guy replies that, look, it wasn't exactly because of that. Selena says the situation is heartbreaking. She comments that he treated it like aging, but actually it must be a lack of mana. The MC repeats mana looking kinda lost, remembering he used to hear adults talk about that when he was a kid. The story explains that the fish stopped shining because the mana in the air disappeared, and that, at this pace, they'll soon stop flying for good. The main guy compares this to the pollution in his world and concludes the ecosystem here is also going down the drain. The memory of the dream comes back full force, with the elves calling him a savior, and the MC, annoyed, complains that that nightmare is haunting him. The conversation dies when someone in a hood enters the clinic, warning that it's not just the fish that are in bad shape. The woman shows her face and says several animals are getting sick. She explains people say it's old age, but actually it's all the fault of the lack of mana. She finishes by saying the living proof of this is the sleepy cat right there, Mudosaros. The MC looks at the passed out cat and remembers it's true. Sunjo was originally an imposing lion. Picking the kitty up, he thinks she's cute as a cat, but tries to imagine what she was like in the giant lioness version. Seeing the critter grooming herself while sleeping, he wonders if she'll keep that cleaning habit when she turns back into a lioness. Then he repeats cleaning herself with that look of someone who had a bright idea, and tells himself to wait a second. He turns to Selena and asks what the fish owner's illness was, and she says it was something that made his bones weak like glass. Then he asks what the standard medicine for that is, and the girl says she'll just give a general idea, since she's no doctor. The young woman starts explaining, saying they'd use flower root to fix up the bones. She continues the list, talking about blood root for pain and other herbs to round out the combo. The MC asks if that has side effects, and she confirms that blood root causes fatigue and wrecks the nerves over time. With sparkling eyes, he shouts that that's it, and asks if there's a cure to cancel out that bad effect. Selena says yes, but that it would cancel out the original medicine, and the main guy, all excited, says that's no problem at all. It's all part of the plan. He excitedly asks her to teach him how to make that remedy, and the woman points behind him, saying the answer is right there. Confused, the MC repeats the question, looking around like a headless chicken. He turns around and runs face first into a mandrake in a pot, shouting the plant's name in surprise. The MC gets close and says she heard everything. Right warns he's just gonna take a few little leaves for the medicine, real quick. The mandrake lets out a hemp and looks away, making the main guy ask what the drama is this time. He tries to insist with a pretty please, but the plant starts shaking like it's gonna explode. The plant opens its mouth and lets out a scream that must have woken up the entire neighborhood. The scream is so loud that the MC and Selena cover their ears, making faces of pure pain. The mandrake now appears crying with a tissue, and the main guy, already out of patience, asks why she freaked out of nowhere. The MC complains he almost went deaf, but Selena asks him to go easy on the sensitive little plant. Messing with the mandrake, the girl suggests she's jealous because he's only paying attention to the cat Sunja lately. Totally awkward, the main guy tries to defend himself, saying he's shy and he's never raised a thinking plant before. Cut him some slack. Selena suggests giving her a name, and the MC is surprised, thinking it's bizarre to name a vegetable. The mandrake goes back to crying loudly, and the main guy is shocked, wondering if she really has such a fragile heart. With a grumpy look, he grumbles and thinks now he has to deal with the plant's feelings. Can you believe it? Pointing at her, he names her Kim Mandel. The plant gets all happy, and a window shows her trait as being jealous as heck. Selena celebrates with Mandel, while the plant strikes a victory pose, and the MC just watches with a look of total boredom. He turns to Mandel and asks for the 2 leaves, and the little plant, now in a good mood, agrees. Mandel strikes an excited pose showing off the leaves, and the main guy thinks that's still kinda creepy. The hooded woman comments that animals and plants love Mr. Ojin, and says she's dying of envy. She asks to borrow his necklace for a second, and he agrees, looking kinda suspicious. Holding the necklace, she observes the jewel, and thinks it looks like a cheap accessory from a street vendor. But when she brings the necklace close to the mandrake and the cat, both go on alert, ready to throw down. The cat and the mandrake start screaming at each other, clearly bothered by the object being near. The woman concludes their friendship is fake because of the dragon power in the necklace. Selena tries to break up the fight, and the woman wonders if the power only works with the MC. She turns to the main guy and asks how he activates the necklace's power. The MC, thoughtful, explains that he focuses on what he wants, his chest tightens, and the power just comes out. The woman repeats chest and wonders if the power is linked directly to his heart. The MC holds the necklace and the cat comes purring. He comments that he just has to touch the jewel, and the animals come like a magnet. The MC decides to give the cat a treat, and the woman realizes that, in that moment, he's feeding the animal with his own mana. She asks herself if that isn't dangerous, but the main guy interrupts snack time, saying that's enough for today. Selena arrives excited, shouting his name and bringing the crushed leaves, and he thanks her dryly. With a green test tube in hand, the MC finishes the new medicine looking like a mad scientist. The hooded girl asks if she should prep the house call bag, and the MC says yes, and he wants a really big one. The two look at the main guy, and the girl wonders if he really is the spirit of healing. We see a giant fancy mansion surrounded by an impeccable garden. The owner's daughter, Luriel, enters the room with the meds, saying it's time for her dad to take his dose. Out of nowhere, she screams, seeing her dad lying on the floor, groaning in pain. She runs to help and scolds him, asking why he tried to act tough and get up by himself. The gentleman explains it looked like Lumi wanted to see the window. The daughter says he should have called for help. Crying, she continues the lecture, doctor, saying his bones are weak and it could have gone really bad. The father replies with a tired look that he doesn't have much time left anyway, and the daughter screams his name in despair. She insists he can get better, but he says people don't go to a better place just because of sickness. Sitting on the bed with the fish, he philosophizes that a person checks out when hope runs out. Luriel cries and begs him to stop saying such sad things. Suddenly, the MC bursts into the room saying people going to a better place is because of wrong diagnosis and bad medicine. Father and daughter look terrified, and the gentleman asks who the nutcase invading the room is. The MC introduces himself as a vet and starts explaining that Lumi not flying wasn't because of old age. He points at the old guy and reveals the problem was the side effects of the meds the gentleman himself was taking, leaving the man in shock. The bearded guy asks what that has to do with anything, since he's the one taking the medicine, not the fish. Holding the little fish, Ojin explains that flying fish might live on land now, but they still keep habits from back when they were in the water. History shows these fish have a weird habit, they love cleaning people they like, kinda like an aquatic spy. So, the MC drops a truth bomb and says Lumi stopped flying because it OD'd on the chemicals the old man puts in his hair and beard. The old guy looks totally dumbfounded, unable to say a word after that shocking news. Trying to dodge the blame, he stammers that it's impossible and swears up and down that the fish don't go around licking his toopy. But his daughter, looking like she knows everything, asks if her dad's been living under a rock to not know that. She explains that it's an all-you-can-eat buffet while he sleeps, and the image shows the old man snoring while the fish have a party in his beard. The bearded guy is shocked and finally realizes why his beard always woke up shinier than a waxed floor. The MC opens his toolbox full of syringes and says he's already whipped up an antidote to get the little fishies back on their feet in 1 or 2 days. Kim suggests a sleeping cap, but the old man goes radical and decides to shave it all off, leaving the MC feeling a bit awkward. Syringe in hand, he gets close to one of the fish, giving it that good boy talk to see if the little guy cooperates. When it's time to grab the other one, the critter starts acting up, so Selena offers to hold the beast with her signature tough love. After the shots, the 3 fish are lying on the floor, kinda woozy, but the MC guarantees the effect kicks in fast. Suddenly, the critters start shaking and flopping on the ground, and the girl asks if that's part of the cure or if things went south. To everyone's surprise, one of the fish takes flight, and the old man, all emotional, screams Lumi's name like his team just won the Super Bowl. The old man hugs the little fish while crying, thrilled it's not a dream and celebrating that the little guy didn't kick the bucket. The MC and Selena watch everything with that little smile of a job well done, relieved the customers are leaving happy. The MC says the others will wake up soon, but one of the fish gets close and stares deep into his soul while Ojin says thanks. And since gratitude is rare these days, the fish takes a bite out of the MC's hand, making him yell in pain. The critter flies up and bites the back of his neck, a total betrayal, making the MC ask what kind of psychotic break is happening. The other 2 fish join the party and start chewing on the MC, who screams in desperation asking if they turned into a school of piranhas. After securing their snack, one of the fish floats there trembling, looking like it used up all its energy on the attack. The old man looks at that with a face like he just connected the dots and wonders if it's what he's thinking. Right then, the fish starts glowing bright, wrapped in some mystical energy. The MC's eyes go wide, not understanding this neon rave that started out of nowhere. The 2 women also stand there paralyzed, trying to process the light show. Everyone looks at the ceiling and sees the 3 fish flying and glowing, and the MC comments on the obvious they turned into flying lamps. The old man, eyes watering, goes silent at that nostalgic scene. A flashback shows the past, with several fish glowing in the night sky, setting a movie romance mood. His late wife appears young and enchanted by the view, thanking a certain Fred for that moment. This Fred takes the hint and proposes to her, and the scene shows the couple in love surrounded by the glowing fish. Back in the present, the old man kneels holding one of the fish, smiling like a kid on Christmas morning. The MC, with a kinda awkward smile, admits the scene is pretty, despite the bites he took. Selena smiles and says now she understands why these fish played Cupid for the marriage proposal. But the hooded woman, totally ruining the mood, says that to glow like that they needed to taste Kim's blood and hair, and grumbles that using animals for events is abuse. She thinks to herself that, just as she suspected, this healer isn't just some nobody. Staring at the MC, she questions if he's really the savior the world was waiting for, or just some unlucky guy. We see the woman talking to Kallian, asking if he really believes Kim Ojin is the so-called spirit of healing. Kallian, with the calmness of someone sipping tea, says yes, because he checks all the boxes of the prophecy. The woman shoots back saying giving the ring was overkill, reminding him the accessory wasn't even his to hand out. The elf smiles and says the original owner would have allowed it, and even throws shade saying the ring looked great on Ojin, leaving her annoyed. He drops the bomb that the Monoceros chose Kim, and asks if she needs any bigger proof than that. Suddenly, we see people running desperately through the halls, and Kallian comments that the gossip about the spirit has already leaked. He concludes that the rumor is gonna spread faster than a cat video on the internet. The woman, shocked, accuses him of wanting to use Kim Ojin as bait to attract trouble. Kallian explains that catching small-time villains is easy, but they want to uncover the rotten truth behind everything. He wraps it up with that anime villain speech, saying they're just waiting for the truth to come to light. The hooded woman, serious, warns she won't let the MC get screwed over, so the elf better stay in his lane. Kallian changes the subject, saying he knows she went to the village for another reason, but it's a huge coincidence the spirit showed up right there. The woman remembers when she saw Kim for the first time, fighting a giant rabbit in the middle of the street. She says his necklace caught her eye, so she decided to stalk the guy a little bit. She admits he's special, but stubbornly insists she doesn't see him as this so-called spirit spirit of healing. With a smile, Kalian says she'll find out if she keeps tailing him. He sips his tea and drops that the prophecy isn't just about saving the world, leaving that mystery hanging in the air. Another quiet day at the clinic, until a scream breaks the silence asking what that mess is. The MC freaks out seeing a blob, that creature looking like a jelly panda, and asks why the thing is still there. The woman holds the critter in a weird way, saying she's taking care of it, and the MC yells at her to have some manners. There are two types of these little things, the ones with a core in their head and the ones without. If you hold the one with the core, the others don't multiply, kinda like forced birth control. The MC points to the critter in her hand, shaking in his boots, and asks if that's the type that turns into a plague, and she confirms. She warns that the critter is sensitive and multiplies with stress, while squeezing the poor thing, making the MC yell at her to stop torturing the jelly. Kim, already ticked off, asks if she means she's gonna keep that danger right there, and she confirms with total coldness. She refuses to give the bloob back, even with the MC demanding she make that thing disappear. These critters need VIP care, because bad owners make them multiply and destroy entire villages. The MC, in a panic, asks if she's serious about raising this bioweapon in the clinic, and the answer is a dry yes. He freaks out, saying it's like keeping gunpowder next to a bonfire, pointing out his other pets are already enough trouble. Selena, feeling pity, asks if the owner let her take it, commenting that they seem to like the critter. The hooded woman repeats the word permission with that mocking tone. With an icy look, she asks if she needs that, and Selena, afraid of getting beat up, says she doesn't need anything. Nope. The woman admits she didn't ask for permission but for cooperation, and the MC realizes it was basically daylight robbery. Ojin tries to call Selena to his side, but the girl screams his name, frozen with fear. She whispers to the MC to let it go because she heard some tense rumors around. Selena warns him not to mess with elves who hide their ears, and the MC is left clueless, not understanding why. She explains that elves mark the ears of dangerous criminals, and the MC compares it to an ankle monitor, shocked by the info. The MC thinks it makes sense, seeing as Selena is also the type who solves everything with a beatdown. He keeps rambling, realizing she's also full of mysteries about her own life. With a panicked face, he starts imagining what kind of barbaric crime she committed to get marked like that. Fear hits hard and he wonders if she's already sent someone to the afterlife, seriously considering firing her before it blows back on him. Suddenly, he remembers he has bills to pay and announces it's time to open up, cutting the tension. While opening the door, the MC thinks she's competent, but that he can always hire someone else and fire the criminal later. As soon as the door opens, a crowd invades the clinic shouting Kim Ojin's name like he's a rock star. The people beg for help, bringing snakes, weird nesting creatures, and all kinds of messed up animals. In the middle of the mess, someone tries to organize the line shouting that they're gonna hand out tickets. DMC, with that awkward smile, thinks that, for now, the firing will have to wait because he needs the manpower. The scene cuts to Baron Doyle's castle, where a mysterious big shot is demanding explanations about the Aetherian Order. The Baron says he has no idea why they visited. He explains the guys barged in talking about a divine beast, did an interrogation, and took off. The boss gets furious and yells, asking if the Baron let the Order take the Monoceros just like that, on a silver platter. The Baron, trembling, says he'll get the beast back, but the man questions how he plans to steal from the Aetherian Order being such a useless bum. Then the Baron drops the bomb that he doesn't need to steal from them, because the one who has the critter is Kim Ojin, leaving the boss jaw dropped. The man refuses to believe it, claiming the Monoceros doesn't mix with human riffraff. The Baron says he thought so too, but the beast has become Kim Ojin's shadow. The mysterious guy goes silent, frying his brain cells to understand, and grumbles that this can't be true. He asks who else knows about this, and the Baron starts listing the crew, him, his men, the butler. The boss asks if he silenced the witnesses, and the Baron, slow as ever, asks what silence means. Furious, the man yells, calling the Baron a moron, and orders him to gather everyone who was there that day. The Baron, looking wrecked, complains he got chewed out for an hour straight. Sitting in his armchair, he tells the butler to call Theodore and Alex, but finds out the two are on their day off. The butler explains they complained about overtime, so he let them go. The Baron freaks out and orders them brought back by force. With an ice pack on his head for the migraine, the Baron feels they are totally screwed, while the butler warns he doesn't even know where the guards went. The scene shifts to a tavern, where a guy says he saw the Aetherian Order, and another, curious, asks if Kalian was in the mix. A young blonde dude, full of questions, wonders why the Aetherian Order ended up in this godforsaken middle of nowhere. On the street, the gossip mill is spinning between two ladies saying the Order went to knock on Kim Ojin's clinic door. One asks why, and the other says it has something to do with an endangered species. Elsewhere, the crowd is saying this vet ain't normal. One girl is totally tripping, suggesting he's a fairy from another world, but her friend presses X to doubt. Two bearded dudes debate the rumor about the spirit of healing. One thinks it's a myth, but the other claps back, saying the guy dominated a giant rabbit with mana and tamed a divine beast with his bare hands. A buff dwarf holding his axe grumbles that maybe the doc is just a physician who happened to chug too many protein shakes and got ripped. We see a castle where a woman wonders if this so-called spirit of healing is actually a man. Another woman mentions that since everyone says the spirit is super beautiful, she thought it was a lady, and says being a dude changes everything. The first one, curious, asks why. With a mischievous little smirk, the woman explains that the prophecy says the spirit of healing will save the world, and whoever wins over this spirit is gonna rule the whole shebang. The image shows a crown and a throne, making it clear the prize is absolute power. We see the residential area of Monteville's noble district. A luxurious and imposing mansion stands out, the kind where the property tax probably costs an arm and a leg. Someone arrives apologizing for being late, claiming the bed was too comfy, and a voice welcomes him. A blonde and totally elegant man named Adrian appears, taking off his coat and finding the deadly silence in the clinic weird. A gray-haired gentleman, who must be the manager, guesses that today they only have mute animals and asks for the first patient, but the assistant warns there aren't any. Adrian, surprised, asks what the prank is, since it's almost noon, but the manager confirms nobody has shown up since early morning. With a thoughtful look, Adrian tries to figure out what's going on and wonders if that petty Count Downey is trying to sabotage his business. Annoyed, he threatens to drag his rival to court, but the manager bursts his bubble, saying the problem is likely the new clinic in Belmore. Adrian, with all his disdain, repeats the name Belmore like it's a dirty word and questions why his noble clients would go to a district full of commoners. The manager, giving an awkward smile, says he doesn't know why, but the competitor's clinic is popping off. Adrian grumbles they must be using cheap tricks. With that smile of someone who thinks he's God's gift to the world, he brags about graduating from the Royal Academy, dropping that commoner doctors are all a dime a dozen. Stretching out, Adrian decides to treat this as a vacation, remembering that Lady Marianne's unicorn appointment covers the month's salary, but the manager interrupts with a bombshell. The manager warns that Lady Marianne just sent a message canceling everything, leaving Adrian looking totally stunned. With an expression of total panic, the blonde guy begs not to hear what he thinks he's about to hear. The manager, shaking in his boots, stammers that she said she's visiting Kim Ojin's clinic instead of his. At that moment, Adrian gets super ticked off and slams the table with all his might. Completely shocked and salty, he yells to prepare the carriage right now, because it is about to go down. The blonde guy introduces himself as Adrian Havencrown, bragging about his renowned family and his supposed exceptional beauty. Smelling a rose to set the scene, he keeps praising himself, saying he's smart, cultured, and a rare talent. The scene shows his luxury items while he questions why someone so amazing became a veterinarian. A client asks if her little pet will be okay, and Adrian thinks he chose this profession because he loves people. Adrian, with a rehearsed smile, says he loves people who love their pets and reassures the woman so she won't stress out. Holding the animal, he promises Annie will get better, leaving the owner touched. Inside, he thinks nothing pays better than the pleasure of easing a pretty woman's worries. In a cute chibi version, he holds a paper on ethics, swearing he separates personal life from professional, with the exception of a single person. That exception is Lady Marianne Astrid, the pink-haired woman appearing next to a unicorn. The story focuses on Marianne's face, while Adrian's heart races like crazy just seeing her. The unicorn gives Adrian the side eye. While he acts all goofy near the woman, he thinks maybe his destiny is to treat her beast. But now, the blonde guy is nervous, imagining if she's letting some random commoner touch her unicorn. A note on the screen warns that this is a lie. He yells at the assistant to close the clinic because he's rushing to the Astrid family home. The assistant, being honest, comments they could have closed already since nobody's there. Arriving at the imposing mansion, a voice comments that it's weird seeing him there. An older lady, sipping her tea calmly, asks what he's doing there without an appointment. Adrian, being dramatic with his hand on his chest, says that as Lulu's vet, he got worried, reminding her that the animal is very sensitive. The blonde starts getting worked up, saying it's absurd to let a commoner treat her, but the lady interrupts him, correcting that it's not a man. She drops the bomb that Kim Ojin is actually a woman, leaving Adrian so shocked he screams in disbelief. Adrian repeats the question, asking if it's a woman, and the lady confirms, saying she's a commoner but seems to know her stuff. The woman keeps adding fuel to the fire, saying the vet is so pretty people call her a fairy. The blonde guy turns red as a beet, wondering if she really is a fairy and imagining the girl's beauty. Adrian zones out, imagining if this so-called fairy is blonde like the sun or brunette and cold, until someone calls him back to earth. Shocked, he asks what's going on. The lady reveals she made it all up to see his reaction and orders them to throw him out. While two guards drag him away, Adrian screams he's not a creep and it was a misunderstanding. The lady thanks him with disdain for the show. The blonde keeps struggling, screaming he only has eyes for Lady Marianne, but the lady says he isn't even hiding it anymore. He tries to fix it, saying he just wants. With sparkling eyes, he screams he wants to marry her, but the lady loses patience and orders them to toss him in the street, ignoring his screams of no. Back in the carriage, Adrian decides there's no other way, and he'll have to go see this Kim Ojin personally. Arms crossed and making a sour face, he thinks to himself that he knows everything about unicorns. The story explains that people think unicorns only like pure women, but that's total hogwash. In reality, the beasts judge people by their scent, as the image shows one sniffing the air. These animals hate the smell of blood and, especially, the funk of a sweaty man, even making a disgusted face, as shown in the image. If someone gets close carelessly, they risk getting kicked or turned into a shish kebab on its horn. On the other hand, they love great smelling and clean women, like Lady Marianne. With a cocky smile, Adrian concludes that unicorns, much like himself, basically hate men. He remembers getting beat up a bit to learn, but finally discovered the secret to success. The trick, while he douses himself in perfume, is taking 2 showers before the appointment and using the same fragrance as the beast's owner. He starts imagining the smelly commoner vet, who probably doesn't even know what deodorant is, getting close to the unicorn. He already visualizes the disaster, with the woman getting attacked and the owner screaming. In his head, it's gonna be total chaos. That's where he plans to arrive shining clean and smelling good, saving the day for the lady who would call him doctor. In his fantasy, he promises to protect the unicorn forever, and they live happily ever after in a fairy tale. Back to reality in the carriage, Adrian gives a little evil chuckle, thinking his plan is genius. Inside the carriage, he can't help himself and lets out a cartoon villain laugh. The driver just thinks, here he goes again. The carriage finally arrives, and the driver announces they are in Belmore. Wasting no time, the blonde steps out stomping firmly, ready to stir the pot. Upon arrival, he runs into a crowd and wonders what all the commotion is about. In the middle of the crowd, two guys are jaw-dropped seeing a unicorn for the first time in their lives. Adrian realizes it's the unicorn and cracks a mean smile, ready to watch the commoner's humiliation show. Lulu, the unicorn, is there bucking and making a ruckus, and the crowd is cheering her on, yelling, "Go, Lulu!" Focused, the blonde mentally roots for her to keep putting on a show and smashing everything. But, to the surprise of the whole nation, the MC shows up riding the unicorn, all happy yelling Yahoo, while the beast looks like it took a sedative. It's so chill. Adrian's eyes pop out, completely shocked, screaming without understanding a thing. The MC comments smiling on how calm the beast is. In the background, the blonde guy loses it, saying that's impossible. He thinks Lulu is aggressive even when doped up, remembering how she usually stays tied up with a grumpy face. Marianne comments to the MC that she's never seen Lulu let anyone ride her besides herself, and the MC, surprised, asks if she's serious. Glitching out, Adrian concludes it's some trick and yells for Selena to try touching Lulu too. The MC asks if the elf did any magic, and the scene shows the hooded girl getting closer. The blonde thinks that if there's a spell involved, the beast will accept anyone. Selena then reaches out her hand. The next second, the unicorn chomps down on Selena's arm hard, making her scream in pain. The MC runs to help, asking if she's okay, while Adrian, way in the back, doesn't understand zip. The blonde gets even more confused, wondering if that aggressive reaction was just a fluke, while the people around get scared. The MC warns that a horse bite is serious business, while the unicorn snorts in irritation and the girl complains about the pain. The MC tells everyone to go home. The crowd scrams and Marianne enters the clinic with Selena and the unicorn. The door closes with the closed sign, and a curious bystander whines about missing the rest of the show. Among the crowd leaving, someone asks if Adrian saw the bite, and the blonde stays silent, processing the info. He decides he's not budging and gets a brilliant idea when he sees an open window. Adrian gets ready to climb a tree that is conveniently stuck right next to the window. He starts climbing, grumbling for no one to doubt his skills. Using his strength, he keeps going up and brags about being the tree climbing champion at the Royal Academy for 2 years. Arriving at the window, he manages to see the MC and Selena inside. Not wanting to miss a single detail, the blonde pulls out some binoculars and starts spying. Through the lenses, he sees the MC dressing Selena's wound and admits the job is well done, wondering what herb he used. Adrian notices the way he bandages is different and wonders if it's a commoner thing. Suddenly, he grips the binoculars tight when he sees a weird symbol on the MC's hand. The image zooms in on the MC's hand, showing a very peculiar tattoo. Through the binoculars, we see Adrian's eye wide with shock, thinking that can't be true. The scene opens showing the fancy crest of House Celestrian, with two noble elves posing in the background. Still in spy mode, the blonde guy thinks House Celestrian is basically the Crami de la Crami of elven society. His jaw drops, totally confused why some random commoner would have the symbol of such a powerful family. Meanwhile, the MC keeps working, completely unbothered. The image focuses on Selena's arm with the bite mark, and the MC comments that he thought it was minor, but the critter's saliva was actually venomous. Finishing bandaging the girl, the MC says they were lucky things didn't go totally south, noting how weird it is for a unicorn to be that aggressive. Marianne, with the grumpy unicorn behind her, deduces that the beast really just didn't vibe with Selena. With that look of someone who messed up, Marianne offers a sincere apology and promises she'll foot the hospital bill. The MC holds Selena's bandaged hand and says it was their own carelessness, leaving Marianne just watching and thinking, well, look at him. The noblewoman asks if she also punches the clock at the clinic, and Selena confirms she's a medical assistant. The hooded girl adds that he handles the heavy lifting, and the scene shows her flexing a strong arm, making the MC all awkward. Marianne smiles and says she gets it, commenting that someone famous like him must need a lot of people helping out. Standing next to her unicorn, she drops the comment that the clinic looks a bit cramped for someone of Kim Ojin's level. The MC goes, "Excuse me," and Marianne repeats that a bigger clinic would suit him better. With the smile of someone who's been through the ringer, the MC replies that she never saw his old crib. The scene flashes back to the old clinic, a spooky place in a building with no access, a clogged toilet, and complaining neighbors. The MC starts panicking, remembering how he zeroed out his account and took out a loan to open that place, freaking out over the interest rates, until Marianne calls out to him, worried. Not knowing what to say, Marianne comments that she doesn't know the details, but it looks like the MC really went through hell. She looks at him with admiration, feeling silly for not noticing how amazing he was, leaving the MC feeling shy. Marianne tells him to relax because she has good taste, and suggests her family sponsor a brand new clinic just for him. Completely lost, the MC wonders if she's hitting on him or if this is a prank. The noblewoman gets up close, making him blush and saying if you want, but a scream cuts the mood instantly. The camera reveals that the black cat Sunja launched itself at the unicorn, Lulu, and the animals are making a huge scene. The room turns into a war zone, with the cat on the bookshelf and the unicorn rearing up, while the MC jumps in to break up the fight and Marianne stands there clueless. Marianne tries to calm Lulu down, who's gone full samurai mode, asking why she's acting like this out of nowhere. Selena puts a hand on her chin and finds this whole mess very suspicious. The story explains that unicorns hate humans but are usually best friends with smaller animals, especially with Monosuke Rose. Since they have a lot in common, they should be trading likes, not blows. With a vein popping on her forehead, Marianne asks, annoyed, if the girl is insinuating that Lulu turned into trash. Selena says straight up that's exactly it, and the elf's brutal honesty catches everyone off guard. Marianne complains that Selena is too sassy just because she's an elf, but the hooded girl claps back that line cutters have no moral ground. Holding some tickets, the noblewoman shouts furiously, explaining that the system there is organized by numbers. In a cute chibi version, Selena asks if Marianne didn't buy that ticket with some serious cash. Marianne defends herself, saying it was a fair trade, and a flashback shows her offering a chest of gold, admitting it was just a little souvenir. Another cute character comments that solving everything with money is typical noble behavior. The unicorn makes a disgusted face, wondering if anyone in this clinic ever took an etiquette class. Suddenly, the beast rears up and lets out a neigh that almost bursts everyone's eardrums, making someone scream in terror. The chaos makes it bump into a bookshelf that starts to tip over, and someone screams desperately while saving the books. Out of nowhere, Adrian throws himself through the window yelling danger and shattering all the glass in the process. The blonde guy faceplants on the floor in front of the bookshelf, and Selena, who saved Marianne, looks at him confused and says got it. The MC and Marianne look at Adrian's body stretched out on the floor and wonder if he kicked the bucket after that dive. Adrian lifts his totally smashed head, saying thank goodness Lady Marianne is safe, and the noblewoman screams in fright. Marianne asks what he's doing there, but the blonde guy replies that she's the one who looks hurt. Someone yells asking who the crazy guy breaking the window is, and Selena, in cute mode, is already presenting the bill for the damages. Adrian stands up all gallant and apologizes, thinking he scared the ladies with his grand entrance. With a smile straight out of a toothpaste commercial, he introduces himself as Adrian Havencrown, a veterinarian. Kneeling, he kisses one of the girl's hands and spouts some nonsense about protecting small and beautiful lives. The MC makes a disgusted face, thinking this guy is super cheesy, looking like an Instagram influencer chasing clout. Adrian kisses Selena's hand, who looks bored, and the MC wonders why a doctor enters someone else's clinic through the window. Selena asks why all the drama, and he replies why not, leaving the blonde guy shocked by her coldness. With the unicorn by his side, Adrian drops the bombshell. He is Lulu's official doctor. He pets the mare, calling her pure and white, commenting on how she got worse in just a few days. Pointing his finger in the MC's face, Adrian accuses him of ruining Lulu's health, leaving our doctor totally confused. The blonde guy demands the truth, but the MC replies calmly that Lulu is fine and the only thing wrong here is the window intruder. Adrian gets pissed, calls the MC useless, and drops the insult you scumbag with the face of a Sibarark. The MC freezes instantly, repeating Sibarark without knowing what it means. He asks Selena what that is, and she explains casually that it's a carnivorous plant. An image shows the plant, which pretends to be innocent to capture prey by surprise. The flower snaps shut, catching an insect, and the story explains they use this term to describe a player who looks nice on the outside. The MC goes oh, got it all excited, but then the realization hits and he gets confused. Marianne scolds Adrian, asking how he dares to use such low slang with Mr. Algin. The noblewoman says she didn't know he spoke such trash, and he tries to yell that he has grounds for it. Desperate, Adrian asks if the MC has a fiancé, and he denies it, firing back asking if the blonde guy has ever even touched a woman in his life. Suddenly, the MC starts getting a nosebleed and looks all scratched up, asking why Adrian is inflicting emotional damage on him. Adrian yells that he's a liar, but the MC replies that he really wishes it were a lie. The blonde guy points to his hand asking what that mark is, and the MC looks confused. The image focuses on the House Celestian symbol, and Adrian explains that it means either the MC is family or is set to marry one of them. One of the girls asks excitedly if it's like an engagement ring, and the MC panics, shouting no. Marianne begs for it not to be true, and the MC explains he got it from a guy named Callian. The girls are shocked to hear a man gave it to him, and the MC yells annoyed that it's not what they're thinking. In a cute version, the MC begs Selena to explain, but she denies him without mercy, leaving him hanging. Adrian lets out a huge sigh of relief. Suddenly, Lulu starts feeling sick with a look of pain. The beast makes a weird noise and drools, making Adrian scream with worry. Lulu collapses on the floor, and everyone rushes around frantically. The MC asks Theo to bring a candle and a stethoscope, commenting that this is very strange. He recalls the mare was fine earlier and wonders why she deteriorated so fast. With the candle, the MC sees the pupil is normal and breathing is heavy, but it's nothing serious with the lungs. Adrian also examines her and realizes it's not an emergency, but soon thinks just as I imagined. With a victorious smile, Adrian stands up and congratulates Lady Marianne. The MC is totally clueless until Adrian announces happily that Lulu is pregnant. Marianne puts a hand on her chest, shocked, while Lulu stays lying down. The image shows Lulu with a huge belly, raising the question if there really is a baby on board. Marianne says disappointed that she thought Adrian was a competent doctor, despite being weird. She questions this pregnancy story and asks if he hit his head during the fall. Adrian insists there is life in there, pointing out that her vomiting looks like morning sickness. Selena comments that getting super protective is also normal during pregnancy. Desperate, Marianne asks for the MC's opinion, who stays silent listening with the stethoscope. The MC then confirms with absolute certainty that Lulu is indeed pregnant. Marianne screams that it's impossible. She explains that Lulu lives locked in a forbidden garden in the castle, where not even a mouse enters, let alone another horse. The MC stays calm and offers the stethoscope for her to check for herself. Marianne asks what that is, and the MC explains it's for listening to sounds inside the body. He asks if she hears Lulu's heart, and she confirms she does. He tells her to move the device to the mare's belly. Marianne is in shock hearing a second heart beating in the belly. She faints in total total confusion and the MC calls out to her, worried. Adrian runs to hold the girl, shouting her name, and the MC gets pissed at the scene. The blonde guy holds the unconscious girl and yells asking what the MC did to her and what tool that is, but the MC just offers for him to test it. Adrian grabs the stethoscope saying he won't fall for this trick, but puts the thing on backward. With the stethoscope in hand, he brags about studying at the Royal Academy and promises to expose the MC's tricks. Then, using the device on the unicorn's belly, Adrian hears a bell and is totally shook, covering his mouth. Adrian, all flushed and holding the stethoscope, is blown away by the loud sound coming from inside the beast, while the MC, with that "I told you so" smirk, just confirms it. The blonde guy excitedly describes hearing the blood, the joints, and even the pulse, calling it a work of art. The MC asks what he thinks about the baby's size, and the blonde guy, super hyped, says straight up that judging by the belly, she's been pregnant for at least 4 months. Marianne puts her hand on her head and thinks this 4-month story is ridiculous, swearing Lulu hasn't set a hoof outside the castle this whole time. The MC finds that weird, mentioning that horses love freedom, and asks why the poor thing was locked up. With a worried look, Marianne hesitates a bit, but decides to spill the beans and explain the situation. She reveals that this autumn, Lulu was scheduled to mate with Shark, Prince Theo's beloved steed. Lulu became the royal bride in the greenhouse and, because of that, she was kept under lock and key in total isolation. The story then draws an analogy with a positive pregnancy test, showing that girl got pregnant on the sly, without anyone suspecting a thing. The scene suddenly cuts to a door with an ICU sign, warning that entry is forbidden for anyone who doesn't know the ropes. A saline bag appears on screen, while a scream echoes in the background to add some suspense. The MC is giving Lulu an injection when someone yells, asking what the heck he's putting into her body. Adrian, freaked out, points at the IV bag asking what that is, and the MC, chill as can be, replies it's just fluids. Lulu is resting easy getting the IV, and the story explains she was dehydrated from puking so much, so shooting supplements straight into the blood fixes the problem in a jiffy. Adrian has a huge overreaction, looking like he got electrocuted, and someone wonders why the guy is making such weird faces. Now all hyped up, the blonde guy thinks the method is amazing for skipping the digestive system, and the MC thinks the guy actually isn't dumb, while Adrian peppers him with questions about the needle. Marianne, sitting there racking her brain, asks them to zip it for a second. Selena, prepping some stuff, comments that breeding with the prince's horse was gonna go south anyway, since unicorns are super picky. The scene shows Lulu snubbing 2 suitors, and Selena says that if they don't find the perfect partner, they stay single for life. With a serious look, Selena adds that however, once every few decades, a miracle happens. It happens that a regular horse gets chosen by a unicorn, and the foal born from that union. Selena wraps up by saying this horse becomes a historical legend. The image shows a golden horse, the supreme hybrid. Adrian has a light bulb moment and suggests sending Lulu's foal to the palace instead of the original deal. He offers to explain the situation to the prince, convinced royalty will love getting such a rare critter as a gift. Selena, however, bursts his bubble, saying that plan is a total bust. She explains that this famous hybrid story is basically an urban legend. You can't trust it, and besides, they don't even know who the baby daddy is. With an air of superiority, Adrian comments that Lady Marianne's mansion is full of thoroughbreds. He starts listing the studs Siegfried, fast and handsome Terran, who can take a beating, and the popular Dolly. And finally Black Thunder, the stallion with the most stamina, making up the F4 of horses. The blonde guy guarantees that if the father is one of them, the foal's pedigree is saved. Marianne, bummed out, agrees with Adrian and says that since the mess is already made, they need a plan B. Adrian then says the mission now is to find out who the father is, and Marianne agrees. With sparkling eyes and a smug smile, the blonde guy goes to offer his help, but gets cut off instantly. Marianne, desperate, grabs the MC and begs for help, leaving him surprised and Adrian with his jaw on the floor in the background. The noblewoman begs the MC and Adrian is crushed, turning into a stone statue in the corner. The MC, feeling awkward, says he's not a detective and warns that a stethoscope doesn't do DNA tests. Even so, Marianne insists one more time, and the MC stays silent with a forced smile. He then points to Adrian, who's sulking with his back turned, and suggests that the show-off doctor over there would be more useful. The MC explains that he needed the device to discover the pregnancy, while the blonde guy figured it all out with just his hand and ear. Marianne gets confused by the term show-off. He goes on, saying Adrian was the only one who noticed Lulu wasn't in good health, as shown in the image of him examining the beast. The MC wraps up by saying that, most importantly, Adrian came all the way there worried about the patient, so he's the right guy to solve this. Marianne starts to agree, but the MC cuts her off, telling her not to overcomplicate things. Selena explains that pregnant unicorns go wild and get violent when separated from their partners. The hooded girl asks if Lulu caused a scene on the way, and the noblewoman replies she came quietly. In a cute chibi version, Selena concludes that the drama started only an hour ago. The image shows a flashback of the unicorn smashing everything. Selena asks how they arrived, and Marianne answers the obvious: they came by carriage, with Lulu tagging along. Suddenly, the penny drops and Marianne is shocked, hand over her mouth, thinking don't tell me. The scene cuts to a stable. A man is feeding a horse named Joseph, telling him to eat up, because they don't know when they're gonna head out. The scene goes back to the clinic, with the gang walking out, and a voice laments for the young lady. The unicorn out of nowhere starts neighing like crazy. Marianne and the MC turn around, startled by the beast racket. The unicorn starts smothering a brown horse with kisses, in a scene full of hearts. Marianne is horrified by the scene, and lets out a no worthy of a soap opera. She tries to separate the two, yelling for Lulu to come back, outraged that such a precious gem would do this. She finishes by wondering what got into into her head to get with that mutt of a horse. The MC, shocked, thinks he's seen this movie before. He remembers a drama where the mother-in-law forbids her daughter's marriage to an ugly frog. Adrian walks up to Marianne and says that, although it wasn't expected, that horse is the perfect match for Lulu. Marianne, furious, asks if he's kidding and questions what a baby unicorn knows about love. The MC steps in, dropping the truth bomb that Lulu chose him, and they even made a baby, so she has to accept it. Selena backs up the warning, reminding her that separating the pregnant mom from the baby daddy makes her violent, asking if the noblewoman didn't see the chaos just now. Marianne goes quiet, processing the blow, while the unicorn makes a sad face and lets out a crying sound. A furious voice echoes through a castle, wanting to know how they let a carriage horse get near the precious gem. Inside the castle, a nobleman tears into a man kneeling beside the horse, who can only apologize. The poor guy tries to justify himself, swearing he didn't know anything and that he never left the lovebirds alone. The nobleman accuses him of lying, yelling that he wanted to use the mutt to dig for gold. Terrified, the man denies it to the death, saying he would never have the audacity. The nobleman ends the chat and orders both of them to be arrested immediately. He finishes by warning that soon enough they're gonna get a serious punishment. Elsewhere, while cutting flowers, a maid thinks about how mean the count is, since Mr. Joseph didn't do anything wrong. Another maid comments that the heart wants what it wants, even for animals, and the third one agrees. One of them asks why they wanted to ship Lulu off to the royal palace in the first place. The other replies it was for the crown princess contest, and that Marianne is also in that race. One of the girls figures out that Lulu was basically a bribe, while the image shows the beast all dressed up as a gift. The first maid laments that Lulu lost the chance to live in luxury, wondering how she went and hooked up with a carriage horse of all things. The colleague opines that the unicorn takes after her owner, and when the other doesn't get it, the gossip starts talking about Marianne's past. Suddenly, the head maid pops up and tells them all to shut their mouths, scaring the group. The older woman continues the scolding, asking if they need a lecture to wake up to reality. The scene cuts to silence, showing Marianne looking like she's in trouble. The story goes back in time a bit, with a maid running to the greenhouse and screaming that things have gone sideways. Inside, Lulu is collapsed, looking terrible, with a red liquid on the floor, while someone screams her name. Marianne runs to the unicorn, distressed, wanting to know what happened. The story explains that Lulu wasn't eating anything because of morning sickness and out of nowhere, coughed up that red liquid. With arms crossed, Selena repeats the explanation that the separation makes the beast anxious and sick. Marianne wonders, indignant, if Lulu got into this sorry state just from missing that mutt. A maid warns that if it keeps up like this, things are gonna get ugly. Stroking the unicorn, Marianne asks when the MC will arrive, and the maid says they called in the morning, but nothing yet. The maid says it must be the distance, while Marianne stays beside the collapsed Lulu. The girl suggests calling another doctor, but Marianne gets thoughtful. After thinking, she orders them to bring him, leaving the maid confused. The scene cuts to a man pulling the brown horse, while Marianne's voice orders them to bring the mutt over, pronto. Outside, the head maid covers her nose, complaining about the stench of a caged animal. The head maid is pissed, saying they should have given the beast a bath before bringing him near the mistress. The guy tries to say they were told it was urgent, but gets cut off. At that moment, Marianne appears at the door and orders them to let the beast in. Hearing this, the brown horse neighs with happiness. Lulu, who was almost kicking the bucket, lifts her head and responds with a soft neigh. The brown horse approaches and nuzzles her snout in a cute reunion. The unicorn rubs against her beloved's neck, happy as a clam. Seeing this, Marianne asks for water and a towel, determined to clean up her son-in-law with her own hands. One of the maids is totally shook by the order, but Marianne couldn't care less and tells her to hurry up and make some soup for Lulu. The scene ends showing a tray with a basin of water and a towel, all prepped and ready to go. Then, the focus shifts to Marianne's hands wringing out a soaked cloth inside a basin of water. With all the care in the world, she starts wiping down the brown horse with the damp cloth, while Lulu takes a nap right next to him. Marianne looks at the horse and thinks he isn't worth a red cent, but hey, what can you do? He's there. The scene cuts to a flashback where an older man is yelling at a meanie version of Marianne, asking if she's lost her marbles. The young noble girl cries with her face in her hands, while the man questions how a count's daughter went and mixed with the son of some random merchant. Back in the present, Marianne looks at the brown horse, and with a totally depressed look, calls herself an idiot. She reflects on the life of luxury Lulu could have, full of fancy banquets, but wonders if that's what the unicorn actually wants. Having that thought, Marianne turns her face away, looking like everything finally clicked about the whole situation. Right at that moment, the MC Kim Oh-jin finally shows up with his medical bag, and someone shouts the man's name. The MC starts his speech, explaining it's normal to want the best for family, but he keeps it real, saying animals and humans are different things. Marianne listens in silence, just soaking up the MC's deep wisdom with a thoughtful look on her face. Then, he opens the briefcase, which is stuffed with jars of medicine and other medical gear. While grabbing some items, the MC continues the lecture, saying that in the animal world, there's no such thing as social class or bills to pay. Holding a bucket, he wraps up his point by stating that Lulu doesn't think she's better than a regular horse just because she has a horn on her forehead. The MC approaches the two animals, petting the brown horse so he doesn't get spooked while he examines the unicorn. The story shows a cute scene of the two lying together, proving that Lulu's happiness is being glued to her crush. Marianne stays quiet, head down, processing the reality check she just got. The MC shows her some meds and says he's gonna help Lulu out now, but warns that this is just a band-aid, not a permanent cure. He looks the noblewoman in the eye and lays it down, telling her she needs to attack the root of the problem without beating around the bush. The MC concludes by telling her to let the little couple be happy, and Marianne, defeated by exhaustion exhaustion, nods in agreement. With everything sorted, the MC says goodbye to leave, but Marianne gets startled and asks if he's already bouncing. The noblewoman insists that he traveled from really far away and should stay for at least a day since Lulu just calmed down. With a smile, the MC says he'd love to chill, but explains there's a line of people waiting for him at the clinic. He continues, saying the assistant back at the hospital isn't exactly trustworthy, and the scene cuts to Selena almost crushing a little bird with too much aggressive love. Marianne, kind of awkward, just replies that she understands the complicated situation. The MC, with a sly smile, says he's leaving the aftercare to that guy over there, leaving Marianne totally clueless. Then, the MC points up at a tree where Adrian is all twisted up in the branches, and drops an "Oops," leaving the woman's jaw on the floor. Seeing the blonde guy passed out on the tree branch, Marianne screams his name, unable to believe the weirdness she's seeing. The MC and Marianne stand in silence, staring at Adrian hanging there like a badly made Christmas decoration. The blondie starts flailing around, trying to get down from the tree without breaking his neck. The scene of the boy looking like a gecko continues, while Marianne just watches the cringe unfold in silence. Out of nowhere, Adrian lands on the ground striking a heartthrob pose and apologizes for the lack of manners. In his mind, the MC thinks that wasn't a lack of manners, it was a crime against dignity itself. The blonde guy tries to explain himself, saying not to get the wrong idea, he was just worried about Lulu. With the MC giving him a side eye, Adrian swears it's true, and that he was gonna leave after taking a peek at her. Marianne then steps up and says he should have let her staff know before popping up there. The blondie replies that he actually tried, but they blocked him because of some blacklist. Without warning, the MC reaches into Adrian's pocket and pulls out an object, asking what the heck that is and if it's supposed to be a stethoscope. Holding the thing, the MC thinks it looks like a dollar store toy, while Adrian turns as red as a chili pepper. The blonde guy grabs the item back, shouting that it's a prototype and it'll get better. He then hands the gadget to the MC, telling him to keep it. The MC looks at the stethoscope in his hands, while the narration says a good doctor needs good tools, not that junk. Kim Ojin turns his back to leave, saying it's getting late. Marianne calls out, but the MC replies that unlike some slackers, he has work to do. Adrian watches the doctor leaving and thinks Kim Ojin is a much cooler guy than he imagined. With his back turned in a smile, the MC thinks to himself that he already knew the blonde guy was a weirdo. The scene cuts to Lulu eating from a bowl, while Marianne thinks with relief that she's eating again and looks stronger. The noblewoman turns to Adrian and says that's a huge relief and thanks him. The blonde guy replies, playing it modest. Near a small table, Adrian thinks love and care are the best medicine. Meanwhile, Marianne can't believe he was the one who actually got his hands dirty to take care of Lulu. With a sad look, Marianne reflects that her stubbornness caused all this pain and she should have let the animals be together a long time ago. Petting Lulu, Marianne confesses that maybe she was jealous, leaving Adrian totally confused. She starts remembering a time when she was innocent, just like Lulu before the trouble started. But at some point, she picked up the nasty habit of judging people by their bank balance or last name. Adrian comments that nobles are all like that anyway, but admits he wasn't that way when he was a kid. Marianne then remembers when she saw him for the first time and didn't even care about his clothes or status. The only thing on her mind was that his eyes were too beautiful to be true. And to keep looking into those eyes, she felt like she would give up anything. But in the end, she gave up on him to secure her future. Yet now she wonders if it was worth it. With a depressed face, the noblewoman admits to herself that she doesn't know the answer. Seeing her down in the dumps, Adrian drops a line. They say first love always ends in cold pizza and heartbreak. He continues, saying pain blinds us to what really matters in life. Marianne listens closely as Adrian finishes, saying we don't see the happiness right under our noses. He lays it down, saying her true soulmate might already be right there by her side. Hearing that, Marianne looks shocked, like she just got hit with a reality check. Her heart starts racing and she asks herself why it took so long to notice the obvious. Decided, Marianne announces she won't take part in the princess selection, and Adrian gets all giddy, thinking about her name. The blonde guy sticks his hand in his coat, thinking it's now or never, and how lucky he was to bring that thing. He gets on one knee holding a small box and shouts Marianne's name, starting a romantic speech. But before he can finish, Marianne shoves him away and screams that she's gonna hit on Aljin with everything she's got, and poor Adrian goes flying, agreeing on autopilot. Adrian, shaking like a leaf, asks if she's talking about the same Kim Ojin and why the heck she would do that. Marianne explains that if it's come to this, she'd rather be the boss lady running the show instead of marrying the one in charge. The blonde guy still doesn't get it and asks what she means, and the noblewoman, smiling, just tells him to grab some popcorn and watch. With fire in her eyes, she declares she's gonna get her hands on Kim Ojin, the spirit of healing, and take the power for herself. The noblewoman then holds Adrian's hands and thanks him, but the poor guy is still more lost than a tourist without a map. She continues, saying it would be wonderful if they stayed best buddies forever. The story says it was a total fatality, and Adrian cries, promising revenge against the MC. Somewhere else, the MC, turned away and masked, sneezes out of nowhere. Back at the clinic, Selena reads a letter and apologizes, telling the MC to keep reading that they accepted Kyo, and that's awesome. She keeps reading, saying they want him as Lulu's private doctor, but the MC replies from afar, no thanks. The girl insists, talking about the big money, but the MC says he'd love to, if it weren't for the mess he's currently living in. The scene shows the MC hammering the tooth of a giant hydra. He asks if she thinks he can leave, and the text box warns that the beast is 75 years old. In a cute chibi version, Selena just says she got the message. The MC keeps working on the monster's tooth and complains he's been there for an hour, and the plaque won't come off for love or money. The story shows a funny image of him dressed as a miner, wondering wondering if he's in a coal mine with all that digging. He then tells Selena to spray water on 231, asks if it's okay, and asks for cotton and medicine. Looking closer, the MC realizes there's something weird stuck in there. He pulls the object out and shouts that he found a ring in the middle of the beast's teeth. The Hydra's owner celebrates, calling him an angel, but the other guy uses some gaming terms that leave the MC confused. The story explains the beast is a relic given by the king, but the pest decided to eat the family inheritance. The two men cry with joy, thanking him profusely for finding the ring. The scene shows the Hydra with its mouth open, while the MC warns there's still a lot of plaque and rotten teeth to deal with. Holding up 2 fingers, the MC says it'll take about 2 hours, but in his head, he knows it's gonna be 5 hours of suffering. Selena points to the beast's other head and reminds him there's one more, and the MC lets out a scream of pure despair when he realizes. The image focuses on the MC's face crying rivers of tears, completely bummed out by the news. Seeing the doctor's state, one of the owners says they need to cheer the man up and orders them to bring that thing over. The guy shows a painting of a buff dude fighting the Hydra, explaining it's the MC, who gets terrified asking what kind of madness that is. The man introduces the official painter and asks if the MC liked it, and the poor guy, in a panic, wonders how anyone could like such a bizarre thing. The painter says he'll finish the gift soon. The MC tries to refuse, but the artist is hyped up on the inspiration. The MC then begs for them to at least put some clothes on him in the painting. Meanwhile, the Hydra closes its eye, looking totally fed up with it all. Selena, rocking that mysterious hooded look, glances back looking like she just saw a ghost, totally shook. Just then, the Hydra lets out a screech loud enough to bust eardrums, making everyone wonder if that sedative actually worked or if it was just sugar water. Selena's hand starts glowing blue, ready to cast a sleep spell, but before she can work her magic, someone yells for her to watch out. Out of nowhere, Blondie Adrian pops up in front of the Hydra and fires off a powerful spell, leaving Selena just standing there, stunned, watching the drama unfold. The camera zooms right in on her eyes as she tries to process who this weirdo is that just appeared out of thin air. Adrian, looking clueless as always, gets confused, wondering if that beast isn't the noble patient from last time. But the Hydra isn't in the mood to chat and chomps down on the blonde guy's head, who only manages to let out a pathetic whimper while everyone panics. Without skipping a beat, the monster gulps Adrian down in one go, just like us eating a chicken nugget, while the crowd screams in terror. The crowd loses it, screaming that Shamir just had a human snack, while Selena freezes in place, her hand still glowing. Cut to the clinic door, where a sign says they're closed for the day, leaving the folks outside totally confused. One woman complains it's still early, but another mentions there are dozens of people rotting in line since sunrise. A lady holding her pet cries her eyes out about traveling so far for nothing, while another thinks this MC guy is a total scammer. Hearing someone talk about going to another hospital, Adrian, who is spying from a corner like a stalker, thinks to himself, all salty, that he won't forgive the MC. In his head, seeing the lady sad is a crime, and he's ticked off at the MC, using the title spirit of healing so shamelessly. The scene shifts to an old man explaining that this spirit of healing stuff is an ancient legend. He says whoever has this power could rule the world, but Adrian thinks that's the biggest load of nonsense he's ever heard. The head maid thinks it's ridiculous that Marianne falls for that talk, thinking that if such a being existed, she'd be the one ruling the world. Meanwhile, Adrian is admiring himself in the mirror, convinced he looks way more like a mystical spirit than the MC does. The old guy says he doesn't know much about beauty, but seeing the miracles the MC performs, you can tell where the rumors come from. Word on the street is he made a fish fly again, and even turned a demon into a cute little kitty. Then the head maid roasts Adrian, saying even he treasures the gift the MC gave him, leaving the blonde guy all embarrassed. Stuttering all over, he makes up that he just forgot to return it, and decides to go over there right now to settle it, giving a lame excuse. The old man leans in and asks if he made a copy of the tool, and Adrian confirms it right away, acting all slick. Cut to Adrian acting like a monkey in a tree again, wondering why he's up there if he was just supposed to return the thing. With a spyglass in hand, he tries to convince himself he's just doing some market research on the competition. Peeking through the window, his jaw drops when he sees the MC working on a giant monster, instantly recognizing a Gemini Hydra. He's stunned, thinking he's never seen one of those up close, and confirms the beast really does have 2 heads. The blonde guy is amazed, trying to guess what kind of complex surgery that is, betting it must be dental treatment. Looking closer, he sees the MC is basically doing a tartar cleaning on the monster's mouth and rinsing it all out. Adrian realizes the medicine applied where the tartar was removed is to stop inflammation from spreading through the whole gum. Adrian stays quiet for a second, trying to process the technique he just witnessed. Even though it hurts his ego, he admits the MC is killing it, even better than him, and he thought he was the big shot at the Royal Academy. Suddenly his expression changes and he lets out a huh of pure confusion. Through the spyglass, he notices the Hydra's tail starting to move, which is not a good sign. The beast's eye opens slowly, showing the sedation has worn off and the beast is awake. With blood in its eyes, the monster goes full force at Selena, who lets out a scream of terror. The story explains that's when Adrian took off running, shouting he was gonna save her, while someone warned about the danger. Back to the present, the Hydra swallows the figure whole, and the crowd screams in panic, thinking Shamir ate a person. The MC wakes up startled, thinking he's in a nightmare, not believing the snake woke up and snacked on Adrian in one bite. A light-haired girl tries to calm things down, saying since he was swallowed whole he must be alive, and preps another sleep spell. But the MC shuts her down immediately, telling everyone to stop. He points at the beast saying Shamir is in bad shape, and right then, the creature starts coughing and gagging like it's gonna hack up a lung. Getting closer, the MC notices with horror that the monster's tongue is purple. He yells that it's asphyxia because the beast swallowed something too big and clogged its airway. The owners run over in despair and beg the MC to find a way to save their pet. The blonde wants to use magic again, but the MC yells, forbidding it. He explains that if the beast passes out in the middle of this respiratory crisis, things are gonna go south fast. The MC turns to the kid, Pio, and tells him to remember his training, and the kid confirms they're putting the plan into action now. The MC grabs the monster's neck and announces there's only one way to solve this. He yells for the kid to hold tight without letting go, and asks if Selena is ready. Fists clenched, Selena gets ready and after the count, yells now. She lands a perfect punch on the monster's stomach, executing the famous Heimlich maneuver. The Hydra gags again and someone yells to do it again. With the force of the hit, the beast finally spits out what was stuck in its throat. A bluish shape goes flying, and the crowd cheers that he got out. Adrian's body splats onto the ground hard, motionless like a sack of potatoes. The people celebrate like a football crowd, shouting that they saved the poor guy. A guy praises the MC, calling him a doctor of the gods, but the MC, feeling awkward, just tells Selena to check if Adrian is still breathing. The girl goes up to the blonde guy and slaps him hard across the face to wake him up, making the MC yell, angry, that he didn't tell her to finish the job and send him to the afterlife. The camera shows Adrian's face, red and with a cheek swollen from the slap. Selena says he's alive, but the MC notices he looks like he's gonna pass out again. The girl mentions he won't be waking up anytime soon. She explains that by accident, she used the sleep spell meant for the giant Hydra on Adrian. The MC and Pio are shocked, imagining the power of the magic wall-up the poor guy took. Selena takes the chance to say the monster Shamir is stable too. Except the punch from earlier left some bruises on the beast's belly. She grabs an ointment saying it's an easy fix, but the MC is still in shock at this woman's brute strength. Cut to a house at the end of the day, with the MC finishing the bandage and asking them to be more careful with what they leave lying around the house. He lectures them saying if the pet swallows something, it's the owner's fault, and the man agrees right away. With a kinda psycho smile, the MC asks them to make sure the beast doesn't eat people next time, and the owner, crying, promises it won't happen. The story jumps forward a few days showing a bizarre painting of a buff dude saving Adrian from the Hydra, and someone screams in terror asking what that abomination is, a gift from the Baron. The employee presents the work the great rescue operation all proud, but the MC, horrified, tells him to get that thing out of there now. Selena mentions they even made a statue of the scene, and the MC panics yelling no, while she says the statue is trending. The MC freaks out, pulling his hair and yelling that this world is full of crazies. Cut to Adrian sewing logs in bed, having no clue he became a painting muse out there. Pio asks if Sleeping Beauty is okay after being out for days, and Selena explains it's just the magic hangover, and he'll wake up soon. Adrian wakes up confused, trying to remember what happened, and recalls he was staking out the tree spying on the MC's clinic. He remembers the flash of the two-headed snake waking up in front of Selena and lets out an ow when it clicks. In a mental blue void, the blonde guy hugs his knees and concludes he kicked the bucket trying to act like the MC. With a smile like mission accomplished, he thinks that was a worthy ending for a vet. In his trip, he imagines a unicorn being pampered by girls and thinks being reborn like that would be peak living. He's already picking out the pretty owner for the unicorn when a loud thud sound cuts his vibe. Amidst lights and hits, he feels pain and thinks it's the labor of rebirth, yelling for them to stop because it hurts. Suddenly, Adrian coughs and wakes up in bed, his face burning red. Selena asks if he's back on planet Earth, and he's shocked to see her there. With the girl over him, Adrian, still kinda groggy, tries to focus on who she is. Red as a pepper, he trips out and wonders if she's his new owner in the unicorn life. Selena pulls back adjusting her hood and mentions he's awake, while the blonde guy just lies there, lost in confusion. He sits up rubbing his eye, lost in time and space, but the girl tells him not to get up yet. She warns that the magic will leave him dizzy and nauseous, so it's better to stay soaking in bed for a couple of days. The blonde guy, still blushing, just agrees meekly with everything. The MC walks in with a mug and asks if he can stand, and Adrian looks at him doubting if it's really the MC. The MC hands him some medicine to drink up, mentioning he made it special and even put some special leaves in the mix. The MC says he already called Adrian's house and says he can stay there resting, which surprises the blonde guy. Desperate, Adrian says he doesn't want to be a burden, but the MC puts a hand on his shoulder and says that, as a doctor, he knows it's no trouble. With that serious look, the MC drops the catchphrase that health comes first, leaving the blonde guy shocked again. Kinda awkward, Adrian thanks him, and the MC leaves the scene telling him to rest. As soon as the door closes, the blonde guy admits to himself that the MC is an awesome guy. In a funny scene, he sees himself all jealous while the MC looks like an angel, and dies of embarrassment for being jealous before. Determined, he promises to be as good a man as the MC, but when he grabs a cloth, he notices a paper on the table and gets curious. He grabs the paper and realizes the bill is a total rip-off. The list includes a lodging fee, food, overnight fee, mandrake fee, window repair, and some compensation for mental stress, adding up to a small fortune. The camera focuses on the most ridiculous part of the bill, showing that mental stress alone cost 5 gold pieces, and the total with taxes was over 6 gold pieces. What a scam! With a face red with rage and grinding his teeth, Adrian screams in his thoughts that this crook is gonna pay dearly for this. The scene shifts to the front of a fancy mansion, where someone asks, shocked, about some neutralization surgery. An elderly couple goes into full-blown panic, with the man screaming asking if they're going to change their little baby's gender, but the MC explains it's just a figure of speech. The image shows Julian, an imposing Fenrir wolf, and the MC drops the bomb that he'll have to be fixed, making the couple almost faint from horror. The wolf's owner yells at the MC, calling him cruel for wanting to do this to his baby, while the doctor just smiles looking like he knows exactly what he's doing. The MC keeps it real and asks if the critter isn't leaking energy every day, and if it isn't hard taking care of so many puppies. The old man admits yes to both things. Kim Ojin continues, reminding them that the female's health is going down the drain because of all the births. The owner cries, hugging the wolf, agreeing, but says he's still too young for that. With a creepy little smile, the MC asks how many puppies they're gonna have in 5 years and accuses the old guy of being an illegal breeder, which the man denies immediately. The gentleman, crying his eyes out, asks what the point of life is without the family jewels, and the MC thinks, exhausted, here comes this sob story again. With the mansion lit up by dramatic lightning, the narration explains the animal mates out of instinct, not love, and doing it too much makes them age fast and shortens everyone's lifespan. The family slinks away, sniffling with the wolf on a leash, and the MC says he'll help schedule the surgery at the reception. The man just accepts defeat. Sitting at the desk, the MC complains that he needs to speed this up and that he hates repeating the same speech. Right then, Pio grabs his attention. The boy warns that the next patient is a childhood friend's pet and asks the MC to give it the VIP treatment since she's considered family. Laughing, the MC replies that of course he'll take care of it, especially with a request from the employee of the month. Pio gets all giddy and thanks him. The office door opens just a crack and someone asks permission to enter. A girl walks in holding a giant chicken named Pop for a checkup, and the story explains that the big bird is 7 months old and dances better than most people. The MC is amazed looking at the chicken, praises the shine of her feathers, and says she looks healthy as an ox. Pio pets Pop all happy and agrees, saying it's the healthiest critter his friend has. The MC compliments the girl on the VIP care, and she just nods, looking kind of bummed out. 20 minutes later, the MC is hugging the chicken with total affection, saying she's perfect and could even win a Miss Chicken pageant. The girl says Pop lost weight, but the MC corrects her right away, explaining it's just molting, no big deal. She insists the chicken had a seizure while sleeping, but the MC thinks the girl is a hypochondriac and says the bird was probably just having a vivid dream. The girl, freaking out, yells that the chicken had a sore throat and asks if the doctor is sure it isn't a nasty infection. Pio asks his friend Tur if Pop's throat is always irritated. She looks like she wants to say something but freezes up. The MC, cradling Pop, tries to calm Tur down, saying everything is fine and there's no need for all this panic. The girl agrees sadly, and the MC tells them to call the next patient to keep the line moving. The scene cuts to outside, and someone yells desperately, warning that there's bad news for the doctor. Pio's friend flies into the office, screaming that Pop vanished off the map. The MC and Pio are stunned by the news. Tur shows up crying and explains she went to the bathroom real quick, and when she came back, the chicken had evaporated into thin air. The MC keeps his cool, says Pop is in the building, and orders all the exits locked down right now. Selena announces at the reception that an animal went missing and tells everyone to stay put, leaving the crowd in shock. A lady complains her pet is going to get stressed, another agrees, and the animals start getting agitated immediately. Out of nowhere, a black kitten with an X on its forehead roars with the aura of a lion, showing who's boss. Everyone cringes in fear, asking for silence, and in the middle of the panic, we see someone holding a white chicken. The clinic's facade looks nice, but the tension is thick inside, as the narration says they searched everywhere and found no sign of the chicken. The MC asks her if Pop likes or hates anything specific, but the girl doesn't know anything. Nervous, Tur clutches her clothes and asks if the chicken didn't escape the building since they haven't found her. The MC uses logic and says Pop can't reach the doorknob to escape, so she has to be inside. Suddenly, Tur has a light bulb moment and warns that Pop loves men. Pio and the other girl are confused and repeat men. The MC tries to be technical, thinking some animals prefer deep voices. What can you do? But Tur, blushing beet red, says that's not it and that Pop is obsessed on a hardcore level. The image shows the chicken clinging to a desperate guy, and the caption confirms the creature's nickname, Man Crazy Bird. The MC turns pale and sweats cold, remembering how clingy she was during the exam. The scene goes back to the exam, with the chicken rubbing up against him with little hearts, while Tur thought he was her type, and the MC swore it was just affection. Selena appears looking serious and says that if that's the case, she knows exactly where that bird got to. The camera focuses on a closed door with the light on, where a certain someone is taking a nap. They open the door and find Adrian in bed, paralyzed, with the giant chicken hugging his head with all the love in the world. The MC looks at that calmly and says alright then, but now he wants explanations about this mess. Tur trembles with fear, and the MC asks why she did this, calling her a keeper straight up. The MC says he knew something was off from the start, while everyone stares at Tur. Serious, he comments that he's treated a lot of weird folks, but never a keeper. Tur stays silent, and the MC keeps it real. Nobody gets sad finding out their pet is healthy. Pio adds that with those stubby little legs, it's hard to lose a chicken just like that. The camera focuses on Pop clinging to Adrian, and the narration says it would be impossible for her to open that door alone and get in there. The MC demands the truth, and Pio calls out to Tur, worried about the situation. Tur confesses she did all this because her friend wouldn't believe her, but if a famous doctor said so. The girl says that if he said Pop was sick and disappeared, this friend would believe it in a heartbeat. The MC gets confused and asks who this VIP person is. With a fearful look, Tur reveals Baroness Clays. The MC is shook. Crying, Tur throws herself on the floor and begs the doctor to save Pop from that crazy lady. She screams that if they find out Pop is healthy, they're gonna hunt the poor thing down. She explains there's gonna be a hunting competition and a feast at Baron Clays' house for a special guest. The MC and Selena hear that even Prince Theo will be there, and Selena remembers the menu of the day. The scene cuts to Pop cozying up to Adrian, and Selena finishes the thought they were going to cook the chicken. The MC, Selena, and Pio are floored and yell what at the same time. Pio gets furious, clenches his fist, and yells asking if the Baroness lost her marbles to want to eat a pet. He continues outraged, saying they have a bunch of big fire chickens there to eat. Tur says sadly that the Baroness's chickens kicked the bucket because of a disease last year. The MC doesn't understand the obsession with eating Pop specifically, since there must be something else in the pantry. Tur answers it's because big fire chickens provide vitality, and the MC thinks I knew it, crazy folks. The story explains that this breed lays tons of eggs, a symbol of fertility, and superstitious people chase after that. The MC thinks it's absurd, this idea of eating the animal to steal its ability like it's magic. An image shows the Baroness with a villain face, and Tur says she's been eyeing Pop for a long time. The scene shows the Baroness threatening to kick Tur's family off their land if they don't hand over the chicken. Pio explodes with rage, saying that using their livelihood to steal a family member is unforgivable. Tur begs the MC to lie and say Pop has a nasty contagious disease. Crying a lot, she says a note from him would make everyone believe it and give up on eating the bird. She keeps asking for the love of God for the doctor to save the chicken from those people. The MC makes a sad face and apologizes, but says he can't do that. Pio is shocked and calls out to the MC in disbelief at the refusal. Selena also just watches with that look like she's calculating everything. The MC explains the moment he fakes a diagnosis, he stops being a doctor. He tells Tur he'd become a quack if he deceived others using life as an excuse. With the crew listening, he wonders how he'd treat other animals with pride after pulling a scam like that. Suddenly Pop, still hugging Adrian, blurts out that this is a load of bull. The blonde guy grabs the chicken's beak and butts in, asking if ethics are worth more than someone's life. Tur lowers her head and apologizes between sobs, hopeless. The scene changes to sunset in the city, with Pio trying to console Tur so she won't cry. Sitting on the ground, Pio hugs her, and she says, devastated, that there's no way to beat a noble. With tears in her eyes, Tur thinks about running away, but the MC appears and says that isn't necessary. The girl looks up and sees the MC and Selena there, looking like they have a plan. The MC pets Pop and repeats that, as a doctor, he can't help with this mess. Hugging the chicken, he smiles and says that, as a fellow pet owner, it's a whole different story. In a fancy ballroom, a blonde woman thinks she's in a dream with everyone looking at her. In a flashback, we see Adrian talking to a lady who's sucking up to him for having studied with royalty. Sipping a drink, Adrian says he saw Prince Theo all the time back in school. The woman goes wild. With a gossipy smile, the lady asks what the prince was like, and Adrian answers kind of awkwardly. He explains that the prince really followed trends, remembering when he thought he needed to redecorate his house urgently. The woman gets the hint, cracks a somewhat nervous smile, and asks if by any chance he knows a thing or two about the prince's culinary tastes. Adrian feigns surprise and asks if she's thinking about whipping up some grub for the man. The woman gets all flustered and starts stuttering like an old beat-up engine. With a super understanding look, Adrian says he gets the situation and that there's nothing more nerve-wracking than serving food to royalty. It's pure pressure. He then offers to introduce her to his trusted supplier. The woman draws a blank at the word regular, and right then, the silhouette of a man in a cape appears, explaining he's a secret merchant focused only on the elite and luxury imported ingredients. The lady gets dangerously hyped up, saying she had no idea someone like that existed, and she wants to meet the guy like yesterday. She thinks she really hit the jackpot on this one. The scene suddenly cuts to a wooden cabin in the middle of the woods with a super sketchy vibe. Adrian and the lady arrive at the spot, and he lets her know this is the meeting point. The woman, a bit wary, wonders why on earth fancy people would meet in a shack that's falling apart. Just then, a masked man and woman welcome them. The man introduces himself as Louis Vuitton and the woman is Channel. Totally not suspicious names, right? They say the duo arrived right on time and that the chef just finished making a dessert. Adrian and the lady stay skeptical, wondering if they're falling for some classic scam. The masked Channel presents the sweet, swearing it's a huge hit among foreign nobles. She gives the sales pitch, saying it's a devilish treat that gets you hooked on the first bite. The mysterious dessert is revealed, and it's nothing less than tankulu, some caramelized strawberry skewers. The masked Louis Vuitton offers the sweet to the lady, who takes the thing and comments that the look is pretty unique. She takes a bite with gusto, and a loud crunching sound cracks through the place. With her eyes wide with pleasure, the lady screams that this thing is absurdly delicious. The narration describes her experience in an over-the-top poetic way. Amidst the symphony of breaking sugar, a storm of sweet juice sweeps through everything, like a crazy dance of flavors on her tongue. Totally enchanted, the woman thinks it's unbelievable that a flavor like this exists. She concludes these guys are top tier and really know their stuff. Adrian, with that little smirk on his face, says to put the sweets aside and show the real gold. He asks if it's true they recently scored a precious item. The man with glasses, the so-called Louis Vuitton, replies that it's a time reversal magic and that he heard people calling it the plant of immortality. The lady is in shock with her jaw on the floor at this bombshell revelation. Louis Vuitton lets out a laugh and says you can't fool Adrian's intelligence. He confirms that, despite the name, they can't guarantee actual immortality. He finishes the sales talk saying they can claim it's an ingredient for longevity, leaving Adrian and the lady open-mouthed at the promise. With a sly smile of someone about to close a deal, Louis Vuitton starts presenting the miraculous product. He reveals it's the chickpea of eternal youth, capable of hitting the brakes on aging. Adrian and the lady are stunned to see a plate full of the beans. The man explains that if cooked and eaten, the chickpea holds back old old age and lowers the risk of various old people diseases. A nutritional chart of the chickpea pops up on the screen showing the benefits, and the lady, impressed, lets out an "oh my god," while the story explains it also helps unclog backed up plumbing and prevents going bald. Already sold on the pitch, the woman slams the table and screams that she'll take the entire stock. Louis Vuitton, playing hard to get, says that unfortunately, that's not gonna happen. He spins a yarn that, since the quantity is very limited, everything they have is already reserved for another client. Adrian tries to smooth talk, saying they are loyal customers, but the merchant replies that they have their complicated reasons. He drops the bomb that the client who reserved everything plans to give the ingredient as a gift to the prince, which sends the lady into a panic. The woman, absolutely flipping her lid, points her fan at the merchant and asks if this client happens to have a daughter of marriageable age. Louis Vuitton confirms it straight up, and the lady thinks, victoriously, that she knew that and so is trying to push her daughter onto the prince. Desperate not to be left behind, the woman screams that she'll pay 10 times the value and demands they sell the stuff to her right now. The merchant, with a suspicious glint in his glasses, replies that they aren't driven only by money. With drama worthy of a soap opera, he declares that their goal is universal truth, love for humanity, and the health of the people. Chanel finishes the sentence dropping in peace, but, with her face swollen from holding back rage, she thinks she wanted to say a whole lot more but will keep her mouth shut. The lady, red with embarrassment, thinks she ended up acting like a tacky novio rich in front of such noble and admirable people. Adrian insists on the drama, asking them to sell. He argues that helping someone in need would also be an act of love for humanity and a duty for those who sell. He keeps appealing, saying the merchandise should go to whoever is most desperate for it. The woman, moved by the defense, whispers Adrian's name. Louis Vuitton lets out a theatrical sigh and admits the blonde guy has a point. He says fine, they won. He agrees to make a VIP exception and sell the ingredient to her this time. The woman, radiant, gives thanks for the purchase, thinking she really scored big. With a smile of someone who just set a trap, the merchant says that, just for the record, there's a tiny detail she needs to know. The woman freezes and repeats, detail. He explains that the bean isn't called a chickpea just because it looks like a little yellow chick. The scene shows a giant chicken on fire, and he continues the mumbo jumbo, saying the bean has the man of the great fire chicken, the divine ancestor of the race, and a footnote warns that this is pure lies. With the straightest face ever, he says these creatures are very attached to their own kind, and because of that, anyone who eats these beans has a restriction. He finishes the scam saying it's forbidden to eat any bird related to a chicken for a while. The lady is shocked, and another note confirms this is total hogwash. Terrified, the woman thinks that of all things, chicken had to be the problem. She asks, scared to death, what happens if she eats it by accident. The merchant explains that all benefits go down the drain, turbo aging, elderly diseases, locked up intestines, and he delivers the final blow saying hair loss. The image shows a sad bald guy on a dark background, and the woman screams no with all her might. In desperation, the woman considers asking for her money back, but she thinks about the struggle it was to buy it and doesn't know what to do. Adrian, with that side smirk, thinks that since she worked so hard, now she has to deal with the consequences. Louis Vuitton comments casually that his dad is always asking for dishes with fire chicken. They say it works like a charm for old men's vitality. The lady grabs the plate of chickpeas, and Adrian comments on this male obsession. The two merchants think these old geezers really are hopeless. The woman agrees, all excited, and fanning herself comments that eating fire chicken is a thing of the past, and lets out a laugh faker than a $3 bill. The scene goes back to the front of the clinic, and the story celebrates that the plan was an absolute success. Tur, smiling from ear to ear, gives thanks for them saving Pop, and Pio smiles like a goofball right next to her. The MC, with Pop on his shoulder, says it was no big deal and hands a cage to her. He explains it's an exclusive carrier for the bird, paid for with the cash they swindled from Baroness Clays. With teary eyes, Tur asks if that really is a present for her. The MC replies it would be a huge problem if she lost the critter again. Tur thanks him emotionally, saying she owes him her life. The MC laughs and says chill, it's not that deep. The girl offers to help with whatever is needed, and the MC, who doesn't waste time, asks if she's up for a part-time side jig every now and then. Excited, Tur accepts immediately, guaranteeing she knows how to take care of animals. But Pop and the mandrake in the pot start beefing that very second. Pop lunges at the mandrake, who screams in pain, and someone yells to break up the fight. The MC, with that nervous sweat drop, asks her not to bring Pop to work. The girl agrees, while the bird sits sulking in the new cage. The MC turns to Adrian and says he's gonna pay his share for the help. He explains that thanks to the blonde guy's acting, the scam worked and the money came in. He hands 7 gold coins to Adrian, who is surprised by the amount and thinks the MC is more honest than he seemed. But the MC finishes his thought, saying that after medical fees, lodging, and extras, there were 312 silver coins left over. Adrian freaks out seeing the pittance that remained. Maximum level irritated, Adrian grabs the MC's collar and calls him a con artist. He asks if the guy is ripping him off with that half-baked treatment. Selena steps in and says he did do the treatment. Adrian, surprised, comments that her expertise seemed out of this world indeed. She warns him not to underestimate the side effects of magic. Adrian agrees and says that after her medicine, he feels brand new, and she promises one more prescription. The scene cuts to outside, and Selena, with a mini version of herself on her shoulder, asks if it's cool to let the guy leave just like that. The MC, with his own miniature, asks why. Selena reminds him him that the MC wanted another doctor on the team, and he lets out an ol like someone who had totally forgotten. The scene shows Adrian walking away, and Selena's thoughts say the blonde guy isn't bad at the job and seems to have good professional chemistry with her. The MC, hugging a bag of money, admits there's some truth to that, but for now he's cool, and the story concludes that his greed is at max level. The story begins showing a super chill landscape full of mountains and a sky so blue it hurts your eyes. While a fancy drink is being poured, a text warns that a hunting competition is happening nearby. A man with a respectable mustache, standing near a horse, starts speaking, but you know how it goes. Then we are introduced to Prince Theo Asheronis Elvania, third in line for the throne, and he thinks to himself that he should have already caught that Monosaros guy. Sitting in a chair in the middle of nowhere, Theo asks Baron Doyle whatever happened to the plan. The Baron, bowing in fear, replies that he is very sorry. Baron Doyle, sweating bullets, explains he is hunting for an opportunity, but the hospital is always packed with people. Taking a sip of his drink, Theo comments that waiting for the place to empty out is a tactic for losers. He continues, saying an elite method would be making them bring what he wants with pride in front of the whole audience. Baron Doyle drops to all fours on the ground and starts barking, screaming that the prince is a genius and that he was a fool. Theo, looking serious, comments that his brothers, the first and second princes, are acting very strange lately, while the Baron keeps barking like a mad dog. The image shows the shadows of Theo's brothers in the Monosaros, and he declares that to wipe out those rebels, he needs the beast's power. Glancing sideways at the Baron, Theo keeps it real, saying that if he doesn't become king, the Baron is going down hard too. Out of nowhere, a guy in a suit appears and screams for Baron Doyle to shut that thing's mouth, and while a grey wolf barks nonstop, the Baron begs for forgiveness desperately. Prince Theo, already out of patience, hears the Baron explain it's the beast's feeding time, and that it's a wolf, not a dog. Irritated, Theo yells at the wolf, Magma, that that's enough sweet potato for today. One of the servants tries to calm this Magma down with a cucumber, asking him to be a good boy, but the wolf looks at the veggie with total disdain. Another servant with a tray full of grains tries to negotiate with the beast, promising an apple for later. While Baron Doyle stammers, promising to fix everything on the fly, the wolf Magma makes a sudden lunge. Magma runs over the servant with the tray, sending food flying everywhere. The poor guy screams in fright and someone yells the wolf's name. Totally in shock and covered in chickpeas from head to toe, Prince Theo can only scream for his precious beans. On the ground, next to the knocked out servant, the wolf Magma starts chowing down on the scattered chickpeas, happy as can be. With a murderous aura, Theo calls for Baron Doyle. The Baron bows, asking for 1,000 pardons and promising to pay 10 times more, but the prince, absolutely pissed, tells him to get out of his sight right now, and the Baron leaves screaming, "Your Highness." The scene changes to the front of the clinic, where Pio announces all proud that Fenrir's surgery was a success. The MC explains that the danger is when the animals wake up from anesthesia, so keep an eye on Fenrir, and we see the white beast sleeping with a cone on his head. A gentleman with white hair cries over the sleepy Fenrir, lamenting that his baby is now a eunuch, and a notice says to come back next week to remove the stitches. With a smile of a job well done, the MC calls the next in line. A girl with dark hair, Turney, appears with a cage and a white bird inside, and the MC comments that she's back there already. The MC, in a cute little chibi version, asks Turn what the deal is with Poof this time. Turn starts right off explaining that's not Poof, but his little brother, Cheap. She drops the info that it's no surprise he isn't clinging to her, since lately the little guy just wants to sleep and cough like a chain smoker. So, the MC gives Cheap a once-over and comments that it looks like a nasty cold. He also notices the critter has some muscle weakness, like someone who skipped leg day at the gym. The MC prescribes the meds, telling her to give it once a day and fill his tank with warm water and dissolved brown sugar. Turn thanks him and says she got the message. But the next day, Turn comes back with the face of defeat and tells Dr. Ojin there's been zero improvement, and to complete the combo of misery, her dog got sick too, so she brought the whole petting zoo along. Seeing this, the MC smells something fishy when he notices the symptoms are identical. He wonders how on earth a dog and a chicken can have the same disease. The MC quickly cracks the case that the disease seems contagious and suggests admitting both to keep the virus from partying on the others. Both agree it's better safe than sorry. However, the next day, things go from bad to worse. Turn shows up crying a river and says all her animals caught the bug. With that, the MC's jaw drops, wondering how this turned into an apocalypse in just one day. He finds it weird that even animals from different neighborhoods got infected. With a serious expression of someone realizing they're screwed, the MC stops to think and seems to have a revelation about what's going down. The image shows the clinic has turned into chaos with most patients showing the same symptoms, and the MC finally realizes this isn't just any cold, but a heavy-duty infectious outbreak. Outside the clinic, a voice on a megaphone shouts a warning for all pet owners to cover their noses and mouths, disaster movie style. The warning continues, telling folks not to touch anything with dirty hands and begging everyone to please wear gloves. A staff member, fully geared up in a mask and gloves, tries to organize the mess, shouting that animals with cold and lethargy symptoms go to the second floor, while the rest of Noah's Ark stays on the first. The scene focuses on a medical tray that looks like a war zone, with scissors, tweezers, and used bandages everywhere, proving the workload is insane. Inside a cage, a white bird looks like it's on its last legs, and a balloon explains that the symptoms aren't severe, but they're annoying. The MC, properly masked up, comments that the real problem is nothing is working, not even prayers or meds, and they don't know if it's going to get worse. Selena, also protected to the teeth, adds that another issue is the fact that the disease is hitting everyone without picking a species. The MC says that at this frantic pace, the disease is gonna dominate the world in no time, and Selena thinks that line was worthy of a horror movie. A few days later, the MC appears at the clinic door with a desperate zombie crowd in front. He thinks he jinxed the situation, while people scream for help for their pets. The MC, looking like he hasn't slept in a week, tells the crowd he's sorry, but the clinic is more packed than the subway at rush hour, and asks them to find another spot. People go nuts, and a woman screams that all the other hospitals have already closed their doors due to overcrowding. Seeing the general panic, the MC thinks the situation is critical, and in the background, someone keeps screaming for a doctor like there's no tomorrow. Suddenly, a man appears pushing a cart with a rabbit that looks pumped full of steroids and tells them to look at his Elizabeth, and the MC almost falls over recognizing the Lord there. The MC approaches and wonders how an animal that lives locked in a mansion caught a street disease. He then asks the owner if he decided to take the bunny for a walk, but the man denies it instantly, saying he's been playing house with her forever. The owner explains that Elizabeth was bored, so he got a friend for her, and it was that friend who brought the plague, while the giant rabbit looks nauseous and a small turtle takes a nap on her belly. With a shocked face, MC repeats in his thoughts, "A turtle. Seriously." The MC turns to the owner and says he's sorry, but there's no way to examine the rabbit right now, and the man, ticked off, yells asking what's up with this neglect. He explains the hospital is packed like sardines, and the owner, realizing the gravity, asks if the problem is just space. The Lord then turns to the butler and asks, totally casually, which building he owns nearby, and the butler replies there are two right in the back alley. The butler pulls out a map and points out that, by a miracle of the script, one of them is vacant, and the Lord is impressed by his own luck. With the map in hand, the Lord shows off, saying he thought he was just rich but turns out he's a real estate mogul, and, in I'm rich and I can gesture, offers to lend the building for the MC to use. The Lord, all smiles, asks the MC, who is blushing and surrounded by hearts of gratitude, if he wants to be adopted, but the MC cuts the mood with a dry note. The story explains that, thanks to this mess, they opened a temporary annex for the clinic, and the new door even has a rabbit ornament, because aesthetics are everything. The MC appears all happy and relieved, thinking he solved life, but a giant balloon screams that the piece didn't last long. An infographic shows the new structure main building annex, and the drug development team in a corner, while the MC looks wrecked, having to tank patients from both buildings alone. The MC, clenching his fist in anger, wonders how he's gonna cope. He thinks about his doctor title, and concludes they need another doctor like yesterday. The scene cuts to a huge, empty hospital, looking like a ghost town, and Adrian, looking out the window, comments that business is zero and wonders why. A gentleman with long hair drops the truth bomb, that they didn't have many clients anyway, and since Adrian keeps disappearing, even the few loyal ones gave up. Adrian, lounging in the chair like he owns the place, immediately blames Kim Oh-jin. The gentleman tries to explain, but the blonde guy cuts him off, believing everything is that bastard MC's fault. The gentleman then reveals the real reason, says there's a nasty epidemic in the city and suspects they'll be asking for help soon. With a smile of someone who's going to love watching the world burn, Adrian mocks, saying seeing the arrogant guy begging for help will be fun. Just then, a woman enters announcing mail arrived from Kim Oh-jin, and the long-haired gentleman is surprised by the perfect timing. Adrian, all excited, tells the gentleman to read it out loud. He wants to savor every word of humiliation in the request for help. The gentleman starts reading Adrian. Listen up, I tried my hardest not to call you, but I'm up a creek without a paddle. The letter continues saying he had no choice but to call, and for him not to get a big head about it, because the MC is annoyed too, and he even throws some shade saying Adrian doesn't have patience anyway. The letter follows with the orders, bring everything you have in terms of meds and equipment, and regarding payment, says maybe he'll pay some pocket change per hour, and if he deserves it, there's a bonus. Adrian gets pissed, crumples the letter, and yells that's no way to ask a favor. He threatens to set fire to the paper, but the gentleman calmly warns there's a postscript. The last page of the letter has just one killer sentence: P.S. Selena is suffering from overwork, the perfect low blow. The scene changes and we see Adrian packed, announcing he's disappearing for a while, and the gentleman asks how long this adventure will last. Adrian turns with an anime protagonist smile and replies he's staying until he wins this war against the disease. He finishes with a catchphrase, saying a doctor's place is where the disease is, and the gentleman just nods in agreement. A title announces the first epidemic in another world, and in front of the clinic, someone prepares to lay down the ground rules. Payo, looking like an astronaut with so much protection, teaches social distancing to the animals, asks to isolate anyone coughing, and for nobody to leave the house. Turn, also armored up, takes notes while interrogating a pet owner about when the cough started. Adrian, with a pigeon on his head and another in his hand, examines the bird and says the throat is bad, but it's not the epidemic, and the story warns the poor guy has been at this for 12 hours straight. In another room, Selena tests meds on numbered plants as if she's in a mad scientist's lab, and the text reveals she's been up for 26 hours. The MC gives a shot to a bunny, using a baby voice saying it'll be quick. The story informs he's already been grinding for 18 hours, and the whole team is turning into zombies from exhaustion. A fluffy white dog appears, and someone recognizes him as Max. A note in the corner tells us to go read chapter 4, if we don't remember. The MC examines Max, who licks his hand affectionately, and the doctor realizes with a heavy heart that the little guy caught the plague too. A long-haired gentleman appears with Max and another dog, saying there are 2 more in the package. He explains he ended up babysitting the hunting dogs, and someone is shocked that the number of sick patients just keeps going up. The 2 dogs are introduced: Silva, a smart Draco female, and Mir, a shy shaman male. The gentleman explains they were the stars of the upcoming competition. Looking like he ate something something sour, the gentleman laments that the competition is coming up and now he has this epidemic pickle to solve. Turn warns the MC that the infirmary is more packed than a stadium at the finals, but he, being stubborn, says they'll find a way to squeeze more people in. The MC continues, saying they're chasing the cure, asks the gentleman to have patience because they're going to work a miracle. The gentleman bows and thanks him very politely. The scene shows various sick animals in cages, and someone questions how much longer they can accept patients if not even an ant could fit anymore. Adrian, running on fumes, complains they passed the limit of being human a long time ago. Meanwhile, the MC focuses on a sick dog and takes notes, thinking they have to try no matter what. Pio arrives with the meds and warns there's an owner wanting to take their pet away, thinking this is a vacation. A dog caused badly, and Pio explains that owners think a little cuff doesn't ruin life. The MC, serious, replies that might work for humans who can figure it out, but you can't send animals home in this state. A dog in a cage serves as an example for reflection. What happens if Mr. Schwain's hunting dogs become useless? Adrian comments that throwing an animal away when it breaks is more common than it seems, and Pio is shocked by the cruelty. Adrian says Mr. Schwain seems like a good guy, but you can't trust the nature of other owners. Selena agrees, saying that goes for any animal, not just the hunting ones. Looking at the cages, someone reflects that prolonged illness becomes a burden to the owners, and concludes that lives that can't speak are discarded too easily. The scene changes to the clinic at night, with lights on showing the shift is eternal. Vials glow with a mystical blue light, and the MC thinks he tried to create a magic antibiotic with dragon power. But, sitting at the desk defeated, the MC laments that the experiments all failed, concludes that power doesn't solve everything in life. Selena appears scolding him, warning that using too much power is going to fry his heart. With an angry mom look, Selena says haste makes waste. She continues, saying this disease is more complex than a calculus exam, and in the background, we see the plants that suffered at her hands. The MC, desperate, pulls his hair and wonders if it's a lack of mana again, regrets not taking an online magic course. Totally losing it, considering studying alternative medicine, crystal therapy or whatever, until Selena interrupts asking how long it's been since he slept. He tries to bluff that he's totally fine, but Selena, having zero patience for stubbornness, just smacks him upside the head, sending the MC to dreamland instantly. The MC passes out on the bed drooling, and Selena concludes that, at this rate, she doesn't even need magic to knock him out. 5 hours later, the MC wakes up in a fright, screaming and not even knowing his own name. Turner enters with breakfast and asks if Sleeping Beauty is up, invites him to eat so he doesn't starve. The MC is amazed by the dish worthy of a 5-star hotel, thanks her and praises the fried egg, saying it's delicious. Turner, all happy, reveals Poof laid that egg this morning. She explains it's not fertilized, but it's a nutrient bomb. After eating, the MC stops with the spoon in his mouth and asks where Poof went. Turn replies that Poof stayed home, and the MC, curious, wants to know why. With a sheepish smile, Turn explains it's because Poof, miraculously, didn't catch the epidemic. The MC is shocked and asks if only Poof survived in the whole house, and Turn confirms, thinking the critter has an iron constitution. All smiles, she adds that Seonja is also bulletproof against the disease. It hits the MC like a ton of bricks, and he wonders how he was so slow. Seonja is totally fine in the middle of the infection zone. Thinking about Poof and Seonja, the MC tries to find what they have in common: diet, music taste, blood type, or pure luck. Out of ideas, the MC and Adrian stare at each other looking clueless, and the MC even wonders if the secret is their zodiac sign. Suddenly, the scene cuts to Pio trying to break up a UFC fight between Seonja and the mandrake in the pot. She screams for them to stop the beef, because nobody needs more drama. Seonja, with a maniacal glint in her eyes, looks like she just had a light bulb moment, or is simply dying to wreck that mandrake. Seeing this chaotic scene, the MC has a stroke of genius and screams that the answer is right there. Poof also got the same treatment recently, which connects the dots. We see the mandrake spitting on Seonja with gusto, and the MC concludes the secret to the cure is Mandel's spit. The cutting-edge scientific process goes like this: first, they scrape the slobber off Seonja's face and put it on a glass slide. Next, they add an experimental plant that was contaminated with the saliva of an infected patient. The condition for success is simple: if the plant's sad, gray leaves turn green, bingo. And in the blink of an eye, the plant turns bright green, announcing the experiment was an absolute success. Outside the clinic, the party begins. They finally managed to create a cure for this annoying epidemic. The MC, Adrian, and Pio are crying tears of joy, hugging the mandrake's pot and screaming that Mandel is the king of the garden. With the mandrake acting like he's the best thing since sliced bread, the team discusses the next step. The problem is mass production. They suggest squeezing the poor guy dry, but that'd be inhuman, so they decide to dilute the saliva in water. Selena starts preparing the special drink, but worries if adding water will ruin the potency of the cure. Someone asks what Selena's been up to, while we see her shaking a metal cup like a pro bartender. The mandrake in the pot, sweating bullets, eyes a cup with a straw being placed in front of him suspiciously. One of the characters smells the liquid in the cup with that twisted face you make when you find sour milk in the fridge. To the shock of the nation, the mandrake grabs the straw and chugs the liquid with a little floating heart, and someone questions if he's actually enjoying that stuff. Selena, analyzing the situation, comments that he's drinking with impressive enthusiasm. Just then, a hand holds one of the mandrake's leaves and a yellow drop drips from the tip, drawing a surprised sound. The hand squeezes the leaf and a stream of yellow liquid shoots out like an open faucet, generating a chorus of wow. The MC, grinning from ear to ear, holds a cup full of the liquid gold, impressed by the critter's productivity. He turns to Selena and asks what on earth she gave Mandel to drink to get that result. Selena, with the ultimate poker face, explains she mixed sugar water, which which Mando loves, and the nutrient solution for cultivating herbs. And to top it all off, she added a potent diuretic. The MC and Adrian look at the liquid with fear, and the MC feels his stomach turn just imagining it. Trying to fool himself, the MC says it's medicine and it's all good. After all, Mandel is a plant, and he starts preparing the medication. The next day, the clinic wakes up bathed in sunlight. With that we made it vibe. Pio, beaming, celebrates that Max's coughing stopped and his strength is back, and the puppy appears smiling with his tongue out, good as new. The MC watches the scene with a subtle smile, satisfied with a job well done. He then hugs Max, praising the doggo for hanging in there and thanking him. The MC thinks a huge weight has been lifted off his shoulders. Outside, the piece ends when a voice announces it's just gonna be a quick little prick. A giant duck screams in despair while the MC, smiling like a benevolent maniac, gives the injection saying it's already over. Pio asks if that was the last one, and the MC, holding the syringe, confirms yes, the manual labor is done. With a quill in hand, the MC prepares for the boring part, bureaucracy, saying now it's time to prescribe the dosages. Out of nowhere, someone almost knocks the door down with a punch, making an infernal noise, and a voice shouts for Kim Oh-jin to come out right now. Right after, Baron Doyle appears with a henchman, full of attitude, announcing they came to take the MC to the slammer. With a crash, the clinic door hits the floor, and someone yells the MC's name in anger. Inside, everyone gets spooked by the invasion, and a woman questions the mess while Kim Oh-jin's name echoes again. The MC appears with a mocking smile and quips that the dear doctors are back. He asks what they want this time. Baron Doyle knows in the air, says it's been a while, feigning politeness. He points a finger in the MC's face and announces his arrest for spreading the epidemic on purpose and stealing money with unfair fees. The MC, calm as a cucumber, asks where they got that absurd idea, and the Baron, already losing it, yells at him to stop playing dumb. He accuses the MC of confessing that Seonja, called the messenger of bad vibes, would spread the disease. The MC, hand on his face, lets out that sigh of someone who has zero patience for stupid people. He recalls the scene where he was tied up and, in a desperate attempt to survive, admits he did say something like that. Holding Seonja, the MC explains it was just nonsense talk and that the treatment worked. He even shows that the mark on the cat's forehead is gone. The MC, already annoyed, asks why he'd go through all that trouble for nothing, and the Baron snaps back that it was to line his pockets with cash. Baron Doyle, out of patience for debates, orders his men to arrest the MC and says they'll investigate later, leaving Adrian, Selena, and Pio shocked. With a soap opera villain face, the Baron continues, saying that to guarantee evidence and avoid repeats. He points to Seonja and says they're taking the cat too, and the kitty and the mandrake are totally lost in the conversation. The MC finally connects the dots. He realizes the real target was always Seonja and the epidemic was just a lame excuse. The scene shows the Baron and his squad armed to the teeth, and the MC concludes they planned this from the very beginning. Pio, outraged, clenches her fists and screams that Dr. Oh-jin would never do something so dirty. The Baron turns to her and yells that she's blinded by money, calling the girl a brat and threatening anyone who dares to stand up to him. Pio doesn't back down to the Baron and keeps defending the MC, asking if he has any idea of the doctor's effort. But someone tells her to shut her mouth. The MC, with a zen smile, says it's okay, and Pio, surprised, whispers his name. The MC tells Pio not to waste her breath and that he'll turn himself in, but Adrian and Pio panic, screaming for him. With Seonja by his side, the MC agrees to go, but asks to sedate the cat first, feigning concern. The Baron says there's no need for that fuss because they brought an iron net, and someone in the background yells a shock, no way. The MC, with a sly smile, reminds the Baron that Seonja isn't exactly a lap cat. He argues that if she gets hurt, it's gonna be bad for everyone, and the Baron reluctantly tells him to just sedate the beast. The MC turns to Selena and asks for the sedative, winking mentally. He whispers to Selena that on his signal, she knows the drill and that he trusts her. Selena, radiating a murderous aura, clenches her fist and says she was born ready. The MC, sweating bullets, tries to correct the course mentally, saying it wasn't about punching anyone, but using magic to flee with Seonja. Selena, with that bored look, finally gets the message, and the MC gets stressed seeing she's sad about not being able to beat anyone up. Seonja appears sleeping on the table, while the mandrake in the pot warns that the show is ready. The MC picks up the cage with Seonja and, with a smile, sets the stage for the escape plan. Suddenly, a bright light explodes, blinding everyone, and the MC screams about the light while the extras complain about the pain in their eyes. The MC yells to Selena that the time is now and asks her to use flight magic. But, defying expectations, Selena lands a punch on the MC's face, and he's shocked, doesn't understand why she chose physical violence. Selena then starts handing out beatings to the Baron's henchmen, while the MC screams in despair that this wasn't what he agreed on. As Selena flees, the henchmen laid out on the floor warn that they're escaping. Baron Doyle, foaming with rage, orders his men to go after them and reveals the cat is worth more than the MC. In a cute chibi version, the MC comments that the Baron's mask slipped off pretty quick. The MC stares down the Baron, who calls him every name in the book and swears revenge. One of the henchmen suggests smashing up the clinic, and the other one agrees excitedly. Pio jumps in front of them and yells for them to stop this madness. With impressive courage, she faces the big guys, saying this is a place of healing, and she won't forgive anyone who trashes the hospital. The henchman, laughing at her face, says she's asking for a beating. Adrian appears out of nowhere, stepping in front of Pio, and orders the guy to stop right now. With a gloomy aura, Adrian warns that if they lay a finger on her, things are gonna get ugly, and the henchman, shaking in his boots, asks if he's a noble. The MC, in the small version, complains that Adrian could have acted sooner to avoid the drama. Baron Doyle, seeing there are too many witnesses, orders a retreat and commands them to take only Kim Oh-jin. Pio screams for the doctor while he's being dragged away, but the MC smiles smiles and calms her down, promising to be back soon. He asks Pio and Adrian to hold down the fort while he takes a little vacation in prison. With a serious look, he leaves the mission of protecting Seonja in Selena's hands. The scene cuts to Selena, already far away, carrying the cage with the cat safe and sound. Two gossips on the street comment if they heard the rumors about the animal epidemic. The other responds, shocked, that they say it was that charlatan doctor's fault. The first one asks if it's the same doctor who fought the demon, and the other confirms that people have short memories. A third one, in a blue hood, comments there's going to be a public trial, and the other thinks that's great. A citizen says he wanted to see the scoundrel's face, but it cuts to the MC sleeping like an angel in the cell, finally catching up on accumulated sleep. A wolf barks stressfully, and a voice wakes the MC up by yelling, asking if he has no sense of danger. The MC wakes up looking rough, understanding nothing, and lets out a sleepy huff. Baron Doyle and his henchmen demand to know where the cat and the elf are, and the MC, yawning, says he knows nothing, relieved they got away. The Baron, with a nasty smile, asks if the MC wants to taste a little pain to refresh his memory. He says his boys are bored, and two giant wolves appear growling, ready to attack. Someone asks not to scare the prisoner too much, or he'll have a heart attack before speaking. The MC recognizes one of the wolves as Magma, but notices the animal is acting weird, shaking like a leaf. Analyzing the animal, the MC comments it looks like a tummy ache and asks if the wolf has any weird symptoms. The Baron, kinda thrown off, confirms the MC guessed right and says the wolf hasn't been well since earlier. The MC cuts to the chase and asks him to be specific about the problem. Then the Baron explains the beast is slower than dial-up internet and peeing blood. Hearing that, the MC gets serious and says he needs to examine the wolf right now. Caught off guard, the Baron curses, calling him a scumbag. The MC gets close to the wolf, asking for permission and trying to calm the beast down, but the animal growls, full of suspicion. With just one quick touch, the MC clocks the problem immediately and yells out that it's a hernia. He chews the Baron out, saying it's serious and asking how he let things get this bad without noticing. With urgency, the MC warns they need to go under the knife and operate immediately. He warns that Magma might kick the bucket if they don't act fast, leaving the Baron and his henchmen in shock at the news. We see a giant castle at night with the full moon lighting up everything. A hooded figure is staking out the place, watching the castle from afar in the bushes. Seonja bares her teeth and growls softly, but the mysterious figure asks her to chill out. The figure reveals herself to be Selena, who, with Seonja in her arms, confirms that Oh-jin is still in one piece. The MC's voice echoes in the night, ordering them to take Magma to a clean room right now. He also asks for tools and medicine because the surgery is about to start. Baron Doyle, along with two henchmen, confirms the anesthesia kicked in and says the next step is disinfection. In the middle of the tension, the MC asks for scalpel number 3 and an assistant hands it over instantly. Right after, he asks for the forceps, and another helper already has it ready. One of the Baron's men asks the boss to put on a gown. Doyle thinks it looks like a maid outfit, but the guy explains it was the MC's order to avoid infection. The MC, locked in surgeon mode, orders them to check Magma's temperature, and they confirm it's normal. Then he orders more anesthetic prepared for 5 minutes from now. While Magma the wolf takes a forced nap on the table, the MC asks them to sterilize the used forceps, and the team confirms. Baron Doyle watches everything with his heart in his throat, thinking about his precious little wolf, Magma. Suddenly, a breeze enters the room, and the MC, pissed off, screams for them to close the door right now because wind brings in dirt. With a bang, the surgery room door is slammed shut. Outside, two men are gossiping. One doubts if they can trust Kim Oh-jin, while the other thinks the MC must hate their guts. A third, older man joins the conversation saying he's never heard of this hernia thing. The other agrees, thinking this story about intestines coming out is crazy talk, but a firm voice cuts them off saying no. The man turns around and bumps into the Baron, getting surprised, but Doyle just stands there in dramatic silence. The Baron looks at a painting and drops the bomb that Magma's mom bit the dust with the same symptoms, leaving the two henchmen with their jaws on the floor. With a sad look, Doyle wonders if the poor girl suffered from the same disease. The image focuses on the female wolf's portrait, and the Baron thinks of her fondly, remembering her name was Angela. Out of nowhere, we see a table buried in scrolls. The Baron asks what that mess is, and the assistant says they are petitions. The assistant hands over more paperwork and explains that all of that is people asking to free Kim Oh-jin, and the Baron lets out a scream in disbelief. The assistant highlights a letter from Lady Marianne Astrid, and the Baron, shocked, asks if it's from that feisty young girl from the Astrid family. The letter says she's gonna snitch on them to the king for false accusations if they don't release the MC, and in the background, a furious Marianne appears. Baron Doyle, looking grim, says he won't accept this, while the bald guy in the apron just lets out an "oh" like someone who doesn't want to get involved. Suddenly, the door opens and the Baron runs down the hallway like a madman, screaming Magma's name. In the room, Magma the wolf is resting with a bandage and that cunt of shame. A voice announces the surgery was a total success, and he just needs meds for 1 week. The Baron hugs the beast in relief, calling him my baby, while Magma stares at him looking completely confused. Doyle then turns his face and looks at another person in the room. The MC appears passed out on the sofa in a deep sleep, and someone comments that he hadn't slept for days because of the epidemic. The Baron, seeing the MC snoring, says they're taking him back to prison right now. The MC, still sleeping, lets out a groan of pain, seeming uncomfortable. Baron Doyle, thoughtful, decides not to put the handcuffs back on him, and the subordinate agrees, getting the hint. The night goes on peacefully, with the full moon shining through the clouds. The MC, now in a decent bed, mumbles in his sleep. In the dream, the MC wonders where he is. He hears his parents and realizes he's in his old house, figuring out out it's all a dream. He hears his dad commenting that Oh Jin's hospital is having trouble again. His dad sighs, remembering he told him to go into human medicine, but the stubborn kid wanted to be a vet even if it ruined him, questioning what's the fun in cleaning up animal mess all his life. Out of nowhere, in the middle of the dream, a giant paw steps on the grass, and the MC wonders who's there. The mysterious creature takes another step, approaching slowly. The beast shows its face, and the MC, confused, doesn't know if it's a cat or a lion. The giant animal starts licking the MC's face, who wonders if it's an old patient. The MC, lying on the grass, hugs the furry creature and thinks it's warm, finding the feeling just too good. The scene cuts abruptly to a silver-haired guy screaming, absolutely fuming, asking how they lost the Monoceros. Kneeling, a man reports that the item was delivered to the Etherian Order, and even he seems surprised by the info. The silver-haired man, going ballistic, asks what the hell he is talking about. The subordinate explains that the elf girl, who was with Kim Oh-jin, was an agent of the Etherian Order. The scene shows Selena hooded in the bushes, and there's a report of her meeting a suspicious group of elves. The platinum noble gets shocked and, full of rage, curses the whole situation. He screams at the subordinate, calling the guy useless, and the man, still on the floor, apologizes profusely. The subordinate, kind of awkward, asks if they can release Kim Oh-jin now, and the noble replies with a dry what. The noble explains that they are in hot water because of the complaints. He says even the commoners are making noise, and after thinking a bit, orders the guy to do whatever he thinks is best. In front of a huge castle, the MC instructs someone to bring magma in 3 days to remove the stitches. A bearded man hands a paper to the MC, who asks them to follow the instructions to the letter, and the man thanks him. A bald guy says they'll bring Pippin soon and asks the MC to take care of him. The MC remembers it's the hunting dog with a bad knee and tells them to bring him over. The bearded man says goodbye, and the MC thanks him, but suddenly, the bald guy shouts warning that he is coming. The MC turns his head surprised to see who is arriving. A crowd of people and animals, including Pio and Mr. Schwain, runs toward the MC screaming his name, leaving the guy shocked. With the mandrake on his head and a critter in his lap, the MC cracks a smile and asks what all these folks are doing there, while Pio spoils the white feathered animal. A woman with a giant fluffy creature says they were waiting for him to get out, and the MC is surprised by the crew's loyalty. Mr. Schwain smiles and jokes that if he took any longer, they were gonna storm the castle, and the MC recognizes him instantly. The MC moved, looks at everyone and thanks them for the love. Suddenly, the mandrake jumps off his head, and the MC screams in fright, cringing away. Seonja appears out of nowhere licking the MC's face, who shouts her name, happy as can be. The MC, relieved, calls for Selena and sees she's safe. The girl in a hood confirms everything is okay. Holding Seonja, the MC comments to the kitty that he saw someone just like her in yesterday's dream. Pio, smiling, asks if he is really talking about a dream. The MC chill confirms he is. Surrounded by animal friends, the MC continues, saying it was a dream where he was sure becoming a vet was the best choice. While the gang walks away, one of the Baron's men asks if they're just gonna let the kid go that easily. Baron Doyle stays quiet, and the subordinate insists, reminding him that the Baron also saw the thing that day. The scene goes back to the moment in the cell, with the MC sleeping and a black creature on top of him. The man is referring to that bizarre thing. The Baron and the helper appear peeking through the bars, looking like they've seen a ghost. The creature gets up, showing a horn on its forehead, and the man confirms the thing definitely wasn't normal. In the blink of an eye, the beast vanished in a flash, leaving the MC alone, and the man remembers it was all very fast. The subordinate continues, saying that wasn't a common animal and worrying about letting it escape. Baron Doyle turns around and, playing dumb, says he has no idea what he's talking about. The subordinate gets confused and asks what the thing in Kim Oh-jin's cell was. With his back turned, the Baron states they didn't see anything, and the man, embarrassed, apologizes. With a little smirk, the Baron thinks Kim Oh-jin won this round. Baron Doyle is foaming at the mouth looking at the surgery bill, wondering what kind of highway robbery this is. While the MC smiles, the Baron's voice echoes, calling him a scumbag and saying he won't forgive this hit to his wallet. In front of the clinic, a male voice shouts a super enthusiastic good morning to Selena. The MC, chibi version and looking mad, wonders why that pest is there again. Adrian appears with a toothpaste commercial smile, holding a box and saying he brought the herbs she wanted. Selena, hiding in her hood, thinks those herbs must be hard to find this time of year. Playing the heartthrob, Adrian says he can get anything for her and that her wish is his command. Wasting no time, Selena hands him a giant list and tells him to fetch the rest, and Adrian agrees instantly. With a little critter on her shoulder, Selena opens the box and checks the herbs, identifying several rare plants. Adrian grabs a packet to show off, but the critter jumps and steals it from his hand. The little animal climbs the shelf to eat the herb, and Adrian, desperate, screams that it's expensive medicine, not food. Unfazed, the critter spits something right in Adrian's face, who screams in disgust. Not satisfied, the critter throws itself and hits Adrian's face dead on. With a mark on his face, Adrian, totally salty, thinks about that saying that pets look like their owners and figures that, just as expected, every creature the MC raises has a weak temper. Selena, with the critter back on her shoulder, keeps it real, saying Bloop is her baby, and that it's no surprise he's got such a good eye for herbs. Bloop, with a cheeky little smirk, looks like he thinks he's the big cheese after what he did. Adrian, still kind of frozen in shock, looks at the little guy and wonders if that blob of jelly really just smiled at him. Wasting no time, Selena tosses Bloop into a cage, ordering him to get in. We see a leaf being dragged slowly across the floor. The little guy, lying there totally chill, introduces himself. He says his name is Ping Ping, and that he is Bloop, a sacred and special being, full of himself. In that place where hundreds of animals pass through every day, there are two big bosses who run the show. With a red moon in the background, the image shows of Ping Ping, declaring himself one of the power players. He says the herb room on the second floor is his turf, and the other heavy hitter is Kim Seonja. We see Seonja in the mist, eyes glowing. She's the MC's right-hand woman and the top authority in that hospital. Ping Ping shows up with a leaf in his mouth, acting like a tough guy. With Ping Ping in front of her, Seonja looks intimidating, for sure. The cat could crush him with brute force, but no matter how strong she is, she can't just mess with him however she wants. The reason for all this fear is revealed when Ping Ping's forehead glows. It's because of the division core he has, a biological ticking time bomb. The little guy then multiplies into a cloud of copies of himself. If anyone ticks him off, the beast turns into a plague and causes total chaos. A scene from the past shows Seonja attacking Ping Ping. When they met, the cat sensed the danger on instinct and went for it without thinking twice. Little Ping Ping then multiplies into 3, making the animal shake with fear. He says he showed off his power right away to make it clear who's in charge. With the full moon in the sky, Selena watches the horizon. Ping Ping explains that after that, he was taken in by Selena, the real boss lady there, and started living the good life as an authority figure alongside Kim Seonja. Back in the present, in front of the clinic, someone screams desperately for help. A woman runs in with a baby deer in her arms. She screams that her baby was hit by a carriage and stopped breathing. Pio and Adrian watch the scene, worried. The girl wonders if they arrived too late, while Adrian whispers about them bringing in a baby that's already a goner. The MC examines the little one and says the airways are clear. He then asks Pio to track the time and give a heads up every minute. The MC starts performing CPR on the little animal. He then does mouth to mouth on the fawn, trying to bring it back. The owner, totally confused, asks what he's doing, while Pio, holding an hourglass, warns that 1 minute is up. Out of nowhere, the fawn lets out a breath, and the owner almost passes out from shock. The MC, sweating bullets, checks the animal's pulse. He announces, relieved, that the breathing and pulse are back, while the fawn starts moving. Adrian and Pio's jaws hit the floor. Adrian says he's taking them to the exam room right now. Ping Ping, watching everything from top of a barrel, thinks about the fact that they are bringing the dead back to life. The story focuses on the MC, and Ping Ping's thought continues. Admitting that this Kim O-jin guy is actually legit, the MC asks to borrow a leaf for his mandrake Mandel, and Ping Ping concludes that now he understands why Selena picked him as a subordinate. Ping Ping remembers another figure. He thinks he had forgotten about that despicable creature named Kim Mandel, Kim Seonja's lackey, while Mandel, surrounded by flowers, makes a cute little noise. Mandel, with a little heart floating above him, begs them to take just 1 leaf. The story explains that he is a medicinal plant grown there with a lot of pampering. Ping Ping, with a mocking smile, thinks it's funny to see that plant making such a pathetic drama. Suddenly, Mandel snaps his head around, with a look like he didn't appreciate the mockery at all. Ping Ping provokes him, asking if he's staring, and Mandel keeps looking straight at him. Ping Ping asks what he's gonna do if he keeps staring, and even calls him an insignificant plant just to humiliate him. Night falls with the moon shining in the sky through the trees. Ping Ping is seen doing push-ups on a plant pot, keeping his physique in check. After the workout, he stops and thinks, all proud, that the day's grind is done. He then jumps from one piece of furniture to another, doing his parkour around the room. He lands on a table with style, ready to continue his night patrol. Ping Ping stops in front of a shiny nest. That is his castle, a gift the MC gave as a sign of loyalty. The nest sits high up on a shelf, giving Ping Ping a panoramic view of the hospital. Suddenly, Ping Ping is shocked by the horror scene he sees. His nest is completely destroyed on the floor, looking like a hurricane passed through there. Trembling with rage, Ping Ping wonders which miserable jerk had the guts to do that. Outside the window, he sees a suspicious silhouette and instantly goes into attack mode. It was Kim Mandel, giving a villainous little giggle, and Ping Ping screams his name, seeing red. With a vein popping on his forehead, Ping Ping, furious, wonders how that walking lettuce dared to do it. We go back to the day with the MC and Pio clapping for Mandel, who is walking out of the pot. After taking some supplements, he managed to walk. Hating it, Ping Ping thinks that just because Mandel learned to take a few steps with those skinny legs, he forgot his place. Ping Ping rushes across the floor, determined to set things straight right then and there. With one strike, he hits Mandel square on, but Ping Ping gets thrown back by the impact, letting out a groan of pain because the plant was hard as a rock. Ping Ping thinks that, thanks to the medicinal herbs, not only did Mandel's body grow, but he turned into a tank. Mandel, with a cheeky grin, says his defense has gone up insanely high. With a confident smile, Ping Ping thinks that, no matter how much Mandel worked out, he is still just an insignificant plant at the end of the day. He then jumps from a piece of furniture towards Mandel, whose eyes go wide. Mandel, scared, realizes Ping Ping's dirty play. He understands that if he loses the pot, he's screwed. Ping Ping hits the pot with a kick worthy of a soccer player and threatens Mandel, saying he's gonna dry out completely. The plant pot flies through the air, falling towards the floor. With a loud crash, the pot shatters, scattering dirt everywhere. Mandel, in shock, starts crying desperately. From atop a piece of furniture, Ping Ping says that's the difference in levels between them, and orders the plant to kneel before him. Mandel, angry, turns away, refusing to accept defeat. Ping Ping, cheeks puffed out, thinks he remembers that thing has a dangerous secret weapon. The scene focuses on Mandel, red as a tomato, and here comes an attack capable of bursting eardrums. Ping Ping, terrified, thinks the bomb is coming. He complains that his short little arms can't reach his ears to cover them. Mandel lets out a weak, silent squeak, and Ping Ping, confused, wonders if that was it. Ping Ping realizes the situation. He says Mandel didn't just lose his house, but he lost his voice too. Ping Ping, from up there, mocks him, thinking serves you right, while Mandel, lying on the floor, stays quiet, and a voice asks why there is so much racket. The MC opens the door, rubbing his sleepy eyes, and asks what this mess is. He then sees Mandel on the floor, next to the pot shards. and the MC calls his name with pity. With a fatherly smile, the MC picks little Mandel up and pets him. He says he understands the broken pot drama, while Mandel cries. The MC suddenly stops and has a brilliant idea, letting out an oh snap. Holding Mandel with both hands, the MC smiles and says he knows exactly what to do. A brand new pot appears, and the MC says all excited that it's replanting time. We see Kim Mandel before and after taking some plant whey protein. He grew 1.5 times his original size. With a proud smile, the MC holds the new pot and says he prepared a mansion for him. The image shows the layers of dirt inside the pot. The MC explains that he filled it with top-notch soil. Selena pours two strange liquids into the pot, and the MC adds, saying that to top it off, they put in premium-level organic nutrients. The MC, all hyped, puts Mandel in the new pot and makes a fuss. He congratulates the plant on the new home. Mandel, however, has a look of total boredom, and the MC, confused, asks what's the problem with that lack of energy. The MC tries to cheer up the plant, asking if he didn't like the mansion. He pokes Mandel, asking why he's acting like that. Selena, serious as always, asks Mr. Mandel if he has any complaints to make. Out of nowhere, Selena pulls one of Mandel's leaves, which has a chain attached, and the MC, shocked, screams, asking if she lost her mind. With his hands on his head, the MC complains that his eardrums are gonna explode with the scream that's coming. Mandel, red with rage, opens his mouth to let out that high-pitched scream, but the sound comes out all muffled and hoarse, while the MC keeps his hands over his ears for nothing. Mandel seems to have lost his voice for good. He walked so much outside the pot that he got hoarse. The MC tells Mandel not to be sad. He explains that since they replanted him, his voice should be back real soon. The next day, Mandel shows up all withered and wrinkled in the pot, looking like a raisin. The MC, in total panic, looks at the plant and wonders why it aged 100 years in one day. He says that at this rate, Mandel is gonna croak. Selena, deep in thought, wonders if they missed some fertilizer and thinks about dumping more chemicals, while Mandel looks closer and closer to the end. Pio enters the room and screams, shocked, telling them to stop this madness. Pio scolds the MC, asking how he can be so clueless. She asks if he swapped all the dirt at once. With the MC and Selena in the background looking like deer in headlights, Pio asks if they've never planted anything. We see Mandel surrounded by moisture and soil bugs. Pio explains that the dirt is like blood and flesh to a plant. The illustration changes, showing Mandel suffering rejection. She continues, saying they changed his environment out of nowhere, so obviously his body is rejecting everything. Pio, like an angry mom, says if they waited any longer he'd be toast. The MC on his knees, begs 1,000 apologies and asks what to do, calling Pio the gardening master. Pio squeezes Mandel and says now there's no other way. The plant is gonna have to fight for its life. Pio starts stripping poor Mandel like a Thanksgiving turkey, warning him that all the leaves gotta go to keep the humidity in. The MC is totally shook, while the plant is straight up screaming in pain. Now looking like a bald eagle, Mandel just sits in his pot, soaking in a depressing silence. Pio orders him to be put in a breezy spot and tosses a cloth over him, explaining it's to block out the sun and stop photosynthesis cold. Holding the cloth, the MC tries to be a supportive buddy, telling him he heard what Pio said and that it's for his own good, begging the plant to hang in there for a few days. And just like that, Mandel is left all by his lonesome in a dark room, covered by the cloth. With his vibes totally ruined and feeling wilted, Mandel cries softly to himself. Tears stream down his face as he keeps sobbing, in a scene that would break anyone's heart. Out of nowhere, a shady-looking shadow creeps up on the pot. Mandel, scared out of his mind, lifts his head and sees a pair of eyes glowing in the dark. It's Ping Ping, sporting a mischievous grin, demanding Mandel hand over the goods. Holding a leaf, the little guy tells Mandel to cough it up, or rather, hand over the treasure. Terrified, Mandel reacts with total panic. Ping Ping holds out his paw, insisting the plant hand over what he wants right now. But justice might be slow, yet it never fails. A hand pops out of nowhere and grabs Ping Ping by the head. The MC lifts the critter up and asks who exactly was stealing the medicinal herbs. Ping Ping, still with the leaf in his mouth, turns to the MC. The MC asks if he has any idea how much Mandel's leaves are worth and mentions the little guy is getting way too chubby. The MC panics, trying to hold on to Ping Ping, who decides to take a bite out of him. Seonja arrives and smacks Ping Ping right there in the MC's hand, making the critter yelp in pain. Seonja sends Ping Ping flying through the air. Freaking out, Ping Ping sees his forehead glowing and starts screaming, begging them not to say this is happening again. With Seonja by his side, the MC cries out and screams no, watching the little guy glow. The MC desperately begs for it not to be the division, but the necklace around his neck starts to shine. The necklace emits a super strong light, blinding everything